Welcome to my channel, and before starting the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and hit that notification bell to get to watch the video first. Without further ado, let's get into the video. "And all of this belongs to you?" asked a boy of about 5 years old, looking with interest at the huge map hanging on the wall. He had blue-black hair that stuck out in all directions, his eyes were like his father's sky blue, except the pupil was purple. He had 3 stripes on each cheek. The boy was wearing a black t-shirt and pants of the same color. "Yes," Minato answered, a man of about 30 years old, "but when the time comes all of this will be yours, you will be the leader of the empire." Dad. Question. "How did you create your empire?" Uzumaki Jr. made a mortified face, hoping that this would help him. He wasn't wrong. "It's a long story." Naruto scratched his chin, but when he saw that his son was looking sad he gave in. "I'll tell you from the beginning. 26 years ago it seems, it's all over," said the third Kage as he approached the small bundle where the baby was sleeping. "Don't worry Kusina." The third took the child carefully in his arms. "I'll do it." "Kusina, where is the fox?" The woman pointed to her son. "So now it's a Jinchi." A voice came from behind Uzumaki, "Which means we don't need you anymore." A sword. The Shine woman let out a post-mortem snort and fell dead with her throat slit. "Oh Danzo, you're being as abrupt as always." Sarutobi smiled. She could still be useful. "She's in Uzumaki. You yourself know those things are very difficult to keep obedient." Samura cleaned his kunai. "We need the perfect weapon, right? Without those who can influence the jinchuriki." "You are probably right that way. It will be more reliable." Yusin looked at the infant. "Take out everything that has any value and then burn the house to the ground." "It is a shame that Minato's legacy burned in the fire. Meanwhile, my men will put mental markers on this." Danzo pointed his finger at Naruto. "Okay, come on old friend, don't forget that we still have an auction scheduled for tonight." The Yuga are very interested in the possibility to expand their neighborhood. I think they are going to have their sights set on the Uzumaki neighborhood. Sarutobi smiled. Samura also allowed himself a small smile. 6 years later, office of the cashier. The head of the village was organizing documents, mentally swearing to himself. "Of course it is good, make everyone obey you. You could snap your fingers and make everyone answer to their king. But 12 hours of paperwork every day, that's the job of a secretary, not the village chief, and you're as busy as ever." Samura entered the office without call. Danzo. Sarutobi tried to keep his voice serious, but mentally thanked his old friend. "You're on business." The rude boss's voice was worried. Sitting on the couch he continued, "Our weapons are defective." "What kind of defect?" Yusin tried to keep his voice indifferent, but a note of concern escaped her. The mental tokens had disappeared. The fox had completely burned them. The brat's brains began to return. "You heard about that old woman who was poisoned and everyone?" He thought it had been his neighbor, right? When Danzo nodded he continued, "My men were following Uzumaki. He was the one who organized everything. He used the Aang. He took the form of an old woman. He crushed all his pills and put them in the sugar bowl. He wouldn't have thought of that before. The attempt to restore them had come to nothing. My people could not enter the boy's subconscious." "What do you suggest, my friend?" Sarutobi smoked while meditating on Danzo's words. The markers were so powerful that Naruto could not learn to speak until he was 2 years, and the techniques were going incredibly wrong, and here the Eng had learned and ordered something like that. "It is out of order." Lobotomy personally supervised the operation. Danzo got up from the couch. "I just wanted to tell you the weapons of the village are supposed to be forceful and strong. No retaliation against civilians for beating them up, of course. As soon as this is over, come directly to me." "Of course." Danzo leaned forward, slightly imitating a Bowery headquarters can start. Samura shook his head. "And the doctors immediately put Naruto on the operating table. I hope the instruments are clean." "I should be mute, not dead." "Of course they are clean." Danzo-sama, the doctor answered in a low voice. "And horse, it has been a long time since I have delved into someone's brain. I'm going to drastically reduce his IQ level and drool and be on top for another 10 years. 5-10 is too long for him to be a plant for 5 more years." The doctors laughed at Danzo's words, however the operation ended very quickly. The doctor made an incision in his head and touched one of the chakra channels. A furious flame erupted from the wound. Danzo watched in amazement and incomprehension as the flames burned the man alive. The small room was immediately filled with the smell of meat. "Burned? Put me out, get me out of here." The doctor ran towards each of his colleagues, causing them to burst into flames like matches. The 5 men who were burning alive headed to the head of the route, hoping that Danzo would help them as much as possible. But not in the way the doctors expected. Futon vacuum blades, translucent blades, cut the carotid arteries of each of the doctors. Danzo stared at the handful of ashes, then his gaze fell on the anesthetized Naruto, who was still sleeping. "So Yubi doesn't want to take the easy way? Fine, we'll do it the hard way." Kahe's office. Yusin. Samura almost knocked down the door. "What's going on?" Danzo. Sarutobi leaned back in his chair, smoking a pipe. "The Jinchuriki killed 5 doctors. He wanted to do something to him. Lobotomy and burned them alive." "That bastard." Sarutobi frowned. "It was time to take the fox out of him. It's a shame to lose the last Uzumaki, of course, but Yubi is much more important. I will personally take the fox out of this brat. Let's go." The 2 main schemers of all of The no head addressed towards the operating room where Naruto was. "Where am I?" Uzumaki struggled to open his eyes, however, the boy never got an answer to his question as the Hokage sent him back to the kingdom of Morpheus with a quick blow to the neck. "Let's begin." Sarutobi folded several seals and placed them on Naruto's stomach. "Soon you will meet your parents, just as you dreamed." Danzo just snorted, muttering something like "Stop the pink snot, what's wrong? I don't feel Yubi's presence." Sarutobi stayed looking at the blonde in disbelief, then shifted his gaze towards Danzo. "I don't feel that damn fox. I was a frequent guest at my receiver's house. And I remember very well how Pusina used to feel something like that happened to me when I saw that brat for the first time. But no, I gave it a lot of importance at that time. But now nothing. What do we do with it?" Danzo approached the table and took a scalpel to kill him. Why, the former apprentice of the second Hokage smiled before his thoughts. "Who but us knows that no one is a jinchuriki, and you? I've noticed that our pack has become easier to handle." Everyone knew that Kusina was a jinchi, but who would dare touch Lokage's wife? "Do you want to use it as a lightning bolt and punching bag?" Danzo guessed that. "I like that. I will tell my men. Let them take him to his miserable hut. He will think it's all a dream." "It's a great idea, Danzo. I have some cognac." "We had a drink." "Yes, of course." The next day, Naruto tried to get up, but he fell out of bed. Uzumaki tried to get up again, but it was only on his third attempt. What happened yesterday?" Naruto touched his head and howled in pain. Looking at himself in the mirror, the boy saw a small red stripe. What was that? Where had it come from? Well, it doesn't matter. After getting ready, Naruto went to train. As always, they looked at him on the street. With contempt and hatred, piece of one of the residents threw a rock in the hope of putting out Naruto's eye. However, Uzumaki managed to cover his face with his hand. All the villagers began to throw anything they had on hand. The bottle flew nearby of the boy's head, crashing into the wall behind him. The fragment hit the boy's head, impacting his chakra channel. "Ouch, the bastard is bleeding." The middle-aged man grabbed Naruto by the neck and ripped the fragment out of his head. "No, it hurts, bastard." The flames instantly engulfed the child beater. In a few seconds he had disappeared. The residents watched in horror as the flames came out of the child's wound without sparing anyone. The wooden houses burned like matches and people burned alive, leaving behind only a handful of ashes and a residue of unpleasant memories clinging to his wound. Naruto ran for his life. Naruto, driven by fear, did not notice as he ran towards the old and abandoned shooting range. What was that? Naruto slowly removed his hand from his head. The fire had disappeared and the bleeding had stopped. Uzumaki decided that the wound had healed, and alone now he allowed himself to collapse on the grass and laugh. "I have killed them. I have the power to kill them. I will avenge them for everything. Alone I have to learn to control the Kalma-septine power." Appearing in his hand. But nothing happened. However, the blonde did not calm down. He began to imagine forest fires, lit candles, and the people who had burned today the office of the Sarutobi cashier. Furious, his head ached mercilessly from the drink. The schemers had started with a gift of brandy and had finished with a fifth bottle of takeaway. The third hoped that no one would touch him today, but fate wanted something else. An angry mob of villagers came running to the head of the village, uttering an incomprehensible cry that provoked in the third a single desire: to kill that stupid pack so that they would finally shut up once and for all. Shut up once and for all. Naruto slammed his hand on the table, one by one. Middle-aged man with burnt clothes stepped forward. "Hokage-sama, that demon has burned many people. You must exterminate." The nine tails burned. It was now that the Sandaime remembered what had happened to the doctors, and also the fact that Naruto is not a jinchuriki. Had Bensum sealed the question? Clearly perplexed, the enraged residents did not respond. "The same resident burned outside. Everyone I need to be alone." The villagers did not want to test the Hokage's patience and walked away too in a hurry. "Yes, Hokage-sama." And Ambu appeared in front of Sarutobi. "Find Naruto Uzumaki and inform me at the end of the day." "Yes sir." The girl in the black as a raven's wing left the office in a flash. Sarutobi was left alone, but not for long. 10 minutes later his drinking buddy Usin came in. "What happened?" "My man informed me that the brat has burned people again." "That's right, when you told me about the incident with the doctors, I thought it was Yubi's fault, but it wasn't." The fox and Naruto burned without the seals. "Any idea about that Keigenkai?" Danzo's only eye opened wide. "That seems like we don't have a jinchuriki, but we have someone who controls fire. It's not so bad, except that everyone thinks he's a jinchuriki, and the villagers want to kill him, right? He trusts us and he will burn us to the ground whenever he can." "Yes, that's a problem." Usin has a cigarette. "We will give him a personal teacher. Choose the laziest and laziest, but he must be a fire elemental. Minato's son is just a child. He will bond with his teacher, even if he is the last goat, and so he will bond with the village, and I will have my men spread the rumor that Naruto is not a jinchuriki but the founder of a new Keigenkai. As simple as that. I think it will work later tonight." Hokage-sama, the girl of the tit mask, appeared in front of the village chief and knelt down shapely. "Can you speak in front of Danzo? Don't be shy." "Yes sir." The target stared at his hand all day. At the end of the day, his hand lit up for a few seconds. After that the target lost consciousness. "I took him home Yusin, it seems that you were right, we will win even more than we lost it. You can go. Yes sir. The girl left the office immediately. Yusin, we have our own blonde gold mine. Danzo's only visible eye burned with devilish fire. What do you mean we can have a new clan with a new and strong Kenkai? Imagine laced in the immense chakra of the Uzumaki clan together with the control of fire, and if he chooses a girl with a Kek Jinkai, we would create the strongest clan in history. Sarutobi finished the thought of his friend, smiling. Well, maybe we will win even more than we lost. Hello Naruto, greetings. Sarutobi entering the one-room hut. What do you want, old man? Don't be so negative with me, Naruto. The Hokage tried to smile willingly, but I was too tense. I heard about the recent incident. You've come to take me to the monkey house, the boy asked, realizing that the village chief was not a stupid villager who could barely dodge a stone. No boy, I think you have a new and improved genom. Naruto wasn't stupid, but I didn't know the meaning of the term improved. That means it's better, but what is a genom? I suppose that an improved genom is something that only one person or family has. Naruto, you know what DNA is? Kuzumkai nodded. You're very intelligent for your age, but that's it. It is a good thing. An improved genom is an altered DNA chain. Thanks to Quick Jinkai, a person and their family can do things that others cannot. You are the founder of the new genom. I mean fire control. Thanks to you, there will be a new clan in Konoha that will be able to control this element. Sarutobi tried to put out the devilish flames in his eyes. In other words, I am the only one who can control. The fire scheming idiot, and now suddenly you are so nice. A real politician is not good. It is not necessary. If there is a benefit you have to suck up to him, Uzumaki continued, looking in disbelief at the village chief. Yes, and no Naruto, many shobi have the fire chakra element. They told you about chakra and techniques at the academy, right? I nodded affirmatively. I also have the fire element, but to create a ball of fire I need to form seals. You understand, you are the only one at this moment who can use fire without seals in battle. That is an incredible advantage, old man. You have come to me just to tell me that I can control fire. Naruto, archaeologist himself, a jonin, he will teach you the techniques of fire. Sarutobi was already celebrating the victory. The village chief was really sure that this unexpected and excessive care after so many years of beatings would make Naruto believe him, and there was a middle-aged man with gray hair, whose face was almost completely hidden, entered the room through the window. Sorry I'm late, Okage-sama. A black cat ran across the street looking for a detour. Kakashi looked towards Naruto and gave the boy a disdainful look. There's nothing to worry about. The Hokage smiled. Naruto, would you like to practice with your personal mentor? Why not? Uzumaki decided to play along. Right now he was well aware that no one was going to kill him, but the boy also realized that Kakashi was clearly having a negative attitude towards him. However, this was a good opportunity to learn to control his power. If that one-eyed pervert, as Naruto had nicknamed him, seeing the book in his pocket, could explain a little about the fire element, Naruto could master his power faster. That it's great. Sarutobi smiled. Kakashi, tell him everything you know about chakra control and the chakra element. Yes, Okage-sama. It was obvious that Attack was having a hard time getting those words out of himself. A month later, in the last month, Naruto had realized several things. The people of Ko still hated him, but now they were afraid to come within half a kilometer of him. The Konoha clan leadership was once again up to something. Naruto had overheard part of a conversation about the destruction of one of the Konoha clans. Of all the possible teachers, the Hokage had chosen the worst and most irresponsible for Naruto. The training was just as fruitless. The first day, Attack had only taught him how to walk between the trees, and after that it had lengthened, and Nadi had appeared in 15 days. When the erotic returned, he gave him the task of walking on water, and he left again. Well Naruto, now you know how to walk on trees and water. I guess now is the time to teach you to control your power, said the man of ash hair as he continued reading the book. And how are you going to teach me if you don't have that power? Asked Naruto, arching a defiant eyebrow. I have the fire element, so the only difference between us is that you don't have to bend seals for the technique. I'll show you the fireball attack. Fold the seals with focus your chakra in the abdominal area, then hold a little in the area of the mouth and exhale with those words. Attack made a 3 meters ball explode that burned several training posts. I think it will take you a couple of months to get the hang of it. Attack, he was about to run away when a 5 meters fireball flew by him that was much faster. No, Naruto was clearly proud of himself. Well, you rubbed yourself in various corners of Konoha. I was learning to control my power, however your chakra control training still helped me. Okay, definitely. Kakashi was not happy about not being able to go out early today. After all, today was a very important and meaningful day for him. Exactly a year ago, he bought the second book of the Uchiha series. Then I will show you the phoenix flowers. Today was a real test for Kakashi's nervous system. No matter what technique the attack showed, Naruto instantly repeated it. The chakra control training, the Uzumaki's personal training and fire chakra had done their job. By the end of the afternoon, the blonde had mastered Kakashi's entire arsenal of fire techniques. It seems like you are doing something good after all. Kakashi. Naruto was tired, but satisfied he had become much stronger in just one day. Yes, I have nothing more to teach you, so goodbye. Attack appeared in a cloud of smoke. What an idiot. After Standing for a while longer and catching his breath, Naruto headed home. When only they were missing 10 minutes to get home, Uzumaki, the sobs and laughter of some children on one side. When he strayed from the path, Naruto saw 3 older boys on top of his classmate apologize louder. "You can't hear us," said the fattest and ugliest one of the 3 boys. "Leave her alone." The fat man looked at the blonde. "Who is it? Are you? Get out of here." "I know him," shouted a guy with pale skin and red hair. "He is hated by the whole town and everyone will have the biggest party. When he dies, it's nothing more than a creature can't make us nothing." The whole trio laughed. Naruto threw weak phoenix flowers at the boys' heads. The bullies immediately howled like sacrificed piglets as hair doesn't burn, but only burns. The trio just went bald. The bullies ran away immediately. Obviously they didn't want to mess with him anymore. "The devil, are you okay?" Naruto extended his hand to his classmate whose name he had forgotten, and to be honest he didn't even remember it. He didn't care about his classmates. "Yes, thank you, Naruto-kun," said the girl between sobs. "Accepting the help. You are not afraid of me?" "No thanks again, see you later." Hinata hurried back home 2 years later. Rank number 17A. Naruto turned to the voice. Uzumaki was about to burn the insolent man who had dared to interrupt his training, but upon seeing the insolent man he fell into a stupor. "Why is it what you want?" asked the blonde who had forgotten his classmate's name, but remembered that the girls at the academy were always shitty. In 2 years of the academy Naruto had only learned the name of one classmate, or rather a classmate who was the only person who did not piss off the blonde. After seeing the bruises on the girl's body and knowing that they had been left by her father and her cousin Hinata had told him herself, Naruto began to wash her brain slowly but inexorably, telling her that there would never be a place for her in Konoha and that no matter what her clan did, he would hate and despise her. Was working well. "Sasuke, my name is Uchiha." Dark Sasuke gritted his teeth. "Yes, that's Sasuke. Why? You interrupted my training. You decided to chat with one of the few people who is not a brainless fan of yours." Sasuke gritted his teeth, but quickly composed himself. "Believe me myself, I hate asking you for help, but it's no secret that you are the best at fire techniques. What do I gain if you?" Naruto helped him. The head had nothing against the Moreno. He had not socialized at the academy, but they had not entered into conflicts either. "But help you in exchange for nothing. What exactly do you want? Money?" "No, obviously you are right. A small fire." It appeared on Naruto's fingers. Sasuke gritted his teeth even more. Then he stretched, savoring the moment. "What do you have to offer?" The Uchiha thought for a moment. "You are weak in taijutsu. I can train you in hand-to-hand combat." Sasuke was already glad of his hunch, but he was cruel. "Snub, I don't care about taijutsu because I need close combat when I can just burn my opponent. It doesn't always work, and if your opponent has the water element or has the same genom as you, just water will kill you in a couple of seconds." Uzumaki thought for a moment. "If you don't want to learn taijutsu, how about Kenjutsu? I will give you a katana made of chakra conductive material, and you can show me some of your fire techniques. Would your parents mind?" The next moment Sasuke pounced on the blonde and gave him. He broke Naruto's teeth several times. "You don't dare talk about my family." Every word was stamped with a punch. Finally Uzumaki lost his patience and threw his interlocutor back with a small explosion. "What the hell are you doing?" Naruto wiped the blood. "My parents are dead. Everyone knows I didn't know. I don't care what happens in the village." Uzumaki rubbed his jaw, completely impassive. "Talking to this boy, I was just stating the facts. It seems you know who was the murderer, otherwise you wouldn't have pounced on me like that." "My older brother." Sasuke rubbed his stomach, which was a little dry. Naruto almost started laughing. He had read about the Uchiha clan in the library and knew that they were the strongest in the village. Also in Naruto's mind, the fact that everyone only found out about the size of this clan when the Hokage reported it to a single brother, so he was incredibly strong to be able to dominate the entire clan, and everyone only found out when the Hokage told him. "Well, I'm sorry. If you bring the katana I will help you. I will teach you some of my techniques." True. Sasuke shook his outstretched hand and headed towards his house. 4 years later, Polygon number 14, the old abandoned landfill that had already become a forest with a beautiful calm river, had turned into burning ashes of the trees. Nothing remained but charred stumps. The river that previously shone in the sun with different colors had completely dried up. This place had been the battlefield of only 2 people. Kate in the breath of 5 dragons. Sasuke blew a pillar of flame that divided into 5 smaller pillars that took the form of dragons. The opponent of the last Uchiha only smiled satisfied and created a dome of fire around him, receiving with calms all the impact. Taking more air, Naruto exhaled a dozen fire snakes 10 months long. Obeying his master, the snakes immediately pounced on the Moreno, hoping to burn him alive. The Uchiha threw several kunai with explosive seals at the snakes and also threw a smoke bomb under his feet. This allowed him to escape the enemy's gaze. The fire snakes came out unharmed from the explosion. Half of them headed towards the smoke screen, the rest crawled approaching Uzumaki. Naruto himself took the sword by the hilt that until then had been resting behind his back. The blonde's katana was the Masamune Nadachi. It was 170 centimeters long, which made the blonde look stupid because his sword was longer than his katana. It had a straight blade with a slight taper towards the end on the sharp side. the handle was made of koba. The blonde heard the sound of the air splitting, and as he let the chakra flow through the sword, the illusory copy of Sasuke turned abruptly. He disappeared instantly as the sword passed through his throat, that of the copy. In the next instant, kunai and shuriken flew towards the blonde from all sides. The snakes, obeying their master's orders, took the brunt of the impact when they saw the flickering shadow. Uzumaki Sasuke managed to block the katana with his 2 kunai, but the kunai melted instantly, and the blow reached its target, but poof, instead of Sasuke, Naruto cut a tree stump, which instantly turned into ash. Kaiten fire demon Uchiha blew a pillar of flames that took the form of a demon. The 5 meters tall fire giant materialized a 2-handed sword in his hand with a single movement of which he spread flames 100 meters away. Sasuke, what is Naruto doing? He simply stabbed the sword into the giant's leg, and the technique was instantly absorbed by the katana. I told you not to use it. You have too little chakra. For that, I do remember. Moreno was soaked and I'm cold sweat exhausted, but you did a good training, right? Yes. Naruto looked around the ashes. We'll have to find a new training ground here. There's nothing left. Uzumaki hung his sword on his back. You haven't entered yet a Kenjutsu master. Not only is there a swordsman in Konoha, and he uses an ordinary katana, and refused to teach me even under threat of death, I had to learn. From the books in the library Naruto sighed. It was already daylight. The final exam is in 2 hours. I should clean up. Yes. Sasuke staggered on some wobbly legs and headed towards his academy house. The graduation technique will be illusory clones. As soon as they say your name, Itaruka entered the room. Naruto grabbed his head, mentally smiling. In so many years of academy, not once had he been able to perform this technique correctly. If they had asked him to demonstrate the fire technique, Uzumaki would have passed the exam with flying colors. Are you nervous? Asked Hinata, shyly blushing at the same time. However, Naruto knew that she was only playing a role in public. Uzumaki was able to bring out all the shyness. Love for the clan and loyalty to the village from the girl. Not a week ago I heard a very interesting conversation. Even I'm glad that clones are the Yuga graduation technique. He didn't question the boy. If he wanted he would tell him. If he didn't want, then it wasn't that important. Uzumaki Naruto. Iruka's voice sounded. Naruto entered the classroom, creating illusory clones. The blonde folded a few seals and a faded copy of Naruto appeared next to him. The skin was valid, it had its tongue hanging out, and the copy itself looked like it had been drinking for months without drying out. What do you think? Iruka asked Mizuki. It has no merit. The others were able to create at least 3 normal copies. Naruto pretended to be upset, and his whole look said a lot about life being pain and hopelessness. You don't seem upset. Sasuke patted the blonde on the shoulder. Why should he be? Naruto smiled. Believe me, everything is going according to plan. I guess I'll tell you tomorrow. Well, let's practice. I don't have things to do. Uzumaki headed towards his house later tonight. The forest work. Naruto took a breath. I spent an hour learning that technique, but it was not in vain. Uzumaki heard the sound of the air splitting. The blonde released a flame that protected his master from the giant shuriken and immediately melted it. Give me the scroll. Uchiha reached for the second giant shuriken. Before you think, a little iron will stop me yourself. Did you see what happened to the previous Sukin? Because I was going to give you the scroll. There are many interesting techniques in it. Without, however, the traitor was no longer listening. Uchiha threw several kunai at the blonde who calmly melted. Shadow clones appeared. More than 100 exact copies of the blonde man. The next moment, half the village woke up with a heartbreaking scream, and the forest was filled with the smell of roasted meat. Team number 7 Naruto, Uzumaki, Yuga, Hinata, Sasuke, Uchiha, mentor Kakashi, Atake, Iruka, Lia. The blonde did not continue listening. After 10 minutes the auditorium was practically empty. Only 3 genin waited patiently for their mentor, and well, Sasuke turned towards the blonde. Did you want to tell us the story of a donkey named Mitsuki who was burned alive a week ago? He made a deal with someone so that a failed student would steal the scroll from the cash register. I already know that. The Uchiha interrupted, so he received a look of hatred from Hinata when Naruto came running. He saw 100 copies of you at dead Mizuki, and then you returned the scroll. At that statement, Naruto just jumped without some of the extras. I look like a pathetic dumb patriot. Truth. Uzumaki smiled, seeing the incomprehension on the faces of the only people who didn't make him angry like Naruto. He considered them his companions, and then the truth is that I turned one of my fire clones into a scroll. I took the real one for myself. I know very well that there are very few censors in Konoha, and everyone is on missions at the moment, but when they return they will discover you. Sasuke didn't let the blonde speak again. You had never made a mistake like that, and I don't plan to do so. Uzumaki smiled even more. Only that the smile was like that of a predator ready to pounce on its prey. My shadow clones should have already finished rewriting the scroll. As soon as they finished, my clone would apply the substitution. No one will ever be able to prove that I took the scroll, and I don't think you two would give it away either. Hinata looked like if they had hit her on the head with something heavy, but Sasuke Just so you have a scroll at home with all the techniques from the previous Okage, right? The brunette raised her thumb. That's right. I think every one of us will find something useful. Meanwhile we have 3 hours. I know Kakashi. He taught me fire techniques one day, so all we have to do is wait. The dark-haired man stretched. Each of the trio began to go about their business. Naruto was meditating on the techniques that he could learn from the scroll and how much they would help him destroy Konoha. Hinata was painting another portrait of the blonde for his altar of worship. Sasuke, for his part, contemplated revenge against his brother and the power he would obtain from the scroll. Of what I put in the subcortex of the vigilante were printed the words that he had spoken long ago. Quotes a brother, then he must have been incredibly strong to be able to defeat the entire clan, and everyone only found out when the Okage said it. Those words kept the young guard in suspense, making the Moreno think that there were too many holes in the story. The voice of the team captain took the boys out of their musings. I'm glad that you have waited for me so patiently. Sorry I'm 3 hours late. Let's go up to the roof and get to know each other. The team followed their mentor in silence. Naruto, will you tell your friends about me? Calm down guys, this is Kakashi. Attacked the honing of the hidden blade. He likes to be late and read porn. He doesn't like to be late in time. His hobby is to read porn books. His dream is to read all the porn books, since he is not interested in girls due to his porn mania, lateness, greed and freakiness. The Genins jumped in attack on his part. He really wanted to hug the blonde tightly with a rope around the neck. Quotes, damn idiot Al with the exam. I will tell him that they have passed and I will ask the Okage-sama for a more difficult mission. I will not arrive in time for the most dangerous moment. Yes, that is what I will do. After all, death wait for the Shobi on every corner. Kakashi took a deep breath. Well, let's continue getting to know each other. We've already said it all, replied Sasuke. Or were you flying in your obscene dreams? Of course not. Very well guys, see you the day after tomorrow at 9 at the cashier's house. And he disappeared in a smoke cloud. Naruto grabbed his head. His hands ached fiercely, as if he had been writing for hours. Tiredness also took over him, and his head began to hurt from the amount of new memories. Is something wrong? Hinata asked, worried. It doesn't seem like the shadow clones are transferring their memories, and that Naruto smiled sanguinary. It's a very useful technique. Your clones did a good job. Sasuke hummed, satisfied, looking at the 8 small scrolls. Each one of them was signed, which helped him understand what they contained. This one we are going to need, you and I. The Uchiha took the signed scroll, Kaiten, and this one will be needed by Hinata. The girl took the signed Taijutsu scroll, which the Uchiha threw. I will also take this. Naruto threw the ninjutsu scroll because I have never had problems with it. The fire, who among us is going to learn jinjutsu? Hinata's question took everyone by surprise. When the Rinnegan awakens, I won't care about the jinjutsu. I will send anyone to the illusion. The dark-haired Hinata and I answered calmly. We will order, you never know what you may need. The girl nodded silently. Let's go to rank 44. The book said that it was used as one of the stages of the chunin exam. The closest one will be in 4 months. No one will bother us. Sasuke and Natada did not discuss this. Trio did not argue at all. Polygon 44, Aka the Forest of Death. Where do we start? Sasuke looked at the scroll of fire techniques. His hint was understood. I will start with everything at once. Naruto folded the seal into the shape of a cross, and 4 exact copies of the same one appeared at his side. Since the clones had given me their memories, the same trick could be used to learn the techniques. 2 of them will do jinjutsu, 1 will cast illusions, the other will try to eliminate them. 1 will study taijutsu with Hinata, the last will do fire techniques. I will do ninjutsu. Interesting theory, and if you're wrong, asked Hinata, then I'll learn everything the old way. Done deal. Naruto studied the scroll on ninjutsu after the shadow clones. There was the summoning technique after reading the instructions. Of the same, Uzumaki warned his companions that he would be transported to the animals that suited him best, biting his finger and folding 5 seals. The blonde disappeared in white smoke. Nice place. Naruto found himself in the ultimate hell. There were volcanoes erupting everywhere. The ground was extremely red hot, and there were very few places where lava did not flow. The blonde turned to hear a strange human hiss. How long has it been since you came here? Naruto was approached by a blood-red salamander. The fire lizard was about 10 meters long on its back. There was a scroll, a contract, you want to sign it. That easy? The archaeologist guy a little with his tongue. If you're still alive, and you're not a handful of ashes, it's your destiny. Why beat around the bush, when you could be wasting your time? I believe it. Naruto smiled and took the scroll from the lizard. It writes your name and blood and leaves footprints. The salamander and Seo, and sip some lava again. Uzumaki did what he was told. Well done. My name, continued the salamander with a series of sounds difficult to pronounce that seemed like the crackling of fire and the roar of a volcanic eruption, but you can call me Kurama. I think that was the name of the strongest fire demon in your world. Nice to meet you, Uzumaki. Naruto likewise. Tell me more about this place. A month is a day of your. If you want to learn any technique, soon come here. Naruto's eyes lit up with excitement and his smile turned into a grimace. If you want to come back together, them in reverse order. Thank you. At that moment, the knowledge del Rubio on the clone dip Pain pouring and adding several fire techniques to Naruto's arsenal. Kurama, what do you know about shadow clones? The salamander nodded approvingly. It's a good technique, a very good one. It was created for travel. It can be used to train with 2 clones. You learn the technique twice as fast, 1,000 times faster. But along with the knowledge and experience of the clones comes their fatigue. Good technique. The fire of excitement ignited even more in Rubio's eyes. After reflecting for a while, the blonde decided to advise his companions to also sign the contracts after folding the seals. Uzumaki returned to the 4th training ground after the salamander world. The wind was not only chilling, but also freezing after standing up and getting used to such a drastic change in temperature. Naruto shared the information. What he had received is incredible news. Hinata smiled. I agree, Sasuke supported his friend, and a place for perfect training and a beast to help, however, only you can use clones. Shadow Yada and I don't have much chakra, but each of us will have a month to go even without clones. Each of you will become much stronger. Hinata and Sasuke bit their fingers and disappeared in white smoke. Yuga took with him a scroll on Taijutsu, and a blonde clone who had taken his hand thoughtfully. Uchiha for his part only took the Kaiten scroll. Uzumaki took the 2 remaining scrolls, and like his companions he disappeared in white smoke. Naruto-kun, how was your training? Girl entered the house of the blonde. Uzumaki himself, dressed only in black pants, was sitting on the floor in the middle of the room and summoned us the box. Well, you could notice in his voice that Naruto was furious. Something is wrong. I've spent 1,000 clones learning jinjutsu for nothing. I guess I have no talent for illusions. The girl put her hands on the boy's shoulders and began to massage. Do not worry, you have ninjutsu. Not many people have talent for illusions, and felt that the blonde was no longer so tense and thirst. He didn't feel blood anymore. You feel better? Yes, thank you. Uzumaki put on a plain black t-shirt and a cape of the same color. After hanging up his katana, he turned to the girl. Let's go and see why the old man called us. Of course. 10 minutes later. Naruto and Hinata arrived at the Leiji building. The entire way the blonde was accompanied by looks full of hatred, and Uzumaki responded in the same way. Kakashi and Sasuke were already waiting for them in the office. Kakashi has decided that you are too strong for rank missions D, so your first mission will be rank. Suzaru Toy smiled good-naturedly, showing the gen in his yellow teeth. You will have to escort a client to the country of the waves. Tazuna forward. The side door opened and a middle-aged man dressed in sarpy clothes entered. The room was immediately filled with the smell of alcohol, and these young men are going to accompany me. The man took a sip from the bottle. We have to bring him alive. Naruto gripped the hilt of his sword. Let me kill him, and Kakashi will take his corpse to his homeland. Tazuna choked on his alcohol and looked at the blonde in fear. No, Naruto smiled. Sarutobi, with kindness he has to be alive and in one piece. They can't cut off an arm or a leg. The room was now filled with bloodlust and whole. The blonde immediately calmed his bloodlust at the words of the village chief. Tazuna even got a little drunk from fear, but quickly remedied it by taking another sip from the bottle. Very well guys, in half an hour at the main gate of the village, said Kakashi was the first to leave the office. An hour later Tazuna was furious. He had arrived at the agreed time and had been waiting for his escorts for half an hour. Sorry I'm late. Kakashi was the first to arrive. Let's get going. Alone now attacks. He realized his team had left for the second time in one day, the biggest in history. He had to wait for someone. Tazuna, who had drunkenly said to the Honing everything he thought of him. The wait got even worse as soon as the bridge builder caught up with the parents of the ash-haired man. Kakashi began to think that killing the client was a good idea, and just when the Honing's patience had already run out and he began to fold the seals for the technique, the remaining members of the 7th team approached the main door. You're late, Kakashi shouted, looking at the genin, hoping that they would feel remorse. Only 40 minutes late. Sasuke gave the genin the middle finger. 10 minutes, that drunk has me in just 10 minutes, taking a couple of deep breaths. Kakashi turned to the boys. Well, let's go. It had been 5 hours since team number 7 had accompanied the bridge builder. Naruto was in the lead. He was already eager to finish the mission and return to training after Ian Hinata and Sasuke behind the genin. The bridge builder was already finishing his 3rd bottle, thus spreading the smell of alcohol throughout the forest of the country of fire and closing the procession. Kakashi was going to attack, and his eternal paper companion Kakashi was already despairing that the mission had passed calmly, which meant that there would be no way to get rid of the only Rubio he attacked. He blamed for his master's death. The attack's prayers were heard by Eri or the sound of air splitting. Kakashi threw Tazuna to the ground without saying a word. The 7th team with the bridge builder, the weapon stuck in a tree. A moment later a figure whose face was wrapped in bandages appeared above the sword. Whoa, 3 brats and a Honing were sent to protect the drunken bridge builders. Zabuza jumped down from his sword and tore it out of the tree. Tree with 1 poleaxe. You have earned 5 minutes of your life. That mummy swings the sword so calmly. It seems that I have found a master. The emotion ignited in Uzumaki's eyes. The only thing left to do was inform his new master Mamachi. Zabuza, one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist. Kakashi kept the book, although he mentally thanked God for such an opponent. After all, with such an opponent there would be no time to watch the genin and you Kakashi attack. I think they say you are strong. I will have to see if the rumors are true. Suitin jutsu of concealing fog. The ash-haired man did not say a word, he just raised his blindfold. Two copies of him appeared next to Zabuza, he whispered, and Nat to his companions. I can see him for sure with the Yugen, good job. Naruto took out his sword from behind from the back and passed fire chakra through it. Strikes from above now. Thanks to Hinata, Naruto managed to block the blow. There was a sound of metal scraping, however the clone of Capitado's, but even a copy of the legendary sword was stronger than most of the swords, and the blonde took advantage of it to the ground. Naruto turned on his axis. The Momochi clone exploded with a jet that instantly turned into steam. The flames that sprang from the sword dispersed the fog a little. It's a good sword you have, brat. The voice of the demon, the blood mist, seemed to come from all directions, but it seems that you don't know how to use it at all. You should have learned to fight with kunai. Before the Masamune Nadachi, the next moment the clone of the swordsman appeared behind Sasuke, but he didn't have time to do anything, and Nada saw everything perfectly and hit the Zabuza clone's Yukin several times. He gritted his teeth. The three brats had destroyed two of his clones. However, he was still interested in knowing how the blonde had been able to destroy the water decapitator with so calm. Okay, I'll be a little more serious in the next moment. Kakashi saw how Zabuza simply disappeared, not even giving off the smell of Momochi. A couple of seconds later, Zabuza reappeared as suddenly as he had disappeared. Only thanks to the Rinnegan attack was he able to react in time. Which was not cut in half, but just trapped a little. Momochi swung again, hoping to cut his opponent, but Kakashi managed to block the sword with his kunai. Zabuza just smiled, shaking his head. He turned sharply and kicked his opponent, sending White Fang's son flying. Kakashi landed directly in the lake, Suitin, water prison. Hey, suckers, he addressed the genin. Your mentor is trapped and about to die. Give me the bridge builder and I will spare your lives, that drunk. We don't give a damn, Naruto answered sincerely, and you won't let us go. Zabuza just smiled satisfied. That's how you destroyed Miklon's sword, young man. It's like that. Naruto exhaled a column of flames that instantly dissipated all the mist. Zabuza froze for a few seconds. It was the first time he saw such a strong Kaiten technique. Not wanting to turn into embers, Momochi had to interrupt the water. Prison technique and dive under the water. Quotes. What kind of brat is this? I have killed more than 100 jonin, but none of them even came close to creating a technique like this. My fog is about 300 meters in diameter, and this blonde's flames completely dissipated it. However, Zabuza's musings were interrupted by the lack of oxygen swimming to the surface. The swordsman immediately lost consciousness before Zabuza could sink back under the water. He was picked up by a shinobi wearing the mask of an ambu. Miss, thank you for your help in capturing Zabuza. I have been after him for a long time. The next instant the ambu disappeared. Is he? Naruto asked in a whisper. Yes. Hinata also answered in a whisper. Well, don't deactivate the Yugen yet, maybe we can find his hiding place along the way. Okay, 2 days had passed since Zabuza's attack. During that time everything was calm and the team arrived safely at the country of waves. Naruto, he had firmly decided to make Zabuza his mentor, and he was currently working with Hinata to find the swordsman. Do you see something? If the girl rubbed his eyes, were still too tired to walk for hours through the forest with the Bakugan activated. There is a fairly large building 2 kilometers away at 11 o'clock. Maybe there we can find something about Zabuza. I hope so. Or maybe we will find something about Cat. Uzumaki visibly perked up and quickened his pace. Don't try too hard, you can deactivate the Yugen. The girl breathed a sigh of relief after a few minutes of running. The two genin were already close to a large 5-story building. History of his country. After all, the genin frankly did not care about the problems of Tsunade and the people of the country of waves. Even so, the cat part was useful. Uzumaki simply kicked the door open, thus drawing attention. Of all the mercenaries who were there, who is the daring one? Asked one of the mercenaries completely wrapped in a cloak. Where is Zabuza? Asked Naruto, whose hands were literally on fire, but there was no answer in his place. All the mercenaries who were nothing more than ordinary people, they pounced on him. The flames sprang from the Rubio's hands and instantly engulfed the entire ground floor, turning everything there into ashes. The mercenaries who were on the upper floors jumped up and down windows, some died upon impact with the hard ground, while others only suffered fractures in their legs. Naruto, satisfied with his work, left the burning building and approached one of the surviving mercenaries who was trying to get away. Drag him, where is Zabuza? The blonde repeated his question. Well, he cut off the mercenary's legs with his sword at the inn in the quiet corner. The mercenary said through tears, please don't kill me. Where is that inn? A few kilometers from here. There. Thank you, Hinata. Stay away. Naruto waited until the girl had gone a decent distance. After that, Uzumaki exhaled a column of flames, burning alive the remaining mercenaries approaching the building. He absorbed all the flames into himself, thus recovering the crumbs of chakra he had spent. Ina, take a look to this building. Maybe you'll find something interesting. A couple of my clones will go with you, just in case. The inn and the Quiet corner. Zabuza had been staring at the wall for hours. It was all due to a recent altercation. Zabuza had given coup d'etat to kill Dame's relatives, fought against honing from many countries, but until now I had never seen anyone create techniques of this level. Calling me weak is not something anyone can say. I became a swordsman of the mist at the age of 12, after killing my previous sword. Master Mamachi looked at the decapitator who remained orphaned against the wall, but not even I could defend myself from those flames, and that blonde brat, he didn't even show signs of fatigue, not even Gaara had that much chakra invested in that technique. The blood mist demon was distracted from his musings by some knocks on the door. Without waiting for permission, a man in a business suit entered the room. And this is the legendary demon of the blood mist. The short man spat on the floor. You are a jester, not a mist demon. You couldn't kill a drunk cat. You're about to make a deal. Zabuza drew his sword. Oh yes, the short man laughed. I brought my boys with me. A little more than a dozen mercenaries entered the room. Zabuza, I cancel the contract. It's no longer necessary to kill him. Mamachi just smiled, and with a few devastating blows, he turned a handful of bandits into minced meat. I've put up with you for a long time. Cat. The rich guy didn't even have time to scream when Zabuza split him into two. Impressive. Mamachi. He remained paralyzed for a few seconds. Right in front of him was his old adversary. We can talk. I thought you had come to try to kill me, Zabuza brat. He looked carefully at the Rubio, but not feeling a hint of threat, he turned away. He relaxed. What did you want to talk to me about when you attacked us? Your clone said that I didn't know how to fence. Naruto didn't beat around the bush and decided to get straight to the point. You were right, I learned from books, and I don't have a kinjutsu teacher. Do you want me to take you as a student? Zabuza laughed. Anything but this was expected. You should go home, Brad. I'm a mercenary, not a babysitter. I know you're a scene. I recently destroyed a building owned by a cat, and my clone gave me information that there was a fairly large safe in the basement. Uzumaki. He stopped talking. On purpose to see the swordsman's reaction, Mamachi indicated with a look that the blonde could continue. Maybe you remember how good I am with fire. I melted a door, and my friend took all the money. Name your price. Zabuza hesitated. How do I know Kakashi didn't send you? Maybe he's setting me up. What do I want? You can't handle Kakashi, especially since your partner's strength is unknown. This is the third time Naruto surprises Zabuza. Just named the price of my kinjutsu training, 100,000 a week. You better have enough cat money. Kinjutsu is not learned quickly. How did it go? Naruto, instead of answering, he pointed his finger in the direction where the girl saw Zabuza. So this is for you. He handed over a scroll with money. I have to ask you one more favor. What is it about? What is your summon? Naruto answered a question with another question. In the world of my summon, only I can survive. The rest, we will turn into embers. Weasels. I'm not surprised. Uzumaki ran his hand over her cheek, the girl making her blush slightly. The caresses are perfect for you. You will take us, of course. And so the training of the 7th team began. Well, Kakashi spent the whole day watching over Tsunade and the Naruto clones under the edge of the bridge builders family. Genin were undergoing accelerated training. Sasuke was still learning Kaiten techniques from a scroll that he only separated from in the fight in the world of snakes. Yada was learning Taijutsu with a blonde clone, and a couple of thousand clones. Uzumaki learned Kinjutsu, but everything comes to an end. First the cat money ran out, and the next day Kakashi announced that the mission was over and that it was time to return home. Konoha 4 months later, fire spear. A 2 meters long fire spear, the long one, appeared in Naruto's hand, pointing it and threw it against his opponent. Sasuke, thanks to the Sharingan that he was finally able to awaken, dodged the technique. The Uchiha was about to attack when he saw the surprise on the blonde's face. When he turned around, the dark-haired man understood that because of that emotional state of his comrade, the spear exploded after hitting a tree, turning nearly a hectare of forest into ashes. And if it had hit me, Sasuke was outraged. I thought we were comrades. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Naruto raised his hands in a gesture of reconciliation. I came up with that technique just a minute ago. I had no idea it was so powerful. Okay, forget it, but don't use it again during sparring sessions. Without waiting for a response, Sasuke took 2 kunai and ran towards the blonde. Naruto deflected calmly, attacking with his sword, taking the katana with both hands. The Uzumaki turned on his axis, throwing Moreno into the distance. From there, the Uchiha was only saved thanks to the Sharingan. Naruto learned to handle a sword that was even bigger than him, stabbing and slashing. They were getting dangerously close to vital points. The blow with the kunai prompted the blonde. Naruto raised his sword to slash, but not only did he make it fall on his opponent, but he also crouched down. Sasuke was able to block the blow, but the force of it threw him to the ground. Are you going to the ground today? The dark-haired man asked furiously. If he had wanted to, he wouldn't have warned and would have let the fire pass through his sword. Naruto put the katana on his back and helped his companion to get up. Let's go. Kakashi wanted to meet us at the 5th rank ago. He will be here for about 2 hours when we arrive. Moreno laughed at his own joke. Guys, you have completed more than 10 C-class missions in these months. Kakashi started. Almost all of them, of course, were easy, for example, picking up a package and giving it to a rich man, so I recommended the three of you for the chunin attack exam. He smiled and mentally rejoiced at the perfect opportunity to get rid of the blonde. Why the hell would we have to do some kind of exam? Naruto expressed a common question. Well thought Kakashi for a moment, firstly to advance my career. And secondly to meet genin from other villages, each one will be able to test their strength, and thirdly they may kill you in the second stage, and then I will finally get rid of you. Naruto mentally exalted the ash-haired man. However, to the great regret of the attack, the three showed total indifference. Team 7 was heading to the shooting range to resume their training when a verbal altercation reached their ears. Kankuro, you are a disgrace to our village, kill yourself. In the spot, but Gaara, he hit me. Shut up since I killed you. As soon as Naruto saw the sand team, or rather Riti, it was like his head snapped up. Tsukaku like Uzumaki knew that name. I had no idea, but he perceived a threat in the Riti that had to be eliminated. Hey sand trio, you are here for the chunin exam, right? Yes, the painted guy answered. Why? Simple curiosity. The sand trio shrugged their shoulders and continued on their way. Sasuke, Hinata, let's take the exam. I know you are surprised, but we have to kill that Riti, and I think that only in the exam will it be feasible. Okay, answered Moreno, and Nada just nodded. Guys, we have to go, and Nada interrupted his teammates' training. We have to kill that Riti, and for that we need strength. That's true. Naruto hung the sword on his back, which was now only 20 centimeters bigger than the blonde's. Give me about 5 minutes. Sasuke, unlike the blonde, did not have a huge reserve of chakra nor incredible resistance. After panting, the dark-haired man turned his gaze to the blue-eyed boy who had his back to him. Naruto, I have been wanting to ask you for a long time how you hold your sword. You don't have sheaths or straps, right? Chakra in the past, yes, but exactly one day then I realized that it was a stupid decision. Naruto took a sip of water from the bottle. The chakra was spent quickly and it was difficult to learn to control my power and hold the sword at the same time. I had already sewn a magnet into my cloak that was strong enough to hold the sword, but not too much as to prevent me from pulling it out from behind. Convenient. Elias stood up. I have rested, now we can go. Academy. The boys were about to go up to the third floor when they saw two high school students and a sans Riti. Those brats have no right to take the exam, said Izumo. Looking at Gaara, you'd better let me pass. Not a single muscle on his face flinched, or I'll kill you. Izumo laughed and tried to hit the cause's son. Loser Chunin got stuck in the sand. A second later, the sand completely enveloped the eternal guard of the main gate at the order of his master. The arena closed first. A heartbreaking scream and a creaking sound was heard, then the sand began to dye color scarlet and blood. It dripped onto the ground in thin streams. Gaara threw the corpse at the second Chunin who was posing as Genin. Itetsu stared in horror at the hash of torn organs and shattered bones. The intestines were wrapped around the spine, protruding like a flag handle. The only more or less intact bastard Katetsu stepped out from under his friend and glared at Sukaku's jinchuriki. I'm going to kill you, but the eternal Chunin never had the chance to hit the sand. It pierced the Chunin's chest from one side to the other, then it wrapped around the head of the guard at the main gate. I warn you. Gaara clenched his fist. The head of the eternal Chunin was crushed, and when the sand returned to its master, everyone saw the brain with the remains of the skull smeared on the floor. The most impressionable ones fainted from the shock, some vomited, and some, like the 7th team, did not even raise an eyebrow. Naruto and company simply walked over the corpses to finally reach the ground. Classroom 301. Uzumaki smiled slightly. Even so, these Chunin were among the 10 people that the blonde wanted to kill. It was true, it was a shame that they died so easily. Uzumaki himself was going to kill them slowly when the time came, prolonging that incomparable pleasure, but nothing. The blonde cheered up. Quickly, he still had many enemies left. An entire village. Flashback 9 years ago. A small figure surrounded me between the houses, illuminated only by the moon. The boy was afraid of being seen by someone because late at night there were many chances of running into drunks who blamed a blonde man for all their mortal sins. The woman is a slut and has cheated on you with 3. It's the devil's fault. The boy doesn't want to study. It's the bad influence of the devil. An alcoholic can't stop. Drink, smoke and swear you're about to fall from surprise, but that's also the demon's fault. Naruto was already close to his house, as the Okage affectionately called the dilapidated bedroom full of ticks, cockroaches and rats. He was only missing 30 met to arrive when the boy received a strong blow on the back. Because of you, bastard. We have been appointed eternal guards of the main gate. Izuno turned Naruto so that he was facing him and began to hit him. This is all your fault, victim of the abortion. Hey, I want to teach him a lesson. Izuno grabbed Naruto's arms and lifted him a little off the ground. Katetsu first hit him in the solar plexus with his fist, then hit his chin with his knee, knocking out several of the boy's teeth. Pointing the eternal Chunin, he kicked the blonde boy with his back leg. Well, that was enough. Izuno pushed Naruto away from him after the last beating. We have become the eternal guards of the main gate. Let's not get into trouble yet. After giving him a few kicks, boy, the 2 eternal Chunin Laughing, headed in the direction of their eternal post. End of the flashback. Sasuke-kun. A scream was heard coming from two directions at the same time, and the Moreno was attacked by the two girls who annoy Uchiha the most in the world. How much have you done? Grown in 6 months, a macho man, the founders of the club shouted in unison. Sasuke, let me go, Harry, he's mine. Sasuke-kun would never marry a pig. Would you think he'd marry a stump like you? Stay away from me, both of them. Sasuke shouted at the girls. I'm not getting married. With neither of them. Both of them piss me off. You have to die a painful death, you sick bastards in the head. The girls froze. At first, they stayed looking at their idol in disbelief, but then when they saw his look of absolute disgust, they let him go. He returned in silence to his team, holding back his tears. Sakura, for her part, had her face full of despair for not being an Uchiha. Unlike Ino, she couldn't hold back the tears, and now they were falling down her cheeks, but Haru couldn't hold back so as not to burst into tears. Well then he would be embarrassed not only in front of the other genin of Konoha, but also of other villages. I see that you have been wanting to tell him for a long time. Sasuke took a breath and looked at his friend. It made me feel better yada, and you are lucky he continued in a he whispered, so that the girl wouldn't hear him, but Yuga was busy. The brunette looked at her clanmate with a look of hate, and if he could kill her with his eyes, there would be no one left in this audience. Yes, I know, but it's too early to think. In romances, first I have to reach my goal, and then I can think about relationships. Sasuke did not have time to respond. Several chunin and a hin appeared in the classroom. It was clear to see on their faces that they were furious. Listen to pieces of me. My name is Marino and Vicky and I am your instructor of the first stage. Remember, I will make sure that I fail, you bastards. An hour has passed since the test began. Ikki's question perplexed everyone, or rather almost everyone. Naruto was observing his target from the corner of his eye. If Gaara was, then Uzumaki. I would also leave the classroom, and that's all that's left. Marino looked at the 60 genin. As much as I hate to say it, all of you come on, speak louder, boring ream with your theatrical pause. The flames appeared on the fingers of the Rubio approved congratulations. Damn, the next moment, something like a cannonball flew through the window. He took out a sign and stuck it in the ceiling with a kunai. I'm Mitari Anno, your second examiner. The woman raised her nose haughtily. You're getting a little older, Ibiki. I guess so. Marino gritted his teeth and looked at Naruto with laughter, since he thought it was Uzumaki who had killed the chunin quotes. And why is that pack looking at me? That's like they're waiting for me to be eaten by a fly. Naruto cracked his knuckles and looked at one of the chunin. Those sheep kept staring at me throughout the entire test. They think I killed those scum that called themselves guards at the main gate, idiots after me. They would be nothing but ashes. It's so hard to light the snot they have for a brain and think a little just for their stupidity. They already deserve to die. Uzumaki smiled at his own thoughts. This is camp number 44, also known as the Forest of Death. You will soon find out why it is called that, but before starting the second stage, you must sign these papers. Someone always dies in this stage, and I don't want to be responsible for you, so sign it. Anko looked at the genin, half of whom frankly didn't care about this warning. First, I will explain the rules of the second stage. If you agree, sign, and then the team must register in that booth, hence my failure, and I point my finger at the booth that was next to the door. Well, these are the rules. A survival test awaits you. Not only will you have to survive and reach the tower, but you will also have to escape. The all-out battle for the scrolls. Your objectives will be these two scrolls, heaven and earth. You are 60, so 20 teams. One half will get the sky scroll, the other half will get the earth scroll. To overcome this stage, you must reach the tower in a complete team with both scrolls. Also, the time of the test is limited. The second test will last exactly 120 hours, that is exactly 5 days. One more thing, it is forbidden to look inside the scrolls. Anyone who dares to look at it will be kicked out of the exam along with his team. Understood? There was no response. Many of the genin showed a look that said, hurry up, goat, you're stalling. And not just a look. A vaguely familiar guy with a dog on his head decided that he was the smartest one here and declared out loud what he thought of the second stage in general and Mai Tarasi in particular, for which he immediately paid the price a moment, and the examiner was behind the boy holding the kunai that appeared from her sleeve against his throat. What a boy, so brave. It had been a long time since he had tasted human flesh. Anko smiled predatorily. A peculiar smell began to spread quickly through the training camp, and a suspicious stain appeared on the dog man's pants. Remember, boy, people like you on the battlefield are always the first to die, after which he quickly walked away from the disgraced dog man. 10 minutes later, Naruto was looking at a white scroll with the kanji silo on it. Yada, take it. You could accidentally agree the girl. He took the scroll and hid it in his bag. We have to invent a password. Sasuke looked at his comrades in arms. I suggest something that only the three of us know. For example, the Uchiha thought. Your invocation. Naruto. Only the three of us know. It's a good idea. Uzumaki nodded and looked towards him. The door that the guard began to open. Let's go, we have important matters to attend to. Yada ran in front of the team with Sub-Yugen activated. Naruto was at the back of the procession 20 minutes later. He had found them the next moment. However, the girl turned sharply. Something was coming towards us. It looked like a shock wave. Uzumaki turned sharply and exhaled a pillar of flame that instantly absorbed the shock wave. How funny, a tall girl with long black hair and eyes of the same color appeared in front of us. Alright, she was dressed in a tight dark suit and a white kimono on top. I'm going to play with you children. Summoning a dozen half-kilometer-long snakes appeared next to the girl. Sasuke's eyes opened wide. Surprised, what are you doing? Naruto looked at his companions. I'm not going to leave you, Hinata replied calmly, and that chick has the same appeal as me. Sasuke gritted his teeth. Hide. Uzumaki passed chakra through his sword and gave a strong thrust. The flames instantly incinerated all the snakes. The ancient trees burned one by one, like matches. How interesting, and the son of Minato and Kusina is quite good with the power of a fox. Orochimaru licked his lips. Jinchuriki, the last Uchiha and a girl from the Yuga clan. The jackpot. Definitive. Let's see what shadow clones can do. 2 exact copies of the current body of the snake Sannin appeared. The copies attacked Sasuke, and Nada, the original for his part, took out a sword from his mouth and ran towards Naruto. Uzumaki, seeing that his opponent was underestimating him, he dodged with calm the cutting blow and with a single blow cut off the Sannin's head. However, a new opponent emerged from the neck. You are interesting. Let's see how good you are with the sword. The two opponents crossed their swords. Naruto was surprised once again. It was the first time that his sword failed to cut something. Orochimaru tried to take advantage of the blonde's confusion and decided to make a small cut on his cheek as a reminder that he should not be distracted in battle. Naruto managed to block the blow and exhaled a column of flames towards his opponent's face. As he saw that his opponent had launched himself upwards again, Uzumaki bounced a decent distance, glancing furtively at his teammates. Sasuke and Naruto were still holding on, but it was obvious that the clones were just playing with him. A Sasuke yada apart. Some fire spears appeared in the hands of the blonde. The Uchiha, seeing the familiar technique, immediately ran away. Uzumaki threw a spear next to the comet clones, and the other he threw at his opponent. How entertained. In front of the blonde was a whole and unharmed Orochimaru. It was a very good and strong technique. My clones disappeared. A line of hundreds of snakes. A large number of snakes came out of the mouth of the Sannin. Naruto calmly destroyed them all with a single movement of his sword, but at the next moment, he felt a strong pain in his neck. Turning around, Uzumaki tried to cut off the Hiki lover's head, but Orochimaru jumped back in time. What are you? However, the blonde lost consciousness and began to fall but was picked up by his companions. Orochimaru left. That they fell on their feet. Then he also bit Sasuke in the same way. My name is Orochimaru, and soon they will come to me by force. I'm sorry, little one, but you are not strong enough for me to mark you. You don't impress me right away. Next, the Nukenin disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Where am I? Naruto woke up in a place where flames were constantly erupting from the ground. Looking closer, the blonde saw melted pipes. When he saw no exit, the Uzumaki headed forward. It looks like a tunnel, but it is destroyed and everything engulfed in flames. Some exit. Naruto entered the arch and closed his eyes. Against the bright light right in front of him was a molten golden portal with a huge pillar of blood-red flames inside. Just then the attention Del Rubio was captured by a huge black snake that tried to wrap itself completely around the fire every time it crawled closer to the fire. Naruto grabbed its neck. It's that of my subconscious. Although I expected something like that from myself. Naruto looked at the fire and the snake. Once again, now she is unnecessary. Mind here, I don't know what kind of snake she is, but I'm not going to give up on her. A spear of fire appeared in the Rubia's hand, waiting for the snake to try to envelop itself in fire once again. Uzumaki threw the spear at the snake, only in pain. The fire began to envelop it, turning it into ashes. Naruto grabbed his neck, which felt like metal was being thrown at him. Red hot. Naruto, are you awake? The girl hugged the blonde. How long was I unconscious? Uzumaki grabbed himself. Ahead. One day. The girl sighed in relief, but Sasuke is still unconscious. I see, so we will wait for him to wake up. They are here, said a figure wrapped in bandages with fur lining his back. Orochimaru-sama said that if we kill them, they have no chance, the only girl on the team said haughtily. Naruto waited patiently for his partner to wake up. Yada moistened the bandage again and placed it on Lucia's forehead. Uzumaki heard the sound of the air splitting abruptly. Fire by his sword and released a pillar of flames against the oncoming attack. PFF, you stopped my attack, and now you are proud of yourself. A brown-haired boy of 15 years old in appearance stepped forward with a note in his step, holes in the palms of his hands. Uzumaki looked at his opponent, who extended his limbs forward. That's where this shock wave comes from. The blonde speculation. It was confirmed a second later. Naruto defended himself again with flames. Zaku barely had time to jump away from him. The flames. Uzumaki grabbed his sword and lunged at his opponent, hoping to blow his enemy's head off, as two Zon flew in front of his face, one with a bell and one without. I got you. King threw a few more Zon. The next moment, Naruto already had several opponents in front of him. The insistent ringing in his ears angered Alex's jinchuriki even more, and the number of opponents only increased. "There you are, trapped in my illusion, guess which of the two is real?" The next moment Naruto heard Hinata scream, but he still couldn't make out the words, and a second later, he felt a strong blow to his jaw and more pain in his left ear. The Sound Genin was already celebrating the victory when he saw that Naruto was laughing, so it was all an illusion. "Thank you, brainless, for telling me about your powers yourself, Hinata, you're back." The girl gently put a hand on his shoulder while biting his finger. The blonde made some seal's invocation. A bright red lizard 7 meters tall, with black wavy stripes all over its body appeared suddenly between the cloud, looking with displeasure at the one who had summoned him, and as soon as he received a couple of semen and a shock wave on his forehead, Naruto roared even more. "I hope you called me to destroy them." The loud roar echoed throughout the forest, scaring away all the birds. "If not, I will kill them myself." What did he do? Kill them? Naruto turned to Hinata, or rather that is what he thought, since he still had the image of several opponents in front of him, and there was an annoying ringing in his ears that increasingly pissed off the blonde. "Hinata, you are in front of me, right?" The answer was a light touch on his cheek. He takes a few steps back, then a torrent of flames erupted from Naruto's back. The lizard smiled predatorily after eating some of the fire that Uzumaki had generously shared with her. That Hio was buried in the ground. The trio of genin stood confused. The Zon were melting by the fire from Uzumaki's back, and the shock waves simply disappeared into the fire after a couple of seconds. The ground began to shake, and pillars of fire emerged from it. Flames, Orochimaru's subordinates, did not know what to do. A moment ago they had the advantage in the battle, and now they were in a ring of fire. The pillars of flame rose for a few more seconds before going out. The genin were now in a closed dome of fire of about 100 meters in diameter. The throats of the entire trio were dry, their skin had turned red, and now everything was itchy from everyone. Only Naruto was comfortable protecting Hinata and Sasuke from the fire and heat. Then more flames began to sprout from the ground, increasing the temperature even more. Heat in the dome. Kim was the first who could not bear it. She fainted from the suffocating heat, dispelling her illusion. Coughing, she roared in pain. Her weapon had melted, and now the hot metal was burning the skin of her arm. The dome was filled with the smell of meat burned. Kanuta looked horrified at his arm, of which only the bone remained. Zaku was in a similar situation. The steel tubes in his palms had melted and were now burning his hands from the inside out. "Finish them off," Naruto said calmly. A few seconds later, the whole person dome was engulfed in fire, burning alive, everything in it. "I'm leaving." Kaiso disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Uzumaki looked at the place where the dome used to be. There was nothing left, grass, trees, opponents, everything had turned into ashes. Then he turned the look towards Hinata, who was looking at the blonde with delight and slight dismay. "You are fine." "No thanks." Yuga smiled. "In the last few years, Uzumaki was the only one who had seen the girl smile. "You are welcome." Naruto took the semen out of his body. "We will rest a little more tonight, and tomorrow we will go to the tower, okay? Now I will tell you the rules." Uzumaki made a suffering face. He rolled his eyes and looked at the ceiling. Sasuke didn't wake up until the 4th day of the test. After that, the 7th team had to search hurriedly opponents with the earth scroll to pass and make sure that Gaara was still going, and just when Uzumaki was about to blow his target's head off, the Honin arrived and announced additional combats. The taunt, "They won't let a poor orphan boy kill a shobi from another Sasuke village." "Are you okay?" Uzumaki asked in a whisper, turning to his comrade. "My neck still hurts, but I'm okay." "Listen, that albino also bit you on the neck, right?" "Nod, why don't you have anything?" "I went into my subconscious and burned those things." "No. I know what it is, but I don't need it. Everyone understands." There he looked at the genin. Some seemed to regret having come, others were relaxed, and some, like Gaara and Naruto, they just wanted this free circus of young assassins to end. "I see there are no questions, okay." Aha, names flash on the screen. First fight, Uzumaki Naruto against Inyazuka Kiba. "Who is that?" the blonde asked, looking for his opponent with his eyes. "It seems like you don't have the brain to remember the names of your teammates, kid." The dog man raised his nose. The blonde haughtily perceived the penetrating smell and wrinkled his nose in disgust. "And you don't seem to have the brains to brush your teeth. Perhaps you knock out your rivals with the stench of your mouth." Most of those present jumped with laughter. Kurenai was embarrassed because she didn't know how tell him that he was going without offending him that he stunk. Inyazuka blushed with rage. "Please everyone to the stands, except the opponents there. He waited for you until everyone had left." "Nothing, I'm not restricting you, but it is advisable to avoid killing." "That depends." Naruto grabbed the hilt of his sword, however. After thinking about it for a couple of seconds, he let it go, deciding that the dogman was not worthy of a blonde fighting with a sword. Kivas lunged at the blonde, but Uzumaki managed to block the blow. Flames appeared around his left arm from Naruto and hit Inyazuka in the face. The dogman howled in pain and jumped a few meters back, holding his hand to the burn. Temari barked frantically at the blonde, but was afraid to get close due to his instinct for self-preservation. The dog felt the strength of his opponent, his master, and he became cowed. How noisy that dog was. In Uzumaki's hand a small tip of a fire spear of barely 30 centimeters was formed that the next moment was already in flight towards the dog to kill, as soon as he had time to dodge the direct attack of the flying object, but not the explosion that occurred when the spear made contact with the hard surface. The fire wave from the explosion caused the spectators and Inuzuka to cover their faces due to the incredible heat and almost completely burned the man. Kiba Cub turned away hand when the heat stopped and he was horrified seeing what was left of his friend and pet. A piece of burned flesh reeking of burnt fur charred in some places was all that was left of Akamaru. Dead Kiba stood up looking hatefully at his opponent, not at his enemy Sasuke. Naruto himself expressed nothing but boredom and disgust towards the dog man. He felt no pity at the scene of losing his opponent's best friend. He simply did not care. Uzumaki, thanks to his training and taijutsu, had no problems dodging the attack. He simply moved away from the line of impact of the drill that was flying towards him. Anger filled the dogman's eyes, and he did not realize that Naruto was no longer in front of him. The blonde was fed up with all that pathetic spectacle and decided to put an end to it by breathing in more air. Naruto exhaled a column of flames that immediately engulfed the entire arena. As soon as Uzumaki consumed the flames, everyone saw a shapeless burning pile and walked towards the exit. It was said that preferably without killing. Naruto answered calmly and looked at the pile of ashes. What worked was what worked. Kei turned to Lokage who nodded in agreement. The winner of the first fight is Uzumaki. Naruto's second fight Yanji against Kankura Yuga. Your relative, asked Uzumaki looking at his teammate. A cousin is second on the list of people I want to give a chop to, answered the girl in a whisper, while playing the role of innocent sheep in public. I see. Naruto looked down. Nei was hitting fast but not so fast that someone from the 7th team couldn't dodge him. He's not that pathetic, but he'll defeat him easily. Sasuke rolled his eyes muttering something like sweet couple winner Yanji. The Moreno went up to the stands as if he had just saved the entire planet and this was business as usual for him. Third fight Naras and Kamaru against Kari. The main old in the world descended to the arena where his opponent was already waiting for him as soon as the examiner gave the order to start. The girl jumped out of her seat and threw several punches at Shikamaru. Satan only let out a howl of pain and yawned deeply, showing that she did not want to be here at all for her misfortune. Karu took it as an insult, taking out her kunai. Lightning chakra ran through them, and he launched himself at his opponent with the intention of slicing Nara like a salad. Fearing for his precious lazy hide, he began to dodge, occasionally throwing a kunai. Shikamaru went for a punch. But Karu dodged it roughly as she stabbed him in the back. As soon as the lazy boss of the world fell to the ground, the Kunoichi of the clouds loomed over him, bringing the sword closer to his throat. You're not such a boring bastard anymore. Karu made a small cut on the deer hunter's neck. I give up, just get this. He remained silent then, as the cold blade touched his throat again. The winner of the third battle of the Scaru fight. The girl turned to her team. Naruto glared at his mentor, was the same sensation that Uzumaki had when he looked at Gaara, only now the name Guki instead of Sukaku sounded insistently in his head, followed by killing even more insistently. All of that was incredibly exasperating for the blonde, confusing names that did not appear anywhere. Strange people from other villages that he had never seen, and an inexplicable desire to send them to the other side of the world, or rather not to them, but to what they had inside, and that only added more questions, and therefore there was more uncertainty. And that sand blonde is strong. Sasuke's voice brought Naruto out of his trance. Uzumaki looked towards the sand, where she saw a blonde girl with four pigtails and a huge fan behind her back. In front of her, there was a guy with a tight green suit that held his partner in his arms. Defeated the winner of the fourth battle is Temari. Ka looked at the screen where the names of the new contenders had already appeared. Yuga Hinata against Urino Sakura. An evil fire from the underworld itself appeared in the eyes of the Marina. The one with pink hair was also happy because she thought that Hinata was a weakling. The girls entered the arena. Naruto, send her to the movies, she will surely win the Oscar for Best Actress. Sasuke glared at the brunette who followed. Feigning shyness and universal fear of your opponent lately, you're doing a lot of antics, the blonde also replied in a whisper. Indeed, the examiner jumped. Sakura cracked her knuckles and decided that she would knock him out with a punch. Hinata pretended again. Scared and hit her opponent with a juken right on her opponent's chin. Haruno spat out blood. Even so, the chakra from the brunette's hand ran through her entire skull and hit her directly in the brain. Sakura's eyes were swimming and her ears were ringing. Oh Sakura-san, oh. You're hurt, I'm sorry, please, I didn't mean to. Naruto and Sasuke jumped, and Nada said it with such an innocent voice, and what a scared and surprised face she had. If the boys didn't know their friend, they would have believed that it was just an accident. Haruno continued. Dizzy and staggering side to side, but after a couple of minutes she was fine, more or less fine. Taking out her kunai, the pink-haired girl threw them at the brunette and immediately ran towards her opponent, wanting to hit him back. The blow to the yin Jonat, still pretending, screamed. And accidentally dodged and also accidentally pushed Sakura's arm away and elbowed her in the stomach. Sakura, how are you? Hinata pretended to stumble and hit Aruno's nose with her forehead, adding a Hukin punch straight to the heart. The haired girl's heart Rosa could not withstand the flow of chakra that Yuga put into the blow and simply exploded. Cutting short the life of another Konoha shinobi. Sakura, I'm sorry, it wasn't my intention. The winner of the 5th battle is Yuga Hinata A8, like the others, along with the doctors. Who didn't bother to check Aruno's pulse, decided that Sakura was incredibly weak only thanks to her classmates, and by a miracle she passed the 2nd test. They also all decided that the girl was just unconscious. Only later would they realize that Sakura was already dead. Are you okay? Naruto asked in a whisper from outside. It seemed like the boy was kissing her, congratulating her on her victory. His hands were shaking a little. One thing is seeing someone killed and quite another is killing someone yourself. You don't care, right? Absolute. 1 goal more 1 goal less, especially no Sasuke, you have done us both a great favor. The girl blushes slightly. Do you want to end your passions? Now Kakashi turned away from the book. I was so hoping that Uzumaki would die during the 2nd test, but not only is he alive, but he is flirting with a girl. Are you jealous? Kakashi Naruto, that White Fang's son, blamed for the deaths of his master and his wife grew exponentially. However, common sense and the instinct of self-preservation made themselves felt in time. The third was very proud of Naruto and dreamed of the day when Konoha would have an entire clan ruling the fire and that Honing in his right mind would face the third. None. So the only thing Kakashi has to do is grit your teeth and hope that Naruto has an accident that splatters his brains all over the village. Dreams. Meanwhile, A announced to you that the winner was Samui, who easily defeated Ino K7 fight Abiram, but against Ruckle very well. It's the turn of my power of youth. The Moreno jumped into the arena while showing his thumb to his master and showing his teeth. Aha, there we go. A8 stepped aside. Sphere of beetles. Yes, no, he launched his beetles, but the opponent in front of him was no longer there at the moment. Next, Abiram felt a strong blow to his jaw and a sensation of free flight. Zuko did a somersault in the air and landed on his feet, unable to see his opponent in front of him. The Moreno released almost all of his bugs. He took out several kunai with explosive seals and he launched them against the enemy. The explosion killed many of the bugs, opening a gap in the enemy defense that the young Konoha beast took advantage of. Lee instantly positioned himself next to his opponent and began to deliver rapid blows to his jaw and body. Poof. But in front of Lee it was a piece of log. It's time to put an end to this fight. Abiram ordered his bugs to surround Lee and attack simultaneously from all sides. Konoha Hurricane. He dealt him several blows at the speed of lightning while he took out kunai with explosive seals. The crash and explosion allowed Moreno to leave the sphere of bugs and deliver several strong blows to the head of the winner of the 7th battle is Lee. Only you are left. Read that cloud shobi. And that chubby guy, said Naruto, curling his fingers, and right now you are not at your best. Yes, I hope to be lucky. The 8th fight Gaara against Tomoya. The fight ended quickly and with the death of the shobi of the clouds. Ichichui simply refused because he knew he couldn't handle the star from Konoha. Month later, the main arena of Konoha. The villagers watched the 8 young assassins, wealthy men and Da from various villages, placed bets on the gening that caught their attention. Samui trembled with rage from time to time. She spoke quietly to herself. Quotes, where the hell is Carrie? Naruto smiled, being the only one who knew where the Redeed had disappeared. To flashback a week after the qualifying fights. I came out. The girl threw several kunai into the bushes. Uzumaki calmly dodged the flying weapons towards him and stepped forward. It is dangerous to train in far fields without your companions. Naruto pulled his sword from behind his back. Answer me a question and you will be able to escape unscathed. Rayon Thunder Panther's Kwai unleashed a dozen of lightning beasts against the blonde. Naruto gave a strong thrust with his sword, releasing a pillar of flames. The Cloud Kunoichi's technique was unable to control the furious flames, so Carrie launched several smoke bombs. In the next instant, the blonde saw 3 running towards him with Kuna Yami, imbued with lightning chakra. Uzumaki didn't even raise an eyebrow. Stabbing his sword into the ground, he sent fire chakra through it. The ground shook and the next moment several tongues of fire sprang from on the ground. The girl's clones interrupted her existence instantly. Naruto himself took out his sword from the ground. He crouched and turned sharply on his axis. Karuin, clearly he had not expected that his ruse would fail. It cost him a right arm, severed at the elbow at the same time. Next, Uzumaki grabbed the girl by the neck and pulled her to the ground and then sat on top of her. You're going to talk? Go to hell, you bastard. Carrie managed to kick the guy who had sat on her unceremoniously. Naruto. He exhaled a wave of hot air, burning the girl's face. Taking his sword in his hand, he cut the red-haired girl's legs. I only need an answer to one question. What differentiates your master from the rest of the shobi. Instead of answering, the girl spat on the blonde's face and tried to free the entire limb that he had left to gouge out the eyes of an insolent Uzumaki began to cut off the girl's fingers. Thanks to the fire, the wounds were cauterized instantly, but the pain was unbearable when everything what remained of the kunoichi was her body and her head carry. He still gave up. He Sensei jinchuriki Ichibi through her tears. The kunoichi spoke at that moment. The image of a bull with 8 tentacles arose in Naruto's mind, and the name Ui rang again. Thanks, the furious flames burned the girl, leaving only ashes. End of the flashback. Turning his head slightly, Uzumaki noticed that Jiraiya was greeting the 3 genin friendly, and after all, the first meeting with him was not friendly at all. Flashback a week before the finals. Naruto, it was clear from the expression on the girl's face that Hinata was in a bad mood, to say the least. Something happened. Yes, I was at the hot springs to relax after training, and I saw that pervert. The girl was outraged to the core. Like this idiot was also a shobi, since he dodged a kunai and disappeared without a trace. Okay, I understand, I'll take care of him. Even so, Uzumaki valued his only 2 comrades, and now he felt that he just had to take down a pervert. What a look, it has hot springs. Naruto scanned the leaves looking for a single gray-haired guy. 10 minutes later, they found the pervert. The gray-haired old man was spying on the girls through a hole in the fence. Uzumaki snorted in disgust, pulling out his sword. He channeled chakra through it before pointing a pillar of flames towards his target. However, the blonde had clearly underestimated his target. The old man simply disappeared as the flames completely destroyed the fence. The woman's screech must have been heard by the whole town. Thank you, boy. You have opened the door to the impressive world of slender bodies and large circles. A fairly tall man with an athletic build was riding on one leg in front of the blonde, distinguished by his spiky white hair that reached his waist. Collected in a ponytail, he had 2 red lines under his eyes on his head. Instead of the usual drawing, there was a drawing with horns, and the kanji oil blood was also gushing from the pervert's nose, and his gaze was fixed on the girls, who now only they were wearing what they were wearing and were frantically searching for their clothes. I don't know who you are, but you've been spying on my friend and I've come to kill you. Naruto grabbed his sword and lunged at his opponent, hoping to blow his head off. However, the next moment the blonde felt a strong blow under his breath and a feeling of free flight. Let's talk. A toad appeared next to the pervert, grabbing the blonde with his tongue and appearing in the direction of the forest. Naruto clearly did not appreciate the fact that he was first mutilated as a puppy, and then the huge toad put it in his mouth. In anger, the blonde covered his body in fire. Instantly, the toad spat at the blonde and disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Naruto, why are you doing this to my summoner? The old man slapped the blonde in the face. The forehead wanted to talk to you. I'm sorry I had to spy on your friend for that. But instead of an answer and a sincere talk, Jiraiya already had to dodge fireballs and swords. The hermit toad simply took a deep breath and disappeared from sight. The next moment, Naruto fell to ground and the old man sat on his back. You have lost your head. Uzumaki became a walking torch, but his opponent was no longer Toten Stone Tongs. The technique wrapped the blonde in a cocoon, leaving only his head intact. Now let's talk. My name it's Jiraiya, and I'm one of Konoha's Sannin. You've recently met an old friend of mine, a renegade. What the hell are you talking about? Naruto exhaled a column of flames, poof, and the Toad Sannin clone disappeared. There's a cursed seal around his neck. Your friend Orochimaru put it there. That's what it's about. A voice came from behind me. Naruto, let's have an intimate talk. Uzumaki realized that he couldn't get out so easily, and the old pervert would continue talking with a condemned sigh. Naruto nodded. End of the flashback. They're ready for the end. Genma surrounded the 8 genin with his gaze. Well, let's not wait for anyone else, let's start. First fight, Yuga Yada against Yugane. Everyone else must retreat to the stands. Genma has moved away. Don't go too far with him. Naruto, he winked at the brunette. Don't worry, I'll send him to the wheelchair. Yada looked at his cousin with a face of contempt and disgust. As soon as Genma gave the go-ahead, the girl stood up. Nae was able to activate her Yugen at the last moment, and deflecting the blow at first, both members of the Yuga clan used their families to jutsu. Each of them did their best to take down the Tenketsu. However, the pace soon began to accelerate. Yin-Nat was now aiming not only at the Tenketsu, but also at the points of pain when realizing, since he couldn't keep up with his sister. The genius of the youngest branch decided to use his secret weapon in an instant. He spun on its axis, creating a bluish vortex. When he finished spinning, he allowed himself a smug smile, casting a victorious look towards where he believed Hinata was standing perfectly intact, looking at her cousin with a displeased expression and shaking off the dust accumulated during the whirlwind. Then the clan genius decided resorting to the good old sky blows in one go. She was next to her cousin, starting to deal a series of increasingly faster blows. The girl calmly dodged all the blows. The final blow, Nae tried to hit her heart, but Hinata, having stopped playing, simply grabbed her arm and threw the brunette on top of her. The genius of the Yuga clan did not expect it at all. Oh, and who would have expected Yuga's grabs? Hinata concentrated enough chakra in her hand and decided to hit her relative in the head without. However, he was able to avoid the attack by rolling over and recovered the combat stance of his clan, launching himself against his opponent. He tried again to stab her in the heart, but he prepared for a struggle, and Nat smiled predatorily. Thanks to the Bakugan, he could see that it was no longer circulating. Chakra through the Moreno's left arm due to the grip, pushing away her cousin's hand, the girl kicked with her leg, while concentrating a good amount of chakra on his knee there. Nei staggered back from the pain, but he was still standing. Yada-sama, it seems that you can't hurt me much, even with chakra taking a step forward. Yugami a crunch. Looking down, he saw that his kneecap was lower than it should be. Shocked, the Moreno fell to the ground. There was a crunch, and the kneecap returned to its place the next second. Moreno felt an uncomfortable heat right in the center of the knee. It was as if he had a red-hot needle stuck in his knee. The unpleasant heat began to spread throughout the kneecap, and with it the heat too. Increased pain. The pain made the clan genius unable to bend or straighten his leg. Brother Niji, what were you saying? The girl shook her head. I can't hit you hard, not even with chakra. A devilish fire played in the girl's eyes. Concentrating more chakra hit the suffering knee of his cousin, finally destroying the elation. Everyone present shuddered. Naruto watched the combat hypnotize beauty grace. Hatred, torment, bloodlust, everything came together in one. I definitely need to take lessons from her on how torturing a victim. Naruto and Sasuke thought in synchronicity. Niji was about to say he was giving up when the girl kicked him in the chin, knocking out several of his teeth, taking the pleasure of it. The brunette hit her brother's face with a hukin, damaging the eye nerve. Seeing her relatives suffering, the girl finally lost control of herself and was now hitting her cousin with a juikin wherever she could reach. Hey, calm down or you'll kill him. Genma grabbed the girl's arms. Nay, he looked like a solid blood bruise. His left leg was hanging now because it no longer had the joint that connected the shin to the thigh. The left eye was completely white, saying that with that eye the Moreno couldn't see his face. It was like minced meat. Think about what your clan will say. I didn't care about your clan, everyone thought I wasn't worthy of them, but they are the ones who aren't worthy of me. The Okage scratched his chin thoughtfully, realizing that things were starting to get out of hand. Then he whispered something in my ear. Of the guard, the Ambu just nodded and headed to the arena. What else? The guard gave everything to Genma. Okay, the winner of the first fight is Yuga, and Nat the winner of the second fight is RCK Lee against Samui. The second place, you say? Naruto asked, looking at his friend who was beginning to calm down. Yes, I don't know what's going to happen to number one. I think he's going to suffer a lot. The blonde looked away towards the arena. The Cloud Kunoichi was fighting with a short sword. Thanks to the lessons of Zabuza, Naruto could see that the girl was well trained in swordsmanship. Samui hit vital points with precision, as if she intended to kill her opponent, making use of her amazing speed. She calmly dodged all the attacks, occasionally hitting the blonde in the body. Chain of Thunder. The girl released a chain of lightning from her hand, but the technique never reached its target. She appeared right in front of her opponent and kicked him in the chin, launching her into the air. The youngest beast in Konoha jumped then in the air and continued kicking the girl, raising her higher and higher. Lee then, with everyone in bandages, grabbing her, he began to spin her around his axis. Most of the spectators grabbed their heads, looking at the unconscious girl. The winner of the second fight was Roll. Third fight, Uzumaki Naruto against Sabaku no Temari. Upon hearing the announcement, Naruto entered the arena. Temari remembered what his opponent was capable of, and taking into account that he had mercilessly killed Shobi from his home village alone, it could be said that he was as good a maniac as Gaara. The Sekige's daughter decided to fight with all her strength immediately. Futon vacuum blades. Naruto simply extended his arm forward while letting out some fire. The translucent blade simply disappeared. Thought surrender. Shadow clones. 4 exact copies of her appeared next to the girl. Only 4. Naruto saw beads of sweat appear on the girl's forehead, indicating that 4 body clones. They were too exhausting for her. Go play in the sandbox. You crawled out of that's your place. Shut up, Futon cover net, the girl said with glee, yawning defiantly. Uzumaki exhaled a 5-met wall of fire that protected her. Master. With another looking at his opponent, Naruto unsheathed his sword and stabbed it into the ground. For the first 5 seconds nothing happened, but then 4 tongues of fire erupted from the sword and took the shape of arrows. A moment later, these arrows pierced the clones of Temari, causing them to interrupt their existence, and then the beating began. All the attempts of the enraged Temari to attack the blonde's air blades were completely useless. Every time she brandished her fan, Uzumaki brandished her katana, sending a jet of fire towards her, and since the wind was weaker than fire and also strengthened the latter Temari, she had to do acrobatics to avoid getting burned. The kunai attack with explosive seals also had no effect, and she avoided prudently hand-to-hand combat. Remembering what had happened to Kiba, Naruto seemed to be in a good mood today, said Sasuke thoughtfully before he would have burned her alive. Good mood, you could say yes. The girl smiled enigmatically. Still, I'm happy for you too. I give up, she shouted the blonde, while Maki burned her fan, burning her hands a lot in the process. Even so, Gaara's older sister was an intelligent girl with a developed instinct for self-preservation and knew when it was better to retire and still live. Near a psychotic Jinchuriki quickly taught her to be cautious. The fourth fight, Uchiha Sasuke against Garano Baku. There we go. The word was enough for her to start running, flying towards the sand. Jinchuriki Sasuke tried to punch him in the face. The sand appeared in front of his fist, rolled to one side. Punch area failed again. This lasted about 20 seconds. Increasing her speed, Ilia began to run in a circle, trying again and again to get through the perfect defense, but her efforts were in vain. The sand had time to protect his master, and only thanks to the Rinnegan Sasuke was not yet wrapped in sand. Then the Dark One decided to use his last trick. Flashback. Hello old man. Jiraiya already turned around with regret when he heard the voice. You said that you were Naruto's godfather, right, and that you are one of the strongest shinobi in Konoha. Yes I am, but I will not train you. The Sand Toad waved his hand while adding so I only have fire and earth, and you already know all the fire techniques. Thanks to Naruto, however, it was clear that the Moreno was not going to surrender. I have fire and lightning. Who in the village has lightning? Only Kakashi. Jiraiya's nose already bled when the door to the beautiful world of carving opened right in front of him. The main fan of my books has a very powerful Ran technique. Only a blind person would not notice that Kakashi hates us. The Uchiha was happy to notice that Jiraiya had already stopped looking at the girl. Sometimes it seems like he wants to kill Naruto. Even so, he nodded in agreement. I will ask him what seals are needed for this technique, and I will transmit it to you if you want to know. The truth. Ask erase a child. End of flashback. There was a sound like the song of 1,000 birds. Chidori Sasuke ran towards his opponent. The technique calmly pierced Gaara's sand defense and then hit the shoulder of the Jinchuriki. Sukaku, the youngest of the Sekage, looked first at his shoulder, feeling a long-forgotten sensation, physical pain. Then Gaara changed his gaze towards Sasuke. The sand, obeying its master, had turned into spears and was now trying to make a few more holes in the Moreno. I will kill you. Gaara folded several seals and the sand enveloped him, taking the shape of a dome. An eye made of sand appeared next to the dome. Temari and Kankura were visibly nervous, and now they were even more surprised than Kakashi, who was definitely not happy that someone had learned his technique. Sasuke was about to. He broke through for the second time, the absolute defense of the Kashira's son, but saw white feathers around him. Naruto was not a master of illusion, but he knew some jinjutsu. Deploying a seal, he dispelled the effects of the illusion technique to Sasuke. Thanks to his Rinnegan, he didn't care about such an illusion. If it worked with someone, it would only work with civilians or with complete novices in jinjutsu. The Moreno continued running towards the sand dome of Gaara like a battering ram, dodging all the spikes of the dome. The Uchiha pierced the Redeed's strongest defense at the same time that for the second time that day it would be to Gaara. The dome cracked and Gaara lost consciousness. If Sasuke had known that it was only the calm before the storm, get away from him. Kankuro pointed at Sasuke with his puppets, forcing him to retreat. Lifting his brother, he, along with Temari, decided to capitulate. Naruto looked at the sand team with rage when he realized that his target had been blatantly dragged somewhere. Yada activates the Yugen. Let's go after them. The girl just nodded. Sasuke dusted himself off when he saw that his two companions were fleeing. In a hurry, the Uchiha decided to follow them. Naruto, are you aware that those two will not hand you over to Gaara so easily? Sasuke asked, approaching the pursuing team. I already know. I know if that blonde girl attacks first, you Sasuke, you will stop her, if possible kill her, so she doesn't get in the way anymore. Naruto reflexively grabbed the hilt of his sword, but let it go. After a few seconds the Dojutsu wielders nodded. The first opponent of the trio was Temari. Futon Airflow. The daughter of the Kage directed a wave of dense air towards the seventh team, however Naruto simply exhaled a column of flames, neutralizing the Kaiten technique. Phoenix flowers. Sasuke, following the plan, began to distract Temari so that his companions could finish their mission. The blonde calmly dodged the half-meter fireballs that flew towards her, limiting herself to jumping from a branch to the ground. Futon vacuum blades. The girl released a dozen thin translucent blades. Even so, the battle with Uzumaki had exhausted a lot. Sasuke, thanks to Tsuke Genkai, saw the technique flying towards him, not wanting to waste chakra. The dark-haired man simply hid behind a tree. It was a success. Chidori, a dense ball of lightning appeared in the palm of the dark-haired man. Jumping from his hiding place, the Uchiha charged at his opponent like a Temari battering ram. He brandished his fan in the hope of tearing his opponent to pieces, but it only caused a slight gust of wind. The next instant, Sasuke hit the blonde's head with his technique, turning the skull into dust and the brain in mush that exploded with a splash and covered Sasuke from head to toe. How disgusting! The Uchiha looked at the girl's decapitated body with disdain and disgust. A thin fountain of blood gushed from the artery. After observing the circulating blood through his veins for a few more seconds, Sasuke followed his companions, hoping that Tsunade's shinobi had not strayed. Meanwhile, Gaara opened his eyes with difficulty and immediately grabbed his head. Gaara, are you fine? However, instead of an answer, Kankuro only received a kick of sand in the face. The youngest son of the Kage jumped to the ground and walked forward. Changing in the process, the right side of his body began to be covered with sand. The first son of the case, who had an insane craving for makeup, rubbed his eyes upon hearing the sound of the air splitting. Sabaku crouched down reflexively, letting the deadly weapon pass over his head. Naruto wasted no time and simply continued forward, already oriented by the bloodstains that the retreat had left in his wake. Hinata appeared in front of the puppeteer, placing herself in a combat position. Kankuro moved the chakra threads with a slight movement of his fingers, and the puppets began to move. The Karasu puppet began to circle around Hinata now. Throw a rain of kunai and senbon at her, but thanks to the Bakugan the girl saw all the attacks perfectly and dodged them with ease. Haha, what do you say to that? Karasu pushed forward all her limbs that were thrown away at the same time, revealing empty cavities and unleashing a rain of poison semen and simp needles. Kaiten, the whirlwind of chakra that was created around Yuga, dispersed all the iron that did not touch her. Kankuro was furious, and I believe it not only that his opponent had repelled all of his ranged attacks, but she hadn't even moved a single step, but that anger was just fake. I got you, Kuroari. Another puppet appeared from the ground and punched down, sealing Hinata. You're dead, Kurojiki, and Patsu. Karasu's arms and legs were gone. Separated with sharp poison blades at the ends and the extremities of the sword, flew towards the trapped girl. However, to the surprise of her sister's makeup thief, an explosion occurred, flying the puppet into splinters. The fragments are knocked down by the Karasu sword. Members who are already flying. Yuga runs towards the puppeteer, who is frozen by the loss of the puppet and reacts at the last moment. So the middle of the case, Kahe summoned the puppet because he did not want to receive a hukin in the head. A protective puppet appeared from the ground just like the previous one and blocked the girl's direct attack, except that in front of Kankuro's face there was an ordinary log used in the Hukin switch technique. 64 touches of heaven. A female voice was heard at the puppeteer behind him. He had time to turn his face as 2 blows. Knows Baku's body winced in pain, but that was just the beginning. Burning with pain. 1632. The body was completely racked with pain, but there was no way to move. None of the Kankuro limbs were paralyzed. 64. With one last kick to Hinata's chest, the puppeteer flew a couple of meters away and collapsed on your back with no signs of movement. The brunette had already decided to finish off the puppeteer, but it was made for her. Sasuke threw a kunai with an explosive tag. Right at the head of the puppet, the head exploded like a digested egg, splashing its contents on the brunette and everyone. The vegetation in a 5 meters radius stopped running. Sukaku, it's time for you to die. Naruto drew his sword from behind his back with the intention of ending everything with a single blow. He unsheathed his katana from behind his back, aiming at his target, but a wall of sand appeared right in front of Gaara and spikes sprouted from it in the hope of making a few more holes in the Rubio. The sand reached its goal, but there was only wood instead of the Rubio. Die, said the double voice. It's time for you to die. The sand completely enveloped Gaara. Gaara, now the jinchuriki of the weakest Biju, was like a reduced form of Sukaku. When he saw the blonde Gaara threw more than a dozen sand shurikens at him, Naruto gave a strong thrust with his sword, releasing flames. The fire dominated the enemy technique, but Gaara had missing dies. Only thanks to his training, Naruto had time to defend himself with his sword. The hand, or rather the paw of the Jinchuriki. He encountered the obstacle in the form of a sword. Uzumaki felt that his opponent was physically much stronger and let his chakra flow through the sword. Gaara gasped in pain. The sand melted due to the temperature exceeding 3000 gr. The molten sand burned Gaara's hand, but Sabaku looked at the stump and lamas that used to be an arm, then he changed his gaze to the blonde Naruto. He was about to cut off his target's head, but a gust of wind and a wave of chakra knocked the blonde back down. Uzumaki was able to fall on his feet, destroying the demon's growl chilled his blood in his veins. Naruto stared at the huge creature, a demon of the desert. So you are Sukaku. It was the first time that Uzumaki felt such an amount of chakra. The next instant the blonde was hit by a wave of concentrated air, launching the blue OG hundreds of meters away. Naruto spat blood while he was trying to get up. He heard a creak and felt a sharp pain in his body. Sukaku was not willing to grant any indulgence. The sand began to envelop the blonde, however, Uzumaki was not willing to give up either. Wiping the blood that dripped from his mouth, he folded a few seals and died. Summoning a blood-red lizard appeared in front of his Kaku, only slightly smaller in size than the Biju. Without further ado, the salamander immediately launched itself at the Biju, leaving Burns looking down. Naruto, he saw his 2 companions creating a clone. The blonde sent it to Hinata and Sasuke. A black orb began to concentrate around the Biju's mouth. The salamander immediately sensed that this would not end well and exhaled a column of flames directly into the demon's face. From the desert, Sukaku roared in pain and expelled the lizard with a wave of sand. Naruto, that raccoon has snot on its head. It seems like they are using it as a medium. Wake it up. We can't kill it. No. Blonde's ears were ringing from the loud roar. Wake him up first, or we will never get rid of that tail. The salamander dodged the air currents and sank its fangs into Sukaku's shoulder. Naruto took advantage and jumped over the Biju's head running towards Gaara. Uzumaki covered his fist in fire and hit with all his strength to the son of the case Kage. As soon as Naruto touched the reed, it was as if an electric current ran through his entire body and the image of the 9 beasts appeared in his head. What is that? Naruto grabbed his head where 9 Gaara names were now ringing. He woke up in pain and looked at his opponent with anger. Uzumaki moved away from the blow and exhaled more towards the reed, but Gaara managed to protect himself with sand and time. Unsheathing his sword, Naruto gave a strong thrust. The fire that erupted from the sword instantly melted the sand while making the jinchuriki explode with heat. Intercepting the sword, Uzumaki struck with the hilt directly in Gaara's eye, knocking out one of his most important organs. Gaara lost concentration and his kaku simply he disappeared. However, the sand jinchuriki did not want to give up so easily and grabbed the blonde's hand where the sword was. Naruto then covered his free hand with fire and began to hit his opponent with each blow. Uzumaki could feel how the chakra was transferred from the reed at the blonde. As soon as Gaara let go of the blonde's hand, Naruto hit the seal on Baku's forehead with his sword. It was as if a shock ran through his entire body and Gaara's red chakra flowed towards Naruto. The only one who did not let Naruto would fall to the ground was the salamander that raised its mind to the blonde. Naruto struggled to open his eyes. To his complete surprise, his body did not hurt. Looking around, Uzumaki realized that in his subconscious was the same molten golden grid, the same pillar of flame solo, that next to the fire there was a tornado with visible sand. After looking at the new addition in his head for a little longer, the blonde still decided to touch the tornado. As soon as Naruto touched it, memories that clearly did not belong to him appeared in his head. First, Naruto saw an old man with red hair and spiral violet eyes. Each of the Biju tried to get this old man's attention. They called him dad. Then there were memories in which people began to hunt Sukaku. Everyone tried to catch the demon. Everything happened to an incredible speed. The visions were blurry, as if Sukaku wished he could forget them. The last memory, as clear as the first, was an old monk sitting in a prison. Uzumaki vomited from the memories that overwhelmed his head. More than 1,000 years had flown by in just 5 minutes. After thinking for a moment, the blonde looked at the flames. Naruto used to think that the flames were an integral part of him, but once he met the jinchuriki, the blonde decided that the flames were not a genom. Not at all. Touching the pillar of flame, Naruto saw new memories. The first ones were the same as those of Sukaku, an old man being oiled by 9 Biju, a group of people trying to find him. First Cloud, then Leaf, a dark-haired man who called himself Madara and took control to destroy everything. Unlike Sukaku's memories, all of these were clear, although many passed at incredible speed. Zoro's last memory was blurry and seemed to sink into the darkness, but Naruto saw everything with clarity. His name is Naruto. The blonde saw the blurry image of a red-haired woman with her throat slit. Oh Danzo, you're being as abrupt as always. She could still be useful. She's in Uzumaki. You know those things are very difficult to keep under control. After that the memories completely faded, but Naruto recognized the 2 voices. The tears involuntarily flowed from his eyes. The creatures, I will kill them. I will destroy them all. The flames appeared around his right hand and the sand began to envelop his left. Konoha will not be around much longer. You are finally awake. The first thing Naruto saw was Jiraiya looking closely at his godson. Looking around, Uzumaki realized he was in a hospital. It was dark outside the window. How long have I been unconscious? A week. Jiraiya, he placed a hand on the blonde's forehead, making sure there was no fever. The Sannin removed the limb. Something had changed in the village. However, the wise toad was not allowed to finish. I don't care what is happening in that village. Jiraiya, you know. Were my parents right? You used to visit them all the time. You even gave them your first book. The hermit toad was covered in cold sweat. His eyes took up half of his face. Jiraiya was already numb from the shock, so he just nodded slowly. Do you know who killed them? I've seen it now. I know everything. Tell me. The Sannin's hands were shaking, but he managed to pour himself and his Ajeto some water from a jug. I've always been on Minato and Kusena's side. I didn't tell you, but when I saw how he lived I gave the third a scandal. If it weren't for those old merismatics, I would have taken you in the same day you were orphaned. After thinking about it a bit, Naruto continued telling everything. That was all. As soon as Uzumaki finished, Jiraiya was already saddened. The toad Sannin didn't notice as he broke the glass that he had in his hand. Well then, I have good news for you. The third is dead. Orochimaru killed him. Naruto showed no emotion, just muttered something along the lines of less a target. You have been named fifth. I'm not going to ask an old friend to become Hokage. You will come with me to find her. What is the target? Do you want me to put one thing in place of another with my own hands? Naruto gave his godfather a death glare. Don't be afraid. Tsunade has always been good to Kusina and has argued with the third very often. We will need your help now. Go back to sleep. Jiraiya was about to go out the window, but he stopped halfway. Your katana is in your house. Sasuke took it there. Yes, thanks. The next day Naruto did not want to stay in the hospital and ran out. The blonde decided to learn to control his new power. The poor guy didn't even know that he was being followed by one of the rude ambos. When he arrived at his favorite training ground, Uzumaki tried to recall all the memories of his Kaku and his Jinchuriki. Standing for another minute, Naruto slowly opened his eyes and created a wall of sand with a single movement of his hand. The root shinobi instantly disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Danzo Samura's private office. He was quite tipsy. There were several bottles of serve lying around. Floor looking at the photo of the head of the Konoha schemers and sipped the alcohol directly from the bottle. Old friend, for whom you left me sob. How am I going to manipulate this pack? If you dance Sama I can the Ambu Nelt report everything happened just as expected. Naruto Uzumaki absorbed the chakra of his Kaku. Not yet all the chakra of the Biju mixed with his own. The subject was learning to control his new power, was able to create a wall of sand. Hearing the news made Danzo clear his mind a little. Excellent job. You no longer have to watch him. Jai the Shobi disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Danzo looked at the photo of his best friend Yusen. It's a shame you didn't live to see this moment. Now we have a shinobi in our village with a chakra and the force two-tailed soon Konoha will be the strongest. Samura had no idea that Naruto now knew everything and that Uzumaki had completely different plans of his own for Konoha. Later that night, Naruto's house welcomed. The blonde stood at the door surprised right in front of him. I was Yuga with an apron and a pleasant smell came from the kitchen. And Nat, what brings you here when you were in the hospital for 6 days? I was with you 24 hours a day but my father forced me to return to the mansion. Can you imagine? He remembered that I was his daughter. The girl's face twisted and she was about to spit but she stopped herself. She gave me a condition: if I wanted to live in her house, I had to obey the clan and apologize to Niji. So you decided to move in with me, Naruto guessed. Stay as long as you want. Girl smiled. I've made dinner. You're hungry? Yes, get up. Someone was trying to communicate with the blonde. At first it was just words, but then the shaking of his shoulders took effect. When Naruto opened his eyes, he saw his godfather standing in front of him. Hello Jiraiya. Looking at his watch, Uzumaki saw that it was only 5 in the morning. What are you doing here so early? My sources told me where Tsunade was last seen. The world's main pervert. World responded in a whisper. We have to go now because we have to find my old man friend. I will be waiting for you outside. Naruto stretched and went to the bathroom. After washing and dressing, the Uzumaki left a note for Hinata. Jiraiya was already waiting for his godson in front of the door. After that, the family members headed towards the main door. Naruto, you always sleep on the couch in the hallway. I thought you had a bedroom. Jiraiya tried to start a conversation because it was a pain to walk alone. It wasn't strange that the Sanning Toad created a clone in his lonely wanderings just to have someone to talk to. Yin Nat was sleeping now in my room. At first she wanted to curl up on the mat, but I convinced her to stay in my bedroom. I went to the hard sofa. The next moment Jiraiya picked up his student and looked him straight in the eyes. The shock and surprise of Naruto came to confuse him. This was not his usual behavior. Naruto, you are only 13 years old and you have already made a girl move with all her things. The voice of the legendary hermit was full of envy. However, the next moment the wise toad left the blonde into the ground, patted him on the shoulder and gave him a thumbs up. You are a pretty boy in capital letters. Naruto looked at his godfather as if he were mentally unstable. I envy you with envy, Blanca, but you are not rushing to move in together. You are still a couple. Kids, they kicked her out of the Uzumaki clan. She had the audacity to interrupt her godfather's fantasies. He was already thinking about writing a new book about them. Do you think he should have kicked her out and told her to find somewhere else to live? Not at all. Jiraiya shook his head vigorously. You did the right thing. You did the right thing. As a reward, I want to teach you your father's technique. He spent years creating it and then he taught it to his sensei, who is me. Naruto stood up. Open my father's technique. The image of the fourth Hokage came to mind. However, Kyuubi remembered almost all of Kusuna's life, so Naruto made his assumption. It's a Rasengan, right? Bingo. Jiraiya already patted his Ajado on the shoulder. I still haven't found out where your inheritance went, but at the same time the less you can have the equipment that belongs to you by right. Minato didn't write it down anywhere. It's not even on the scroll in the box. Although the third party asked Minato to plow him more than once, there are only 2 people who mastered the technique and me. I'm the only one left alive. Show me. The request sounded too harsh. It even seemed like an order, but the Sannin just smiled. Of course, but we're in a hurry, so you'll show him along the way. The Toad Sannin printed 2 water wolves. The godfather took one in his hand and showed it to his apprentice. After a second the balloon burst. Naruto knew in theory what he should do, but in practice it was much more complicated. As soon as the relatives arrived at the hotel at night, Uzumaki used the callback seals. Replacing himself with a clone practicing in the world of the salamander was difficult. Naruto had to make sure that the water in the balloon did not evaporate and try to burst it at the same time. A week of torment had finally paid off. The blonde returned when it had already dawned, much to the surprise of Uzumaki. Jiraiya was already awake. You were trying to deceive the Sannin. He dispelled the clone with a single blow. You learned the first phase with those words. The gray-haired man threw a water balloon at Naruto. The chakra carrier of the two tails calmly burst the well done balloon. Jiraiya gave a thumbs up. We will buy rubber balls on the way, and we will start the second stage. It is much more difficult. No problem. Naruto just made a gesture with his hand. Let's go get your friend. Yes, we have to go through 2 more towns like this and let's go. But first show me your belly. Seal. Uzumaki wasn't sure why, but he pulled up his shirt. Holy shit, the Sannin Toad examined his godson's stomach. Seal. On his stomach, there was a sun-shaped circle, and inside it were 2 spirals connected at the ends. Something's wrong, it's taken me a long time to figure out, how could you absorb Sukaku? But now it all makes sense. Jiraiya, he thought for a moment, my foolish apprentice messed with the seals. Fuinjutsu is a delicate science. You can't make mistakes. Minato tried to seal a fox inside you, but he messed up the seals. As a result, 2 seals merged into one. The first was the seal that sealed the fox, and the second is the catalyst A seal that absorbs similar techniques and adds them to you. By example, if you create a scroll where you seal a fire technique, it will absorb all the other fire techniques. Right now you have the same seal only based on tail chakra, in other words, but the blonde was not allowed to end up. In other words, in a battle with a jinchuriki will extract all their chakra and the mind of the Biju will be destroyed. You are the worst dream for the Biju and their jinchuriki. Now it remains to be seen how it affects your DNA chain. Well, the hermit toad dropped his apprentice's shirt. Let's go look for my old man acquaintance in the next town. Jiraiya bought a whole box of rubber balls, hinting that things would go much faster with the clones, and in the world of the invocation a week later, where the hell is that contagion? Jiraiya already kicked a rock in anger. So much time wasted looking for him. Let's go eat something. Naruto pointed with his finger to the nearest cafeteria, with a very inspiring name that wished everyone a good meal. Nasty burger. Yes, let's go eat something. The Sannin Toad was the first to enter the establishment and saw the one who so much he had been searching for a while. Not wanting to waste time, he immediately sat down with the 2 girls. Tsunade, you are as charming as always. I have stumped to see you again. Oh, beautiful and wise. Let's get to the point, little slut. Although the slug princess tried to say it coldly, the corners of her mouth fell out. They still stretched a little into a smile. Do you have some business with me? Yes, I do. Do you recognize our godson, Jiraiya? I already ruffled the hair on Naruto's head. Kusina asked you to be the godmother, right? Ace woman felt insecure. Don't worry, Naruto knows everything himself, even more than you, and I know children go out for a walk. Tsunade, and I have a lot to discuss. Naruto and Shizune left the room in silence. Neither the blonde nor the brunette interrupted the silence. They limited themselves to waiting for their mentors. The wait lasted just over an hour, with the first stars already appearing in the sky. The tipsy and finally left the cafeteria. Tsunade has agreed to become Hokage. Now let's go to the hotel for tomorrow. Naruto woke up when the sun was already at its zenith. Looking around, the Uzumaki saw a note. Dear Ajado, Tsunade Shizune and I have gone to the casino. When we return, when we have spent all our money, or when we have won a decent amount of money, I think the first thing since one of Tsunade's nicknames is legendary loser. Don't be bored. Naruto shook his head and began to get dressed. As soon as the blonde was dressed, there was a knock on the door. Quotes, they're back. How fast they lost the money. However, instead of 3 known people, 2 strangers dressed in black capes with red clouds stood in front of Naruto. Is he Itachi? The shark-human hybrid asked. Yes, is he? Itachi. The image of a child who often visited the Uzumaki family with his mother. It emerged in the Rubio's memories. The blonde also remembered that child really liked the cookies that Kusina prepared. I'm sorry, but I don't have my mother's cookies, so I can't give you a treat. The Uchiha clan genie's eye twitched. And maybe he changed his gaze from his companion to his target, and vice versa. Naruto-kun, you are an order of our organization. You better leave willingly without more bloodshed. The Uchiha regained his composure. Uzumaki smiled. The flames burst from his hands, but the Nukenin escaped from the attack in time to cross the wall of the hallway that was right behind him. There is no more blood, you say? Naruto jumped to the ground, taking out his katana. As soon as the blonde fell on his feet, he immediately ran towards his rival with the intention of attacking him. The stab and the hard Kisame simply defended himself with Samada, and Itachi jumped back while observing with his Singen the actions of his opponent from outside. It seemed that Naruto had tripped over his own feet, but the next moment, he was already throwing himself to the side with his intention to cut and burn the fishman. Only thanks to his reflexes, Kisame managed to block the sword that was dangerously close to his neck, but still the heat of the flames hit Asaki. Itachi, do not interfere, I won't fight him myself. Maybe. He looked at the Rubio. It's a good sword you have, boy, and you fight well. You've been trained by a professional. You talk too much. Naruto put his hand on the ground. Instantly, the ground turned into sand and, following his master's orders, he began to attack one of the strongest members of Akatsuki, the Asake. Uzumaki first hung upside down and then tried to kick his opponent's face. However, Kisame calmly blocked the kick with his sword. And in doing so, he slammed his fist into Naruto's face, causing him to take a brief flight. Fire demon. Uzumaki exhaled a giant breath. 5 meters high, composed entirely of fire. Itachi involuntarily compared this technique to his Susanoo Suiton, a huge roaring wave, the Osage technique that not only soaked the entire sand, but practically extinguished the giant of fire. According to the raccoon's memories, the sand is a mixture of air and earth. I will try to break it down into its components by breathing in more air. Naruto released 100 translucent blades. Kisame defended himself calmly. With his sword. Kisame, stop playing, we have to catch him and deliver him to the leader. Itachi did, noticing his presence. Yes, I remember, but it's been a long time since I've seen such a young talent. I can barely stop myself from killing him. Naruto didn't respond, instead he put his hands on the ground. Nothing happened for a couple of seconds, but the next moment Kisame was holding me in a vice. Kill me. Uzumaki approached his sword and pulled it out of the ground. I will be the one to kill you. However, the next moment Naruto had to defend himself from a water dragon created by Itachi. By taking out a kunai, the Uchiha passed water chakra through him and freed his partner. You almost got yourself killed. You just underestimated him. Maybe he stretched my neck. It's rare to find a brat with 3 elements at once, but unfortunately we have to go now. As soon as the man PZ said that, his godfathers appeared next to Naruto, Jiraiya and Tsunade. Itachi looked at the guests. Kisame, let's go. If I fight Jiraiya we will both die, and you have 3 opponents against you, one of whom almost killed you. Osaka gritted his teeth but said nothing, throwing a smoke bomb at them. 2 Nukenin retired. A week had passed since Tsunade had become Hokage. At the request of her friend the Senju took a blood sample from the blonde. Hello. Jiraiya closed the door forcefully and Sanning himself had the palpable smell of thirst of blood. Yes, hello, how about it? Tsunade took some evidence out of a drawer. Take it as a sample of Naruto's DNA. Yes, thank you. However, the author of Uchiha did not even look at it. Tsunade wanted to talk to Yasi. Do you know what I saw? Without waiting for an answer, a girl continued playing with a ball, and Senju looked at her friend as if she were crazy. If it's a Yuga she can't play with a ball, she can play with the ball. But it's my ball, I made it myself with my own hands and gave it to my future godson. A month before Jiraiya was born he hit the table with force. Cracks appeared in the poor piece of furniture. Or do you think I don't recognize something I've done myself? Wait. Tsunade grabbed her head as her head was starting to hurt from Jiraiya's screams, but the slug princess didn't dare hit her old friend because he was now furious and could very well go after him in retaliation. It's not by chance the dance in which a frog with your hairstyle appeared exactly a second blow on the table, adding more creaking. I asked her where she had gotten that ball, and she told me that she had it given her father 7 years ago. Tsunade, I can't see them myself without a good reason, but you are the Hokage. Go see Ashi, tell him you want to discuss some matters of state and take a look. The slug princess listened attentively to her old friend, every time angrier. The village is more rotten than I thought. Senju cracked his knuckles. I'll check. The woman was almost about to leave but stopped at the threshold. Jiraiya, if it's true that the Yuga have taken everything that belongs to Naruto, what will you tell him? Of course, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to destroy Konoha. I'll tell you straight. Tsunade Jiraiya already glared at his former comrade in arms. I won't discourage him, I won't get in his way, and I won't let anyone get in his way. Filled with chakra, making Tsunade flinch slightly but quickly composed herself. Who said she was going to interject? The hermit toad was stunned by such words. But you are the Hokage. I had never seen that title. Kusina was like a daughter to me, and if you decide to help Naruto destroy the village, you have the person who runs the village as your assistant. There was an awkward silence. Thank you, Tsunade. Jiraiya smiled slightly. You're welcome. The hermit toad stared for a while at the door behind which his son had hidden first love, but then he looked away towards the analyzes. There were some chains, some entries that were too abstruse. Deciding not to rack his brain, Jiraiya headed to the hospital, where he was now. See Zune. Hello. Jiraiya-sama greeted politely. The brunette. Something hurts you, no? Yes. Zune, please explain to me what Tsunade wrote here. Of course, the girl took the documents and began to study them. Everything is clear. This is the chain of an ordinary person. Kato pointed his finger at the first image, and this one pointed at the second. It is Naruto's chain. Hun from about 6 months ago. Apparently everything had been analyzed, and here in the third was Naruto's DNA. Kun taken recently. The DNA has changed. It is stronger, more advanced. It was a genom. Now there are 2 thanks. Jiraiya politely thanked the girl and took the papers from her. After thinking a little, the Sanning Toad returned to the Hokage's office. Tsunade returned around dusk and was in a bad mood, to say the least. She was right. The woman destroyed the table with a single blow. As we walked towards Yasi's office, I saw the pictures Kusina had painted. I saw their jewelry, all the gifts we gave them. Senju was looking around the studio looking for something else to destroy, and we drank tea from his tea set. That bastard didn't even bother to stain the clan sign. Uzumaki, the gray-haired seinen, squirmed in his chair, afraid to interrupt his acquaintance Jiraiya's rant. If Naruto decides to destroy this village, you can count on my help. Thank you. The man bowed slightly. Tomorrow, I will tell our godson. I don't want to spoil the mood of the night. With those words, the gray-haired hermit disappeared in white smoke. Tsunade sorted the documents, mentally pleading with Naruto that it was ripe for the destruction of the village, because then there would be no damn document. Smiling before her thoughts, the Senju took out a bottle of serve, pour me a drink too?" Igri heard a voice from the window. The poor woman almost dropped the bottle in surprise. "Jiraiya," Tsunade pounced on her old friend like a battering ram. "Cracking your knuckles, you were trying to give me a heart attack alone in bed, honey." The next moment the Saiyan Toad had to dodge a punch. By quickly getting into the office, the man grabbed a chair and started to cover himself with it, even though he knew that a Satan and weak would not save him. "Tsu, calm down. I have come to talk as expected." The furniture suffered a devastating defeat in a single blow. Poor Sanning had to avoid the furious woman by jumping off the walls in the best tradition of Spider-Man and performing acrobatics that they would make Guy salivate with envy. The race lasted another half hour, and all because Senju remembered that she had a bottle of cold sake waiting for her. "Very well dressed, for now you live, but I won't give you service. Oh great and beautiful, don't deprive me of the great invention of humanity." Alcohol. Jiraiya sighed theatrically and covered his eyes with his hand in a sign of universal anguish. "I told it to our dear godson." His reaction surprised me. Tsunade telling the whole truth to his godson, the only thing he got in response was quotes in that. Sannin looked at Uzumaki, who did not react to the news at all. Yin Nat for his part looked at the blonde with fear, expecting a heavenly punishment for his clan's act. "You just heard what I just said." Jiraiya already took the ear staff that was lying nearby just in case, and he handed it to Naruto. Hearing Oyo, Uzumaki picked up his katana and hung it on his back. "For a long time now, I suspect that someone stole all my inheritance." The blonde smiled. "It only changes my plan slightly. I am going to train, and I have an idea to improve the technique of my father. At the same time I will train the raccoon's powers." Naruto had already started to fold the seals, but he stopped abruptly before the last one. Hinata stopped shaking. "I don't blame you at all when it happened. You weren't even born with it." The blonde disappeared in the white smoke from the call. You know what he meant about changing his plans. A little. Jiraiya looked at the girl who exhaled in relief. "I have no idea." And Nat also folded the reverse summoning seals, disappearing in the white smoke. The end of the flashback. "Any idea, Jiraiya?" Now she took a sip of the burning liquid. "It's hard to say. I think," she reflected. "The woman has been searching for a long time for the people who took everything from her. We've shortened her search by a few years, but it's hard to know what's going on in her head. But that doesn't change the question." Woman drank a glass of sake, but I'm glad he didn't flinch and blame his girlfriend. "Yes, that's right." Later that night all the villagers were already fast asleep, with only a few drunks still awake and looking for a place to get drunk, and almost the last one member of the Uchiha clan. "You didn't know that the little ones should already be sleeping?" A voice was heard from above. "Good night, little ones." It had finished a while ago. Figures with a note in their footsteps appeared in front of Moreno. "What other circus of freaks are you from? You have escaped." The cursed seal began to cover the Moreno's body, but in the next moment he was already lying on his amulet. When he looked at his opponents, he saw that the gray-haired creature of unknown sex was also covered by the cursed seal, only instead of tongues of fire, it contained something that looked like worms. "You're taking too long to create the seal, and it's only the first level." "What?" Sasuke's eyes opened wide in surprise. "There's a second level." "Of course there is, you damn piece of," he uttered. Taya, for which she received a slap from the Moreno, who had 6 arms. "Orochimaru-sama ordered us to take you to the Uchi." Sasuke. It seemed that Seiken simply had not realized the fray that was going on behind him. "Orochimaru-sama will give you powers that you never had before. You dreamed. This village limits you. We will wait for you tomorrow at the south gate. If you are not there, we will take you by force." With that, the force still disappeared in a swirl of leaves. The sun illuminated the calm surface softness of the waters of the blue lake. The crystal clear water tried to hide the undulations of the land beneath it, and even the waves that dispersed from the waterfall as it hit the smooth surface were incredibly small. The water seemed to have finally found peace, while the statues of those who once they were close friends and bitter enemies, Uchiha and Hashirama Senju, doubled the sign of the confrontation. There were 3 people standing on each side of the river. "See you in 3 years in the same place." The blonde said goodbye and headed in the other direction, smiling to himself because of how perfectly the flashback plan had gone. Sasuke was in front of the Rubio's house. The thoughts were running through his head like cockroaches. Breathing deeply, the dark-haired man knocked on the door. Despite everything, after a few seconds the door opened, but instead of the blonde it was Yuga who was in front of Lucia. "Is Naruto at home?" "Yes, come in. He is in the kitchen." The girl let the guest into the house. The Uchiha took a look at his partner's house. It was a small living room with threadbare, faded wallpaper that must have been pasted around the time of the first arc. The only piece of furniture in the living room was a tattered sofa whose legs had long since rotted and broken and had been devoured by starvation cockroaches. Looking to the right, the dark-haired man saw a wrinkled door that was held on a single rusty hinge. Walking quickly towards the kitchen, Sasuke saw Naruto sniffing at you. "Hello, what should I do? This visit, I'm leaving the village." The Uchiha decided not to beat around the bush and say everything straight to the point. That's fine, and Nad and I are leaving the village too. The Moreno's eyes opened wide at the news. He sat back down in his chair, and I listening a little while ago I came across an organization that captures jinchuriki, and I absorbed the chakra of those with tails, and thus I only become stronger. Naruto paused to take a sip of his tea. Found their base. The three of us will go there. Okay, I'll go to Orochimaru's. However, the name of the snake Sanning had no effect. It's the one that he bit his neck. He finished his tea. Yes, I had a visit from his subordinates last night. They can control this seal. It will make me stronger. Do you really think they will let you go so easily? Asked Hinata, listening to the conversation between the two friends. Are you the last wielder of the Rinnegan in Konoha? Would they prefer massacre dozens of clans rather than let you go? And that's what friends are for. Naruto stretched out, devising a plan in his mind. After a few minutes, Uzumaki turned to his companions again. Sasuke, you leave the village, then Hinata, and I will inform Tsunade. Before he could start to get indignant, the blonde interrupted him. She is for us. She said she would support me and everything. Yada and I, we will go after you. We will get a few more guys to help us, and we will ride quite a spectacle. Sasuke smiled. Just warn your idiots that Hinata and I are your friends. What will he do? Jiraiya Uchiha asked a reasonable question. Uzumaki wondered, will he cover his tracks so that no one finds out about your escape before you? I will arrange a place meeting with him later, said, and done. The next morning in the Hokage's office, Tsunade looked at the 5 genin. One of them saw that Uchiha Sasuke had left the village. Senju began his prepared speech. Most likely he went to the place from Orochimaru. As almost all experienced shinobi are on missions, I can only assign this mission to you. If Konoha will be appointed leader, you understand? Yes, sir, the genin replied with joy. Naruto said. He smiled to himself. In a single blow, he could finish off Los heirs of the Nara and Akamichi clan, and at the same time with a strange but strong guy in the green tights. The 5-man team took only 10 minutes to reach the south gate. A plan had to be devised at that moment. Uzumi could barely contain himself from burning to the reindeer herder, a rescue and emergency mission in addition, and decided to stay chatting enough. Lazy Naruto reflexively grabbed the hilt of his sword. If you want to discuss the formation, Hinata goes first, then me and the 3 of you will manage. Between all of us alone, Hinata will be able to find an opponent, and I have 2 powerful attacks. I will endanger the entire squad. The blonde mentally raised his eyes to the sky. I will do whatever it takes to avoid being caught, and the enemies need tactics. It was clear that Shikamaru was not going to give in, and he had to justify his title of leader in some way. Do you know his powers? Naruto poked the brown-haired man in the chest with his finger. None of us know anything about them, so stop looking in fear, covering up with creating a plan, and let's go to the rescue of a comrade. Sasuke will go around the world even dead and without help, and the small details can be discussed along the way. The reindeer herder had no choice but to accept. The squad began their chase, while Jiraiya and his 3 Tsuchi clones were trying to get in front of as many people as possible. Jui and they were already separated from the squad, worried about their opponents. Naruto smiled, abruptly picking up his sword, turned on its axis and slashed him in the face. Akamaru's throat. A look of incomprehension froze in Nara's eyes, but after a few seconds his eyes twitched with a thin film of glass. You know, Hinata. Uzumaki thought for a moment. I doubted that my PL would succeed, but it did. And Jiraiya already. He will head to the meeting point soon. I think we should hurry up. You're right. Wiping off the blood, the blonde hung the sword on his back end of the flashback. Where are we going again? Rain Village. Here we are. Jiraiya looked at his student, surprised at such anomaly. Just a couple of kilometers away from them, there was a flourishing forest, and now it was an area of endless downpours. What was the leader of a criminal organization doing in this place? He couldn't find a better place to live. It was clear that Naruto didn't like being in a place where there was a lot of water. I'm curious about that, but we just came to talk to him. Taking out a scroll, the unsealed 3-layered Sanning told Nagato, what's wrong with you? Konan ran towards his comrade. The bearer of the Rinnegan trembled like a leaf in the wind, coughing from time to time, as if choking. We have a visitor. The Redeed spoke with a hoarse voice, clutching his heart. 2 of them are too strong. One has as much chakra as Kage, the other has 40 times more chakra than Kisame, the third is a chun common. Although with difficulty Nagato was able to catch his breath. I will clean up the rain. You find those 3 uninvited guests. Meanwhile, the uninvited guests approached the highest tower where the village chief was rumored to live. Unseller said that no one had ever seen his boss. How sure are you that it's not fiction and your information is true? Jiraiya just pat Rubio on the shoulder. Believe me, he's here. Just because he doesn't show his face doesn't mean he's not here. I've been wondering who is he. Defeated Anzo the salamander. Anzo had once defeated me and 2 of my comrades single-handedly. Naruto's eyes rounded in shock. The current leader single-handedly killed Anzo, who defeated a trio of Sannin and leaves something that snake. Jiraiya, the leader of Akatsuki, is strong. Uzumaki reflexively grabbed the hilt of his sword but dropped it after a couple of seconds. I Understand that you are nervous, Jiraiya patted his godson's shoulder. It helps you relax when you pick up the sword. Yes, it relaxes me. They are waiting for us, Hinata informed her companions, inspecting the building with sub-Yugen. There are two of them. So let's not keep our hosts waiting. Jiraiya will already run forward in a couple of minutes. The new lords of the Rain Village, the Sannin, stood still. Nagato Konan. But I heard that you were dead. The rumors about our deaths have been a bit exaggerated, replied Chikasito, in a calm voice. Sensei, why are you here? Are you trying to stop us alone? Not at all. Jiraiya raised his hands in the air. I have come to talk to you. This is Naruto Uzumaki here, my new student. The man pointed to the blonde who had finally managed to reach his master. You see, Nagato, because of him there are no longer two Biju in the world, and since he is looking for Biju, he decided to ally himself with Akatsuki, the way of the animals. He jumped. Do you expect me to believe your story? Sensei is strong, I admit it, but I don't think he exterminated the two tails. No, he didn't, he has absorbed them, replied Naruto, interrupting to his Sensei, my father did a seal thing in which I absorb the Kola chakra and then our chakras merge into one. Do you expect me to believe that nonsense? Chikasito had already started to fold the seals but was interrupted once again. Nagato, check his memory. I know you can do it for a reason. I was your master. I don't know why you need tails, but it's not silly to give up three allies at once the way of the animals. He thought about it for a moment. After thinking about it a bit, he decided to test the blonde's memory. Another red-haired man with pierced inks and violet eyes appeared from the cloud of smoke. Ninjendo placed his hand on Naruto's head, beginning to scan his memory, except that no one had warned him that there were still memories of the two-tailed men in the Uzumaki's head. The information flowed powerfully into Ninjendo's brain, transmitting it at the same time to everyone else. King Nagato vomited blood. Thin streams of blood gushed from his nose and ears, and his head exploded from the amount of information. Nagato tried to catch his breath, but only he was able to do it after a few minutes. What's wrong with this? Naruto clearly didn't appreciate that some guy had been holding his head for a few minutes and that chick went somewhere. She's probably a little shocked by his knowledge. He was shocked, Hinata said, looking behind the figure in the wheelchair. Follow me, Chikas. He said it as suddenly as he had frozen a few minutes ago. Just him and I are going to talk in person. Jiraiya and Hinata were about to get indignant, but Naruto stopped them. It's okay. Chikishoto and Uzumaki walked through the hallways until they finally reached where the main body was waiting for anything, but clearly not a skeleton covered in leather sitting in a wheelchair. No judge a book by its cover. Nagato coughed violently. I have seen your memory, and I feel very bad that my plan went wrong. Because your father ruined the stamps. Why do you need glues? I can't believe it's just because you're bored. I want to bring peace. DOS law, most powerful force in this world. Nagato raised his hands to the sky. Who owns them? Owns the world. Humans are a bunch of fools who will find any excuse to fight. Religion, skin color, clan affiliation. I will use my tails to kill many of them, and then the survivors will unite, and then finally there will be peace. Naruto listened carefully to the monologue of the living dead. It's a good plan. Nagato looked at the blonde in surprise, but there are some nuances. The world like that won't last long. You yourself have said that people are a flock of fools. Sooner or later they will start arguing again, and everything will start with who is in charge and who will direct the rest. In the end your plan will be doomed to failure, and it is clear that you do not seem like the type of person who can live forever to settle constantly. The difference is exterminating the interesting majority. The Detail shook his head. You are very entertaining, Uzumaki. Naruto, you and I look alike. My parents were also murdered by Konoha Shobi before my eyes. We have both learned the pain and hatred of this world, although you have a lot to learn. So what do you suggest? Naruto thought for a moment. How about a closed village? The blonde looked directly into his companion's eyes. You believe you are a god. You just have to go beyond the limits. Create a closed village, an empire, devour all the Biju, and then the great villages will have no power. Help me, and I will help you. Nagato laughed. An empire, and who will be included in it? Only the people of my village, not only all the disadvantaged of this world, all those who are different from the flock, and over time the empire will only grow. It may not be world peace, but at least there won't be Gaara somewhere. Interesting. Nagato rubbed his neck. Let's try to follow what you say. Now I would like to talk to Sensei. After 2 months I suggest we start our meeting, said Tendo, looking at his two companions. The three allies were sitting in padded sack chairs on a small round table. There was a map of the Shobi world. The Rain village is among the 3 great villages. In case of war, we would be in trouble. The last time Rain became the battlefield of Konoha, Suna and Willow. And where do you propose to establish a closed city? Asked Naruto. Looking at the map, we need a place that is difficult to reach, but where our people can defend easily. Then I suggest the historic home of the Uzumaki clan, Whirlpool. Jiraiya already pointed out the place where the Redeed village used to be. Naruto frowned. Are you suggesting that we rebuild the village? Would take a long time for the 3 of us. However, the blonde was interrupted by Chief Pain. And it won't be the three of us. I will send all my men to this village, because Arena lost to Chibi. The other villages are preparing to go to war against it. I will not turn my homeland into another arena for the brainless Pack-sensei. He had a great idea, Jiraiya smiled. Everyone believes that the whirlpool has been destroyed, well the idiots exterminate themselves, making our task easier. The entire Brain Village will rebuild their historic homeland, and the Uzumaki were masters of seals. He intervened. Hermit Toad, I guess you don't mind taking back what is yours by right? No, I don't care. Looking at the map again, Naruto smiled, and Konoha is close, it won't cost much to destroy it. That's why I said you were too young, you still have a lot to learn, Tendo intervened. I have seen all of your memories. The Yuga have everything that belonged to you and you want revenge, but why destroy them all? Pain paused, observing the confusion on the blonde's face. It is just a fleeting pleasure. You will only enjoy your revenge for a few minutes. I suggest that you finish only the adult inhabitants, the infants, and all the scrolls and possessions are yours. If you want to create an empire, we will need members with the unique techniques of their clans. You will not only get many loyal subjects in the future, but also moral pleasure. Imagine you will see every day how the children of your enemies serve you and do everything you ask of them. Naruto thought for a moment that was an option that the blonde had clearly not considered. But yourself you finished the whole family. Anzo. Jiraiya blurted out the first thing that came to his mind, and only then did he realize what he had said. There were no children in his family, not even a muscle on Tendo's face flinched, or rather there was one, but I would be about 15 years old. It would be difficult to brainwash him, so that's what we'll do. Uzumaki looked at the map once again. He had already taken care of the location of the empire, and Konoha has something else. We found the Jinchuriki and Nibi and Idara and Sasori. They found Sambia. By which do you want to go? The two-tailed one, the blonde answered without thinking. Naruto didn't get along well with the bomber, but with Iden and Kakuzu, Uzumaki managed to find a common language. I'm going to gather information. Jiraiya is already up from his seat. I'm sorry. We have to find out what's happening in the world. Naruto headed towards the exit of the village where Jasina's priest and Akatsuki's chief accountant were supposed to be waiting for him. So boy, are you ready to catch one of these things with us? Ida was clearly eager to send his god many more victims. Yes, sorry I'm late. We know something about our objective. According to the information, his name is Yutnil, answered Kakuzu. Blonde 27 years old Jonin has excellent control over her. Biju, the three of us can finish her off in no time. Well, Naruto adjusted his sword, as out of habit, the image of a cat came to mind burning in blue flames. That cat has fire, nothing will change, only more chakra. The trio walked in silence towards the cloud village. Well, not exactly in silence, yet Dan and Kakuzu couldn't help but say to each other, some nonsense. Who are you going to shut up, bastard? I'll shut you up, old bastard. Bastard, Iden responded in his usual way. You'll get a deal, bastard. I've fought the first Okage before. Do you think I wouldn't kill a thug like you? Right-hand man. Kakuzu turned black. Kill him. I laughed. Loyal priest of Jasano, you make me laugh. Escrohem. Do. Naruto tried to ignore the argument. First of all, only a leader could make them shut up, because even Conan, being the helper, was no authority for anyone. Secondly, what a person normally. I would not even separate two immortals who are much stronger than the one who is separating them. After a few minutes of arguments, insults and threats, the two Nukenin calmed down. Hey, Naruto, the boss called the bok to the blonde. We are about to cross the country of fire. Something to worry about? We are not fine. Konoha is in the center. We can cross the border safely. The worst we will find will be a couple of gening teams with their loser mentors. At least we will have fun. Ida looked around waiting. See a potential victim for your god. Naruto, what does it feel like to kill Kam from your home village? I have only killed a couple. But it was an indescribable pleasure, and Konoha will definitely have a population crisis in the future. Iden thought it's rare to find a teenager with such a thirst for blood and the desire to destroy an entire village. You'll take me with you to kill those bastards. Of course, Kakuzu, you're coming too. There are a lot of rich people there. The waterfall Nukenin's eyes lit up and his mind began to race. Calculating large sums of money a week later. So you can't run away, bastard was. Of course, Ida wasn't happy about having to trap the Jinchuriki in the sewers. Not only did it stink, but the water dripping from the ceiling was making his hair ruffled. Kakuzu silently pursued his target, hoping that Naruto would not get lost in these catacombs and would come out in front of the blonde. Quotes, where am I going? Uzumaki looked at the fork in the road, only two options. But how infuriating it was, however, luck turned towards the blonde owl. Hearing a whole ton of three-story tall mater, Naruto immediately realized that Ida was at the left entrance, which meant he had to run to the right to intercept his target. The blonde didn't notice. He was wrong, although he didn't know where to go. Iden's partner was helping him orient himself, but Naruto found himself at a dead end, which is where I'm supposed to run now, listening carefully. The Uzumaki heard voices behind the wall to his left. Two looked familiar, but the third clearly belonged to a girl. The female voice is the closest, or does she just have a strong voice? Naruto created a race and destroyed the wall in front of him finally. Where the hell have you been, blonde bastard? Shut your mouth while you still have it. Naruto unsheathed his katana, but I am grateful your partner was a great navigator. The discussion between the Jashin priest and a relative of the Akatsuki leader was interrupted by a huge release of chakra. Now in front of the Nukenin was not a pretty blonde, but a huge two-tailed cat burning in blue flames. Nai decided that the blonde was an easy target and breathed a 10 meters fireball at him. Naruto just smiled and absorbed the technique that flew towards him. Iden attacked from behind with a sweep with his side. The ash-haired man left a deep cut on the Suiton cat's paw. Water bullet. The technique of the oldest member of Akatsuki hit Nibi right in the head. Uzumaki took advantage of the pull, jumping, and stabbed his katana into the cat's neck. Two tails. It was like an electric shock ran through his body, but now things were a little different. Now Naruto not only saw his target, but also himself, and in his head, there were two female voices talking. Iden Kakuzu, she is going to use the bomb of the line. At that moment, the two Nukenin did not wonder how the blonde Iden knew. He just began to wave his side left and right, causing more and more bodily damage to Nibi. Rayon false darkness energy began to accumulate in the mouth of the Akatsuki bag, later transforming into a ray. The technique reached Nai right in the head, almost hitting the blonde. Nai lost control of herself, tried to reach her enemies who like annoying flies attacked from two sides. After a few minutes the blonde realizing that the blonde was the most dangerous of all of them. Naruto could perfectly sense that the feline was already at its limit. Dodging the attack with his paw, Komaki jumped and stabbed his sword into the area of the chakra. The chakra rushed towards the blonde in a powerful wave. A few seconds later, the only thing that was facing the three non-Kenin was a dead blonde uncle. You are dangerous, she is dead. Kakuzu took her pulse, we needed her alive now, not anymore. Naruto flinched at the noise. Nibi had sharpened his tone a lot. I heard the leader had not warned you, now you have to hand me over to the jinchuriki. Now I am fulfilling the role of that statue. You hand me over to the living jinchuriki, and I killed them by absorbing the tails, but that pierced bastard didn't tell us anything, so he must having had his reasons. Let's go. Naruto was the first to head to the exit, and there are four. Biju Tendo looked at the blonde. Madara and Sasori made quick work of catching the one following them. Pain watched as the blonde devoured the huge turtle. Just a few seconds, and the three tails had disappeared as if he had never existed. Yes, the only thing missing is to see his memories. Naruto explained what he meant when he saw the look of confusion in his eyes. That way I can take his powers once and for all. Sitting in the lotus position, Uzumaki began to meditate. After a few minutes he managed to enter his subconscious. He is the same as always. The blonde smiled as he looked at the familiar molten golden door next to the wind pillar. There was a pillar of blue flames, with a very real geyser at his side. Naruto approached the chakra that used to belong to Nibi. The beginning was no different from the previous to an old red-haired man. 9 pigtails humans trying to seize power. The changes had begun since World War II. Uzumaki had seen Nibi Sambi Uchiha destroy the whirlpool. The red-haired shinobi tried to contain the Biju with Fuinjutsu and chains, but the forces were not equal. The Uzumaki clan could only resist a little more than a day. From then on, all the memories they passed at an astonishing speed until the moment Matatabi died. Naruto grabbed his head. It felt like someone was hitting him from the inside with a hammer. So Cloud destroyed my clan, the same fate awaits them. As Konoha, Naruto did not feel any particular hatred for the Cloud shinobi. It was one thing to kill your own mother, whose life you had seen with your own eyes, and quite another to kill a bunch of strangers. Even if they were familiar. After waiting for her head to completely clear, Naruto approached the water pillar. The beginning as expected was the same as the rest of the Callistas. However, Sambi had been traveling to different villages more than any of the others. First he was captured by the Shinobi of the Mist, then he was kidnapped by the Shinobi from Waterfall. Kumo was the next. World War II and the destruction of the whirlpool. Only then the Shobi of the Mist recovered Sambi. The only useful thing Uzumaki had learned from all those memories was how Kakashi had killed his girlfriend Naruto. He enjoyed watching the shinobi of Konoha suffer more than anything else. It's time to go back. Uzumaki concentrated and returned to the real world. You learned something useful. You're calm. It's like it's none of your business. It is. Naruto stretched his neck. I don't feel hate since I didn't know them, but I just want to take revenge on those who killed my relatives. I want to do to them the same thing that I did to Konoha. Okay. My men have informed me that someone is preventing them from entering the whirlpool. Uzumaki's eyes began to occupy half of his face. Let's see who is guarding the ruins. Following the Rubio and Yako's body, Yada was going a week later. Naruto was in shock. The Uzumaki expected to see the ruins of his family's homeland, but now there was a real rebuilt village in front of him. All the houses looked almost exactly like in the Biju's memories, even the doors, although wrinkled. Did not look ruined as the blonde advanced or I the sound of the air splitting, and he jumped away from the weapon that was flying towards him. I don't know who you are, but I didn't come here to fight. Naruto slowly pulled out his katana and tossed it aside. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, and I have come to return the Ino to its former glory. The voice seemed to come from everywhere, and only Hinata could see the owners. Those voices with her Yugen, I'm not lying, my mother's name was Uzumaki Kusina, if that name means anything to her. You prove that you are Uzumaki. The voices they have heard again. If you are lying we will kill you. Naruto began to think frantically about how he could prove that he was in Uzumaki. Remembering the memories of Yubi Nibi and Sambi, the blonde found something in common between them, something he had not thought about much before. If you mean I didn't wake up the chakra chains. The voices sounded like they were coming from all directions again, but it was impossible to distinguish what they were saying. There is another way, you will go alone. Naruto just nodded and headed towards the entrance of the village. Before he could walk a meter, an old man attacked him and tied his hands with a chakra chain. The old man put a bag over Naruto's head and began to guide him. After 20 minutes of walking, they finally took the bag away. Naruto Silva was there. In a kind of dungeon right in front of him there was a crystalline lake from which light came out. Do you like it? The old man asked in a hoarse voice without waiting for an answer. He took out a kunai and stabbed his relative's finger. Naruto didn't ask why this was done. Meanwhile the old man dropped some drops in the lake. Instantly the lake was dyed blood red, and black lines began to appear in the center. A moment later, the black lines adopted the mark of the Uzumaki clan. It turns out that they were not lying, the chains that held the blonde disappeared instantly. Why, you're here, I told you before. I'm here to restore the whirlpool to its former glory. Those rain shobi came to rebuild houses, Naruto interrupted. I didn't think anyone had rebuilt the village in a long time. They just live here. A few old people we come here when we feel that we don't have much time left alive, and only those who survived World War II come, and it is better to die in a rebuilt town, not in a ruin without a cemetery. The old man sighed. I see. Naruto looked at the lake, it was crystal clear again. If it weren't in Uzumaki, this lake would still be white. 5 for thinking and I would have killed you. It was now that Naruto could see his interlocutor clearly. The old man was about 2 meters tall and had a muscular build. Blonde couldn't see his eyes due to his tangled gray hair. Since I have proven that you and I are from the same clan, you can't let my comrades rebuild the village. If I see no reason to stop them. He emitted a wave of K so powerful that even Naruto was shocked. He cowed a little. An agreement deal made. 3 months later Naruto was sitting on the roof of the tallest building as that muscular old man turned. This building belonged to the head of the clan. It was currently the new headquarters of Akatsuki. Uzumaki observed with pleasure. How is it? He was rebuilding the village. There were only a couple of houses left and a door. Enjoying the views, a hoarse voice said. Yes. He turned. Naruto stopped for a few seconds. Looking at his relative, he turned. He gestured for the blonde to speak as he woke up. The chakra circuits. Training. And more training. But there is a second way. Twist exhaled a stream of smoke, only it is a bit dangerous and not humane. We used it during the First World War to instantly help our clanmates awaken those chains. I do not approve of this practice, but it helped us survive at the time. Help me awaken these chains. Naruto stood up from his seat. I do not have time for years of training to awaken the chains. I need to master them much faster, so let's go. He turned. He put out his cigarette in his hand, and he didn't even make a face. I think the training ground has already been cleared. So we'll train there. The two Uzumaki walked towards the nearest training ground. The second method was to infuse his chakra, but it's not as easy as removing the jinjutsu as all the chakra injected into all the tenketsu at once. It is a very unpleasant process, and if you do not restrain your emotions you can incapacitate or kill your clanmate. The most notable thing is that it really does not matter how much chakra you have, you will continue feeling pain when you wake up. Are you sure you're willing to take that risk? Nods. Well, he turned. He placed one hand on Naruto's head and put the other close to his heart. At first Naruto didn't feel anything. It wasn't until later that he felt a slight tingling throughout his body. Then the tingling became much stronger, and the channels felt like they were full of lead. The pain grew more and more with each passing second, but Naruto endured it bravely. Finally the torture was over. The blonde fell. His chakra channels hurt on the ground. His entire body felt like he had been put through a meat grinder and then slammed against an anvil with a few molten needles stuck in just in case there was a noise in his ears. And everything swam in front of his eyes. But Naruto wouldn't be in Uzumaki if he didn't have greater resistance and regeneration, and you recover faster than he expected. He turned. He helped the blonde get up. Rest for a few minutes, then I'll teach you how to loosen the chains. Thanks for that, but for why does your whole body hurt so much? I definitely have more chakra than you. It was like adding a drop of water to the sea. You may have more chakra, but that doesn't affect your organs. When you see the incomprehension, he pointed his finger first at his head and then to the heart. No matter how much you train, your organs won't turn into titanium. You may have as much chakra as all the humans in history combined, but that won't affect your strength. Inject chakra into your brain and your heart. That's why it hurts. Now I understand why most Yugas are so arrogant they hit the Tenketsu and the organs. I don't like Yuga. To prove his point he broke a tree. We may be distant relatives, but they bother me. Wait, Naruto began to intensely digest the new information. Uzumaki and Yuga are related. Well, yes, the old man shrugged his shoulders. Uzumaki, Yui, Uchiha and Senju, the four of us have a common ancestor, but that was about 1,000 years ago. We only got along with Senju, the others were too arrogant, lose a one-on-one fight, and you will listen to 3 hours of verbal diarrhea and 1,000 excuses if they win. It's the same, except that they believe they are gods, and their opponents are nothing. Gyro spat, that's why I don't trust your friend. You don't have to worry about her. Hinata was kicked out of the clan, and she's been wanting to kill her relatives for a long time. Gyro laughed at the Naruto's words. Even the Yuga already realize how rotten their clan is. Another fit of hysterical laughter. Good for you, encouraging the old man. Very good, let's start training. The old Uzumaki became serious in an instant. He once again perceived an incomprehensible smell, creepy, making for Naruto to take a step back. Although the blonde knew he had nothing to fear the chain and the way it appeared in his hand, Naruto extended his right arm and began to intensely visualize the image of the chain. The chain came out, but not completely from the right place. I asked for a chain from my arm, not from my tailbone. I turned. Couldn't contain my laughter. The gray-haired Uzumaki could only calm down after a few minutes. Very well, I'll go. I had to practice after 3 years. Kareem, what are you doing up? Sasuke looked at the red-haired girl. The red girl trembled like a poplar leaf as she turned pale. Chakra, the girl's throat tightened and she swallowed nervously. What, Satsu? He moved closer to the girl. What are you muttering? Chakra, Uzumaki repeated. Scary chakra. It's the first time that I feel such a powerful, terrifying chakra. Sasuke smiled. So we have found it is him. Karen, where exactly does this chakra come from? I want to see an old friend. The Uchiha was inwardly ecstatic, but outwardly, it was only expressed in a satisfied smile. Great, I will give Karen to Naruto. It's a good sensor, but it's useless on its own for Uzumaki to suffer with it over there. The girl pointed in the direction with her finger. The Uchiha took off immediately without waiting for the members of his squad. Juice had to Karen and run after him. Dark Sagetsu followed him lazily. At the end, half an hour later, Sasuke was standing like a tapir right in front of him. There was a huge wooden door with very robust looking iron. Inserts Whirlpool Empire, said the inscription on the gate that the dark-haired man read. When looking at the spiral sign of the same door, the Uchiha involuntarily remembered his comrade. As soon as the Moreno approached the door, it opened and 2 people, a boy and a girl, came out to meet him. Hello, Sasuke. Naruto extended the hand that Ilia immediately shook. Hello to you too. Hello, Hinata. The girl just nodded. How did you know I was here? Asked the last of the Uchiha. For the sake of decorum, a barrier. There is a barrier around the village that informs of the guests, and Hinata used her Yugen to see what kind of guests they were. Come, I'll show you the place. Smiling satisfied, the blonde answered. The Uchiha, just like his companions, listened attentively to the blonde. Well, he only had time to observe the village. Behind the robust stone walls stood buildings of between 5 and 7 floors, also made of stone that looked like 2 peas in a pod. Their appearance was painfully reminiscent of the uchel of the native mushrooms of Konoha. All the buildings and walls lacked a single crack, which indicated that they had been built recently. Amazing, Sasuke whistled now. It was not a ruin, it was almost a large village. The guests and their companions crossed a commercial street in a residential neighborhood, and Sasuke's team observed the area with interest. The locals were actively haggling with each other and the little ones. Visiting merchants were loudly soliciting customers. The buildings in the neighborhood were also multi-storied. Occasionally there were private houses of wealthy merchants here and there. Even rarer were the original houses that had survived the war and the destruction of the town later. In the center of the village stood the solitary but enormous building of the empire, the Uzumaki Palace. This multi-story building was the largest and tallest in the village. It was right where the guests approached and things approached. They are changing, and this world is going to undergo a great change. Uzumaki smiled as he entered the main building of the empire. Everything is changing, except your appearance. Sasuke jumped at his own joke. Naruto just smiled because he was still wearing the same as 3 years ago, loose black pants, a t-shirt black and the cape of the same color. The only differences were the size of the clothing and the black gloves with cut fingers and steel inserts, and Nat for her part, now preferred to wear a snow-white kimono, with the insignia of the Uzumaki clan on the back. After a few minutes walking through the hallways, the group of 6 entered a small room. Light-colored wallpaper, 2 sofas and a round table were all that was in the room. How was your training with the snake? Sasuke. Naruto served orange juice in a glass, but the guests rejected it. Orochimaru is dead, and so is Itachi. Congratulations, I still have to destroy Konoha. Cloud. He took a sip from his glass and catch 5 jinchuriki. I will help you. Sasuke was silent for a few seconds meditating on the words, but in exchange, he would not reject a part of the land you want to return. They're cheeky to my empire, it seems fine to me anyway, soon there will be a great territorial expansion. I will give you a part of it. The Uchiha smiled satisfied. Done. Karen juiced Sujetsu. Go out. I need to speak privately with you. Sujetsu and Karen were immediately outraged by what Juice had to kick out his companions. Naruto, when I came here, I saw several people in Akatsuki uniforms and you knew about Itachi's death. You are the new leader. Akatsuki. No, Akatsuki and I are only allies, Hinata replied, and I only run the empire. Naruto. Sasuke was silent, thinking about his words. When I killed Itachi, I woke up in a dungeon with an Akatsuki member next to me. I was wearing an orange mask and a Sharingan in the right eye. Do you know who it was? No. Naruto looked at Hinata. The girl shook her head from side to side. I had never seen him. What else? He said it was time to capture the jinchuriki and that he needed me for the plan. Plus Sasuke interrupted again. Naruto handed him a glass of juice that Ilia drank instantly. Don't forget, now you're not the only one who wants to kill the elders of Konoha. I see, I think I have to talk to Nagato. The next moment there was an explosion that made the entire building shake. What the hell was it? That, to the surprise of everyone present, was Hinata, who asked a few moments before. Nagato was sitting in his room, making a plan for his Rubio successor. At the request of the ring bearer Megan, his room was the same as in Ama bare walls, a small wooden table and a couple of lamps and a window for lighting. And you are still in business? Nagato. Uzumaki shuddered at that familiar and hateful voice. I would be happy with you, but the room was filled with bloodlust. You have betrayed me. Ksu told me everything. What you have to say in your defense? I am not going to respond to a fool like you. Several missiles appeared from Nagato's hand. Obito let the missiles pass through him, taking advantage of his immateriality. Ilia entered into hand-to-hand combat without Riteni. The wave, expensive, destroyed the small room where the two Akatsuki members were located. Obito threw explosive seal kunai in all directions. A couple of the kunai hit right on the wheelchair. There was an explosion that made the building shake. The wave of the explosion launched Uzumaki on the summoning street. The bird appeared from the cloud of smoke, picking up its master. Nagato groaned silently in pain. He had torn off the legs of the Rinnegan's guest, but Nagato wouldn't be in Uzumaki if he gave up so easily. Ignoring the pain, the Akatsuki leader folded the seals of the smoke cloud again. 6 red-haired men appeared, impaled by Kaiten. A whirlwind of fire. Toby exhaled a 10 meters ball. But Kaido began to absorb the enemy technique. Serato fired several projectiles and Chikasudu. He summoned a bull, a chameleon and a dog to Obito. The real game of survival had begun. Not only were the animals and missiles attacking from all sides, but Naruto came running, and with him Hinata, the Taka team, Konan, Kakuzu and Iden. Upon seeing Toby, Naruto's memories of the fox of the masked man who took the fox out of Kusina returned to Naruto. Nagato. Konan headed towards his partner, as did the other members of Akatsuki. Naruto, for his part, attacked Obito. Iden, take your side, a black creature. It emerged from Kakuzu's body instead of a face. The creature had a white mask with red lips. The creature exhaled a column of flames on the side. After that, Iden placed the blades. Red hot at the feet of Nagato leader. But this is to stop the bleeding. I don't want to hurt you, I swear by my mother. Kakuzu was taken out of reality by the words of his companion, as was everyone who even remotely knew the priest of Jason. Nagato. He was paler than death, wheezing, dead immediately. The summoned animals disappeared at once. Moment Obito was finally able to catch his breath. The constant attacks had reached their target, and now Uchiha was missing her right arm and left leg. Hey bastard, Naruto smelled the bloodlust. You were the one who attacked Konoha 16 years ago, right? You killed the fourth and his wife. With every word the bloodlust became stronger and stronger. Naruto lost control of himself and was releasing huge amounts of chakra from his body, making Karen Yu and Su faint from fear. Oh Naruto-kun, how have you grown? Obito said mockingly. The last time I saw you, you only had a few seconds. You were orphaned in about 20 minutes. But don't worry, I'll reunite you with your parents. Toby just disappeared. He didn't go underground. He didn't warp space. He picked it up and disappeared without the slightest noise, as if he wasn't even here. The next moment the Uchiha appeared behind Naruto's back, pulling out a kunai to attack, except the fake Madara was clearly oblivious to the fact that he was surrounded by enemy Kakuzu, and Sasuke exhaled pillars of flames. Iden brandished his guarana, and Hinata sent a shock wave against the Moreno. Naruto, thanks to his reflexes, he jumped to the side. Obito only managed to become intangible at the last moment. Naruto can only be intangible for 5 minutes. Konan shouted it as loud as he could so that all his companions could hear it. You all have to attack constantly, don't give him any respite. Thank you. Naruto immediately pounced on his opponent, constantly attacking with sand and fire. Obito tried to run away from the blonde to catch his breath, but Kakuzu prevented him. Sasuke and Naruto attacked from afar, while Iden did so by burning clothes, even though Iden had almost all of his skin burned and many of his muscles were already black from the burns. The priest Hassan continued to attack, constantly avenging his leader. Uzumaki created several spikes from the ground, but Lucia frankly didn't care, even though she was already running out of strength, and now Kamui's time was up. Ida practically cut Hibito in half. Blade piercing his left and the heart to the liver. Naruto was just as determined to keep up with him, pulling his katana out of the sheath. He stabbed the sword into Lucia's head. The blade came out of her right eye. "Hey Aiden," stammered the blonde, looking staring at the piece of burned flesh that was walking. "I'm so sorry for having hurt you." "Be it, Uzumaki, what the hell are you talking about? Do you think this is going to kill me?" Jasina's priest laughed. "I don't care at all. Sasori will come back and cure me. He has a few medical dolls in her Barbie dollhouse. The important thing now is to take care of our leader Minato. It's time for you to go to bed." Yada interrupted the story of the head of the family. "Well, Mom." Uzumaki Jr. clearly didn't appreciate not being allowed to finish the story. "Dad only got to the point where some Toby attacked our empire. As soon as Dad tells me everything, I'm going to bed. I promise you." And Nat looked at her husband. He had promised him the future as emperor would not go back on his word. The brunette sighed. "Well, Naruto, and when you finish your story, hurry up and go to bed." "Well." The former Yuga smiled and left the room. "Then I'm done with Toby's attack." "Right." Miyato nodded. "Then listen to what happened next. 10 years ago." Nagato struggled to open his eyes. His whole body hurt. As if there were when he heard his name pronounced with warmth and concern. Uzumaki turned his head. "Conan, the red-haired boy," nodded. The girl just nodded, bringing a glass of water to the red-haired man's lips. Nagato drank it. Instant. "Toby, where is the ring?" Rinnegan tried to get up, but the girl forcibly knocked him down again. "Shh, he's dead. Our friends killed him." The blue-haired girl put a soaked cloth on her partner's forehead. "Except you lost a lot of blood, and your legs." The girl struggled to hold back her tears, but Nagato just lay down on the pillow. "Conan, because there is nothing stopping me from lying down." The blue-haired girl shook her head, wiping away her tears. "The chakra transmissions from your back have disappeared. Sasori said that you don't have more than a month left." Conan couldn't stand it and cried. However, Nagato didn't express any emotion. He just held the girl close to him for a month. Then Nagato sighed. "I knew I didn't have much time left alive. I didn't tell you, but every day it was getting worse. Toby, it only made my condition a little worse." "But what about Conan?" However, he was never allowed to finish. "Conan, I want you to deliver a message to our comrades, and I need a doctor for the eye transplant." The Akatsuki members themselves continued to capture the tails. Sasori and Deidara, they captured Nanabi. "Well, Kisame handed over Yambi. You learned something new." Although Sasuke was not a sensor, he could perceive the amount of chakra his friend had. Almost nothing. Naruto stretched out. The 7 tails had wind. Only the macaque of 4 tails was useful. It had lava. "I've been thinking." Sasuke remembered information from several Chimera gold scrolls. "The worst enemies of the Uchiha used to be the Senju, and they defeated us in a war. Plus the Senju, they had a special Kai Genkai Mokutane." 3. Uzumaki shamelessly interrupted. "Dear friend, I saw in Yubi's memories how the first Okage used the Mokutan to make the Biju bring slippers between his teeth. How is that going to help me?" Maybe the Uzumaki Uchiha and Senju share a common ancestor, but each one had its own characteristics. You have the Sharingan, Yuga has the Yugen, Senju has the tree, and the Uzumaki were known for their resistance, their strong chakra, and their Fijutsu no. Had not finished. The Moreno decided to silence the verbal flow of his partner. "You absorb those of tail. Their chakra is your chakra. You can decompose the lava into its components." "Now I understand what you wanted to say." The blonde smiled. "I have water of Sambi and land of Ichibi and Yambi, only that I will have to practice." "You can think about that later," said Sasori. Sasuke almost he jumped in surprise when he saw the puppet master silently enter the room. "Nagato has one last request for you, leader," which Sasori immediately left the room. Uzumaki only had to follow the Nukenin out of Suna. After walking through several corridors, the 2 renegades arrived at the room. "Nagato's room, I'll leave you with it." The puppeteer came out and closed the door. "Nagato, what's going on? Why did Sasori call me leader?" Naruto decided not to beat around the bush. "If you're going to die, I'll personally go down to hell for your soul. I will resurrect it, and then I will beat you up." The ring bearer Negan smiled at me. "Anyway, I only have a month to live. Have you heard of a man's last wish being the law?" Naruto nodded. "My wish, transplant my eyes to yourself." "Nagato, are you kidding?" A jet of chakra erupted from the blonde. "You made me the leader of Akatsuki, and you ask me to transplant your eyes? Think about it carefully." A few seconds ago Nagato could barely speak, but now the firmness had returned to his voice. Despite his appearance, he managed to inspire fear. "Right now I'm as useful as Oats Milker as Ida as a literature teacher. I can't control the pains right now. I don't want to disappoint my men." "No, I'm not going to disappoint my men." Seeing that Naruto wanted to say something, the Rididi made a gesture that it wasn't over. "We have Byakugan and Sharingan wielders. The only thing missing from the set is a healthy and strong wielder of the strongest Jujutsu. Do my will. Transplant my eyes. At least until you destroy Konoha Logger." But there is a condition: transplant only one eye. I am sure you would like to see Konoha reduced to rubble and its children turned into obedient servants." Nagato smiled. "I knew I had made the right decision in appointing you my successor. I suggest that let's begin our meeting." Mifune looked at the 5 Kaj who were they looked in disbelief. Each of them expressed their emotions in their own way. Some hit the table with their nails, others looked around with their eyes half closed, others made their hatred perfectly clear. "I despise." Others wanted to sleep and had been dragged here at this early hour of the morning that it was time to eat, and others were frankly bored. "I will represent the neutrality Raj-san, because he has summoned the council of Kaj." The long-haired man asked the question that everyone wanted to know. Akatsuki, the cloud ruler, responded immediately, removing his clasped hands from his mouth. "At first, we didn't want to announce that we had lost our jinchuriki, but then we heard rumors that other villages had also lost their tails." Many Kages shuddered slightly at that phrase. "That's why I have summoned you all to form an alliance." Tsuchikage jumped, muttering something vaguely similar to "Dubiame, alone." Even more, he had expected to hear it from anyone. Even if it was his resurrected grandfather or his brother. Yes, even a marriage proposal from Orochimaru would not be as unexpected as that of the Raikage. But Buki, the current head of the village hidden in the sands, was outraged to the core. "Alliance." The Gaara's former mentor hit the table so hard that the Heast chief's eye twitched. "When we lost our tail 3 years ago, Cloud declared war on us. Not a single day went by without our people shedding blood on each other, and now you propose an alliance?" "That's right." The rake also hit the table, although with more than 7 times the force, shattering it in the process. Mifune could barely contain himself. The table was made of pure marble, custom-made and expensive, and it was being hit and broken by everyone. "Mr. Raikage, I must ask you to stop." "Calm down." The leader samurai narrowed his eyes at the ruler of Kumo. Kazekage-san is right. For 3 years, you have been trying to take over his country, also occasionally attacking the country of water. Given these facts, as well as your explosive nature, the alliance will not last more than 5 minutes. That is an exaggeration, and you are going to let some monsters with capes continue kidnapping those in line. The Raikage kicked the table again, but they didn't give it to him. "Calm down, stupid." A transparent white cube appeared in the hands of the Raikage. "Tsuchikage, we all know that your brother is a jinchuriki. You want to keep him safe at the expense of our shinobi." Inoki interrupted the technique while smiling, looking at the angry face of an old acquaintance. "My village lost its sneaks and screw them, none of mine was hurt. Okage must take care of his people. I will sacrifice my granddaughter for my village. The life of many is more important than that of one, even if it is a relative." The Ray clenched his teeth with rage so much that the enamel of some of them wore away. But he didn't care. At that moment, the Raikage took a swing and tried to hit his old man in every way known in the head. A wave of chakra full of bloodlust began to emanate from Kumo's head. Among all those present, I only noticed. She noticed that the bodyguards were not reacting in any way to such a thing. Her girl saint, her bodyguards, they always stand idly by when they attack her, she asked in a way that was too polite for anyone who knew her even a little bit. The Mizukage's words made everyone calm down instantly, and they began to look around as suddenly the next moment white creatures began to emerge from the table, the walls and the chairs, trapping everyone present in a steel vice. I doubt that the corpses could protect their masters. Izukage-sama, a 17-year-old blonde boy, entered the room while tearing off several papers with the Kania twist in them. Even the samurai could feel the enormous amount of chakra emanating. "El Rubio, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, and I am the new leader of Akatsuki. Your bodyguards were killed with poisons on. We have an excellent poison specialist. One shot a corpse in a second. What are you doing here, bastard Raikage?" roared the man. Now he looked like a bull enraged, and only Zetsu separated that bull from Uzumaki. "You are not the one to open your mouth, Raik." The wave of chakra that emanated from the Rubio crushed everyone instantly. "Your people destroyed my clan, your people tried to kidnap my mother, and you people tried to kidnap my girlfriend, so shut your mouth, you piece of—" "While you still have her, our leader, he knows how to speak." Aiden turned away a non-existent tear as I stood at the door listening. Sneakily the conversation, our interactions with him have been good for him. Maybe he rolled his eyes, wondering why Naruto had brought him with him with the Dara. "And Zetsu, I give you an ultimatum. Oh, let's hand myself over to everyone. What the hell do you need tails for, brat?" Tsuchikage tried to get away, but realized that it was useless. Ksu held his victims tightly while absorbing chakra. "It seems like you've been watching cartoons." The Tana letting the fire chakra flow brought the hot iron down on the Raikage's face. The Kumo boss howled, and everyone cowered at the smell of burning flesh. "You don't need to know my goals, just understand this. If not, I will destroy you all with me." Uzumaki put away his sword. Mikey vomited when he saw the Rake's face. His entire left side was practically singed. Only a few pieces of black flesh covered the skull. The blonde had left Kumo's head alive on purpose. In order not to hurt his brain, Naruto was going to kill the Rake in the longest and most painful way possible. "I don't care if the 6-tailed belongs to Mist and the 8-tailed belongs to Cloud, everyone will suffer." Wait, the six-tailed has been a Nukenin for a long time, he hasn't. Had nothing to do with mist for years he tried to grab at the only straw, but his hopes were quickly dashed. I already told you. Naruto narrowed his eyes slightly, releasing more chakra. I don't care, you have a week to give me the remaining two. I will be waiting in my old friends, House Ande Mokage. Uzumaki paused in Tsuchigumo no Sato, because as far as I know no one else can control spiders so long. The next moment the building shook and everyone present was deafened by the noise. Explosion. Uzumaki mentally thanked his subordinate for the special effect for his exit. Naruto smiled. Leaving the room he headed towards the exit of the palace. Uzumaki walked calmly through the corridors soaked in blood. There were samurai lying everywhere, some with the poisons on in their neck, others headless, and he knew that they had been strangled by their own intestines when they left the main building. The blonde looked with satisfaction at the iron land embraced by the flames. Deidara, come down, our business here is finished. Naruto, we have to talk. Tendo approached the blonde. The Uzumaki himself was sitting on a small edge, with a wonderful view of Tsuchigomori to control his elements and mix them all in any combination. I know because I see what he sees. But never mind. The maiden's path was abruptly silenced. Naruto guessed Nagato was having another coughing fit. So recently, Konan overheard a conversation between Zetsu and Kisame. Our spy was asking about your abilities and how much Kisame believes in you as a leader. Naruto stood up a little, showing his interest. I will start by saying that Kisame wants a world without lies. He doesn't care who he follows, as long as there is someone who can eradicate all the intrigues, lies and deceptions. I didn't know he was so sentimental. The blonde smiled. Don't get me wrong, but I thought Kisame was even more bloodthirsty than Aiden. After all, he is a shark. Did you know that only 30% of sharks lay eggs and that the babies of the other 70 mature in their own interior, and that the babies that gloss before their time eat their unborn brothers? Tendo shook his head. That's why I thought that Kisame, like a shark, is the most dangerous predator among us. You keep stepping on the same rake. Kisame is one of the most loyal of your organization. Ours. Naruto smiled. Well, Kisame's loyalty to the organization was second only to Konan's. He didn't know that Obito was the leader, and if I have named you my successor, then you are the new leader. I will talk to Kisame about the empire, don't worry about him. But Ksu is a problem since Obito's death. He has been acting strange. How does it manifest? Although the clone tried to stay calm, he was still tense. Talking about you, it's like he was trying to destroy the organization from within. I will take care of him. He was about to try one of the Rinnegan's abilities, the way of men who do. I have to worry about everyone. Seeing the incomprehension on his relative's face, Rubio Nagato began to explain himself. I named you new leader Konan Isel to the organization. Hinata and Sasuke are clear about it. Kisame, as I said before, he just wants a world without lies. I think the idea of an empire where everyone is equal. Even if there is a clan above them, he is interested, he is fine with Aiden, and he is willing to kill everyone for his god. He can't wait to attack Konoha to appease Hasan. Kakuzu is only interested in money. It's a good idea to put him in charge of the empire's money, of course, and the money will continue to grow more and more. But with Sasori and Deidara, they came to Akatsuki by power. Sasori killed the strongest Kazekage when he was 15 years old, and Deidara dreamed of power after his defeat against Itachi. Do you have something that interests them? Naruto was thoughtful. After thinking about it for a few moments, Uzumaki responded, I will give each member of the organization a portion of me power. The Biju's chakra has already fused with mine. I will give each of you a portion of my interesting power. I think you will appreciate it. Tendo lowered his gaze, and I thought there was no one in Zagomo. Naruto also lowered his gaze. Thanks to the ring, Megan was able to see some houses where people lived. Invite them to our house, Nagato advised. They would be good for us. From what I know, they have an earthquake technique, a good addition to the empire, although I will invite them myself. I am good at persuading people. Thanks, Nagato. Naruto stretched. You're welcome. That's the thing, there's a lot to be grateful for. When I came to you, I was just a resentful teenager who wanted to destroy Konoha. You gave me a goal to unite the world. You taught me a lot. You helped me rebuild my historic homeland, and you even wanted to give me your eyes. And now you are doing everything possible to make me a ruler, someone who can lead the people. I am very grateful to you. You are a much better leader than me. And certainly better than Obito. Thank you very much. These are very nice words. Nagato smiled. Although no emotion reflected in Tendo's face. You know, it's better to apply the yang. I doubt that Tendo's face will convince them to go away. By the way, Tendo made my best friend Yako and had a lot of purse girls following him, so at least take him away. All piercings seriously. If a man with piercings approached me, I would punch him in the face. I wouldn't follow him. There was silence. After a few minutes, the two men laughed. To say that Naruto had returned angry from the salamander world was to say nothing. No, only none of the Kage had appeared, but Zetsu had turned out to be a traitor. I hadn't realized that we had been pawns of the Black Zetsu all this time, Nagato said in a weak voice. It doesn't give you a headache to study his brain. I'm not done. Accustomed Naruto rubbed his neck. What news is there? The five Kage were completely confronted. Nagato smiled however. We have many spies now, they are all locked in their villages preparing for your arrival. Naruto smiled satisfied. Nagato, give me your hand. The former leader of Akatsuki, although surprised, he agreed to the request as soon as Naruto took the hand of his relative Uzumaki father, he felt the chakra flowing into his body in an endless torrent. Something incredible began to happen. His heart shrank, and the sudden jolt of blood almost exploded in an organ 1.5 times larger, causing all the exhausted capillary arteries and behind them to expand, and the veins to expand. His pupils dilated from the savage pain. The blood driven by the foreign chakra began to nourish all of them. Nagato's body cells, his body began to revive, his body began to take on a healthy appearance, his muscles became stronger, his skin became rosaceous, elastic and tight, allowing those who wished to see the beauty of the man's body, seeing it in its fullness. Uzumaki knew what he was doing. After all, speeding up his metabolism was much easier for him to give up his life in exchange for someone else's. It suits you better, Naruto smiled. Satisfied? How you feel? Like I haven't felt in 10 years. If I had legs he would be jogging right now. It is easy to fix. The blonde immediately left the room. Nagato watched his successor in amazement. With the help of his Rinnegan, after a few minutes, the former leader of Akatsuki realized where Naruto was going. Sasori, I have already administered a special obedience serum to the Zetsu clones. That's not what I'm talking about. There's a very important task for you. The Sand Nukenin turned to look at Rubio, showing his interest. Restore Nagato's legs. You have spare puppets, right? He nods. That's fine with me, but the leader is barely alive right now, he can't even sit down. Sasori realized too late that he had called the redeeted leader, but Naruto didn't care anymore. I don't suggest you take a look at him before putting him prosthesis. Naruto left the main building of the empire in high spirits. Walking through the streets, Uzumaki noticed two people. A blonde girl and a brunette wearing a blue kimono. As soon as Naruto looked at the brunette, the name Seiken arose in his head, and the image of a six-tailed slug appeared in front of his eyes for a second. I had a Jinchu next to me and I didn't realize. If I tell anyone, they'll laugh and they'll scare me for the rest of my life, realizing that killing a jinchuriki in front of them all the future empire would not be good for him. Naruto observed the couple. The young Kunoichi with blonde hair was still stubborn by virtue of her character in seeking the attention of her teacher and favorite person in the same jar. Utakata-sensei, well, please tell me what swimsuit would suit me better. The girl didn't care if she embarrassed someone with her screams. She just needed to know what kind of swimsuit that clothes man was presenting to her, said the man. Thin, tall and somewhat close, then it's solid, the blonde advanced. And if you want to be more retailer, began to say she. Color, style, cut, fabric with print or not with cuts. Yaga Enue's granddaughter did not stop talking for 3 more minutes, pissing off Moreno until he exploded, telling the entire future empire what he thought of that conversation and his student. I'm sick of you and your swimsuits, I'm sick of your shrill voice, shouted the man in the blue kimono that covered his legs. Little gossip, a capricious and stubborn fool who pretends to be the center of the earth. You can't stop from talking like an old woman in the market. From time to time the girl's big dark green eyes moistened, her throat went dry, something pressed on her chest, and she groaned, and a fragile girl of small stature burst into tears, ignoring the light makeup made in one of the tents, and smeared her tiny face with black stains of mascara. Go away, he roared, falling to his knees. I will do it with pleasure. The man was still furious, believing once again that the girl was just a child. Too young to think about seducing someone, much less him. No one dared to console the girl who had been abandoned in the middle of the square by that selfish and rude handsome man in one fell swoop, trying either not to look at her or, on the contrary, to remember her as best they could so they could tell her. To her friends and acquaintances she didn't understand why her words were so hurtful. She was gone. That was good that she was doing well, but she only spoke reason, but feelings. That was a luxury that the shobi couldn't afford. But she wasn't a shobi, she was a kunoichi, a girl that by nature she would seek out those feelings. Rising on weakened legs, the blonde ran forward. Find him, apologize, find him. Apologize, find the ant in her head as she ran through the town and its surroundings, but her teacher was nowhere to be found. No, her lover had disappeared. It was as if he had never been in her life, as if it had been a dream, a figment of her imagination. Her eyes turned black, her head spun, the ground fell under her feet. The last one clear thought was not a thought, but a pathetic fragment of it. It was time to start. Naruto turned towards his army of Akatsuki Evi Jiraiya and a couple of thousand white Zetsu, only with conditions not to kill very young children and not to touch Tsunade Senju alias the 5th Hokage wants to kill yourself. Leader Iden C. Rilam had waited too long to attack Konoha, and now the Jason priest was trembling with patience. No, she is an ally, and we do not touch allies. Uzumaki looked away. The 6 redeeds crossed. Kaido nodded and picked up Chiuso and launched the animal path towards Konoha. The sun was already shining over Konoha. The sun had risen high enough to caress the streets and rooftops. Where Chiuso had landed, smoke cloud summoning technique appeared. The 5 remaining pain after a second each of them disappeared and explosions sounded in different parts of Konoha, and now our exit Naruto took out his katana from behind his back and was the first to running towards his native but hated village. He swung it hard and cut off the heads of the main gate guards, whose dreams of Pony Sarko Iris and Orochimaru picking flowers were interrupted by a series of explosions. I come to see an acquaintance. Our Jiraiya jumped into the nearest roof and galloped towards Lokage's residence. Yes baby yes, this is what I was waiting for. Aiden for his part ran through the streets, waving his scythe. People fell one by one, severed heads, bodies and limbs flying in all directions. The streets had been dyed red and were now strewn with the organs and entrails of the one strongest village. The priest of Hassan had never been so happy. The civilians were trying to flee, similar to rats fleeing a sinking ship. Some were trying to be heroic. And the shinobi attacked the immortal with kunai and techniques. What a good thing creatures, I will take you to the glory of Jashin-sama. Brandishing his scythe, Aiden cut the head of the nearest chunin. Looking at the second shinobi, Aiden smiled. Moving his scythe he cut the shinobi in two. Aiden, can you give me a hand? The ash-haired man turned around when he heard the voice. I'm going to kill my clan. You'll have enough physical pain and sacrifices for your god. Of course, the leader's girl guides the way. Yada and Aiden headed toward the Yuga clan estate, also ran a couple dozen white Zetsu behind them to keep the girl relaxed, and for her own good, the Jasina priest was killing everyone who got in his way. After a few minutes they arrived at the place that the brunette I hated the 8 trigrams the most avoid. Yada kicked open the door with a shockwave. The representatives of the side branch immediately ran to exterminate the intruders, only they clearly did not expect it to be the other way around. Empress Crouch, Aiden turned like a wolf pulling of his scythe forward. Remains of viscera pieces of meat and members of the strongest clan in Konoha. Until now some Yuga flew in all directions. They managed to jump back, and as soon as Aiden stopped spinning they hit the Tenketsu in pain. How beautiful the pain is, and you must feel it. Taking out a stick, the priest of Jashin stuck it in the eye of his closest opponent, piercing him through the rest of his enemies. The immortal gave a strong blow with his scythe, cutting off the heads of her enemies. Follow me, and Nat ran up the stairs. Aiden followed her in silence. Saving your strength for someone special. Yes my father. Respect baby, respect Rio. Aiden and accelerated a little to dismember a new batch of enemies. I myself killed my father. He and my mother were the first victims that I took to the glory of Jashin-sama. The company of 2 humans and about 20 Zetsu was getting closer and closer to the clan leader's room. Many of the Zetsu had already been defeated. Aiden was leaving. Getting a little tired, Yada kicked open the door where her father was already waiting for her. He knew you would be of no use, and so he stood with his back to his daughter without bothering to turn around. First you were a blessing to the clan, then you betrayed us all for a monstrosity. Jinchuriki, when you were born you were so weak and insignificant that the doctors had to torture you for a month to keep you alive. I have changed, and today only you will die. And so the man turned abruptly and directed a wave of strongly compressed air towards the girl, who she successfully dodged immediately. The 2 representatives of the Yuga began to fight with all their strength, and Dan Silv saw the father and daughter hitting him with trying to knock down the other's Tenketsu. Yada hit with fury, pointing not only at the heart but also the head of the man who topped his list of deaths. He already dodged the blow and dealt a blow to his daughter's solar plexus, but in doing so he missed a blow to the kidney, only thanks to the chakra granted by Naruto. The girl's Tenketsu here recovered almost instantly, surprised, and yes, Naruto-kun will soon be the ruler of this world, and with his chakra, we are invincible. Don't be cool, you bitch. Whirlwind. The girl had time to use a substitute. The dome of 3 meters of chakra instantly destroyed the office leader of the clan, but that did not matter to him now. The office could always be rebuilt, and the eldest daughter could only be killed. Now Juikin 128 touches of the sky. As soon as the whirlwind ended, the future empress began to hit the Tenketsu 2 blows. Yuga father grimaced of pain, but that was just the beginning. 4-8 the chakra channels were blocked by knocking out the Tenketsu, and the chakra heart seemed to burn from the inside out. 1632, and if he didn't feel any more pain, he was completely paralyzed. 64-128, with a last hit in the chest, Yasi flew against the wall that had miraculously survived the vortex, leaving a lot of cracks in it. Who would have thought that a brat and weakling like you would become so strong? And yes, he spat blood, and Natty didn't answer anything, giving a couple of steps forward. He knelt to look his father in the eyes. The next moment he took his face in his hands and used his thumbs to squeeze the eyes out of the lion's double fist. The chakra began to accumulate around the lion's hands. Gerlad, after a few seconds it took the shape of the head of a lion. Uzumaki, as the brunette already considered herself, began to deliver rapid blows to the head of what was once the strongest clan. Yasi's brains scattered across the floor. And after the final blow his body went through the wall, staining the floor with his blood. I can't get up. I wish Spin the pig had kicked me 300 times. I see why the leader chose you. Aiden clapped several times. All that's left is to babies, right? Yes, my clones, they will help you, and I have another pending task. The girl created 4 shadow clones. Aiden and Xu followed the copies in silence. Hinata breathed in and out a couple of times. Looking to her right, she saw the bookshelf almost destroyed thanks to the Bakugan activated during the battle. Ex-Yuga knew that his target was hiding there by throwing a few kunai with explosive seals. The girl opened the hiding place. Anabi, what a shame I was here killing your father, and you have been hiding all this time. A girl of about 12 years old took a step to the forehead, although she was afraid she did everything possible so that her trembling did not show weakness in front of her older sister. Come. To me, little Yin Nad extended her hand forward knowing it is going to end soon. Why don't you move in with me? We will live as sisters. You will be the sister of the empress. You will decide what you want to do. Anabi took a few steps forward. The girl was about to her older sister's hand when Hinata abruptly activated her Yugen and hit her little sister on the forehead. Anabi immediately lost her temper. Knowledge, the only thing that prevented her from falling was her older sister. Hinata herself did not understand why she couldn't kill her sister, deciding to bow her head. The girl sealed her sister and a scroll in the dough of your lilacs. And here I thought we were just getting along. To the younger ones, Aiden showed some scrolls. He just didn't want to kill his sister Sasuke and Saz, and will brainwash him in no time. That's your business. It's not my business. The leader will talk to you about it, so you will be my opponent. Kakashi stood up blindfold. I wanted to kill the blonde responsible for the death of my master, but you will do it. Don't get cocky. Kakashi, a creature like you has no right to be a carrier of the Sharingan. The Sharingan only belongs to my clan. Kate and the Great Ball of Fire, 2 voices said at the same time. The technicians faced each other for a while. The technicians exchanged forces until there was a tie. Sasuke took out 2 kunai and began to impose hand-to-hand combat. Kakashi, thanks to his Sharingan, anticipated the action. Sasuke lost his balance, but Chidori did not fall. Kakashi punched through the body of his former student Poof, and instead of the last member of the Uchiha clan to a log Kaiten fire whip, a 5 meters long fire whip appeared in Sasuke's hand. Kakashi managed to dodge it in he at the last moment, but the heat of the fire burned his hair a little. The same whip appeared in Uchiha's other hand and the Moreno began to attack constantly. Kakashi did not have time to double his seals and only had to dodge concentrated attack, tried to send the head of his former student to another dimension but failed badly and only one of the whips reached the Kamui. Sasuke looked astonished at what remained of his technique that the future emperor had taught him. Suiton Water Dragon, the 3 meters tall dragon height hit the target with precision. Toten split, the ground cracked, and Sasuke was half trapped in the resulting abyss. Now you are dead, brat. Raiden Thunder Wolfakiri began to take the form of a wolf. Kaiten Phoenix Sasuke exhaled a 5 meters long bird compound of fire, however the technique instantly freed the Moreno by setting him on fire and also destroyed Kakashi's technique. Kamui Kakashi successfully absorbed the technique. Amaterasu. Blood flowed from the Moreno's eye as he was not used to the new technique. In place of his head, he set fire to the hand of the main fan of Jiraiya's work attack. He reacted instantly and tore off his sleeve. Toten Earth Dragon Sasuke calmly jumped on the technique of his enemy Chidori Blade. The technique pierced his face, destroying the Sharingan. Kakashi roared in pain. Sasuke swung his lightning sword once more and cut off his opponent's left arm. Naruto is much stronger than me. You really thought you could beat him? The Uchiha hit the ash-haired man in the face. Chidori, the dark-haired man, hit exactly on the head, turning his former mentor's brains into minced meat, and the only thing that remained of his head was the lower jaw. Naruto entered a state of pure euphoria. Uzumaki unsheathed his katana and burned everyone in his path only occasionally. He used other elements. Naruto heard a strange scream and the next moment he received a solid blow to the face. Regrouping, the blonde fell on his feet. What kind of clown are you? Naruto looked at his opponent. I am Mate Guy, the green beast of Konoha. He adopted a tough guy pose. Uzumaki didn't wait for his enemy to finish squawking. Fire Demon. The blonde blew a pillar of flames that took the form of a demon. The 5-met tall fire giant materialized a 2-handed sword in his hand with a single blow, spread flames along 100-met fire lance. A 2-met long fire spear appeared in Naruto's hand, while the flame demon burned everything in its path, forcing Gai to perform the greatest acrobatics. Naruto, he threw spears of fire at all directions, destroying houses and burning alive the shobi who ran next to him. Stop running away from me. The vine sprouted from the blonde's hands, kicking the ground with his foot. Uzumaki unleashed a real earthquake and an obstacle course. The 8 interior doors. The 7th door, a powerful surge of chakra erupted from Gai and a blue aura surrounded the body of the Konoha beast. Naruto barely had time to block the blow with his katana thanks to the ring. Megan Uzumaki could see her opponent, but her body could barely keep up with him. The Gai Konoha beast abruptly disappeared and appeared from below, assist being a strong kick in the jaw. With the foot morning peacock without Reteni, the shockwave made Gai retreat a couple of dozen meters. The young man's main follower of the power regroups in the air and fell on her feet. The brunette in the tight suit spat blood. Midday Tiger. The aura around Gai took on the appearance of a white Tiger Naruto, who did not want to receive a punch in the face, created a statue of a 1,000-armed goddess with wood technicians, collided. The shock wave spread throughout the large village. Adora almost destroyed the strongest technique of the Mokuton, but the Gai himself also received many blows from the multi-armed statue. Quotes, "What the hell is that? I didn't know Konoha had monsters like that." Naruto cleaned himself up. The trickle of blood that dripped from his mouth, his entire body groaned with a dull Gai pain, for his party was struggling to get out from under the rubble. The green beast of Konoha was in an even worse state, many of his muscles were already torn, and the blonde had received a beating. "I'm sorry that the son of Minato-sama and Kusina-san is now destroying the Gai village. He vomited blood, but I will stop you." Total opening of the 8 doors. Naruto, thanks to the Dijutsu, he saw how the chakra rushed directly to his heart chains, sprouted from Uzumaki's body, and instantly enveloped his master from head to toe. Evening Elephant. The first step, this time a red Ura burst out of Gai, and there was pure fire in his head. The impact sent the blonde to the depths, but Uzumaki, he didn't feel anything. The chains of the Uzumaki clan were incredibly strong and perfectly absorbed the force of the blow. Using the power of the ring, Mega Naruto literally flew out of the well, but they were already waiting for him. Evening Elephant. First step, Gai hit the blonde in the face. Step 2, hit by the left. Step 3, hit him from the right. Step 4, hit from above. Step 5, the final attack was palpable. Naruto felt like he had been hit with a sledgehammer, but that was nothing compared to the real thing. Power of the Night Elephant. Uzumaki flew long, beautiful, horizontal, but still regrouped and landed on his feet. "I can see your chakra, you are almost dead." The green beast did not respond at all. Gai, he just dropped to one knee. A furious stream of chakra gushed from his body, adopting in the form of a dragon. The red aura dragon pounced on the blonde man, chained to his own chains at breakneck speed around him. Even the space is distorting. There really was a monster. So in this backward village, a night moth guy's entire body turned black, small veins crawled through him, glowing blood red. The kick went straight to his chest. The chains of the Uzumaki clan could not withstand it, and shattered. Naruto could barely stand. He looked at him in shock. His dying opponent turning to ashes. Those chains were able to contain the Biju. They cannot be destroyed. So how Uzumaki could barely stand. "It's a relief that my ribs aren't broken, but there sure are a couple of cracks." Naruto looked at his defeated opponent without wanting to get close to him. The blonde exhaled a 2 meters long ball of lava towards Gai, watching as the other strongest Arjonin was left alone with ashes and memories. "It seems that we are done here." Jiraiya looked at the corpse of his best friend. "Master, there was a hole the size of a soccer ball in Danzo's body. All the viscera and organs were mixed with Rinnegan until they formed a homogeneous mass that littered the boss's office. Do you think the Ajado has finished his business?" "I think so." He hermit toad stretched. There was an unpleasant crunch of vertebrae that made the master of the room bend over. "Old age is not fun." "Hey, old friend," laughed Tsunade, "now it's sciatica, and the next thing will be your hair falling out. Very funny. Treat me straight." Pervert. The slug princess approached her friend and healed his back. "Great and beautiful. You don't know all hermits are perverts. We spend our lives wandering. We don't see people for months, and sometimes we want so much to touch women's bodies, enjoy its beautiful aromas. Not even the grave can heal you." The woman smiled. "And they love me like that." Jiraiya stood up to his full height. "Thank you, Konoha." Could not resist the attack, and in less than an hour it was destroyed and drowned in the blood of its inhabitants. Natives. Among all the survivors, there were only the Anabi infants and the elders who were now being divided. "I will kill them. It's my birthday." Naruto had already run out of arguments to convince a vigilante that it was Uzumaki who I killed the elders. An entire village was annihilated. "On your birthday," Sasuke pointed to the ruin stained with fresh blood, "and I lost my clan because of him. Because of him I killed my hand. Give it to a friend. How about we divide it?" Naruto was so tired, like his partner, of dividing two senile old fools. "We both have problems with them. I have more than that. Let's throw a coin in the air. Yes, whoever wins will execute them. Heads or tails?" "Heads." The Uchiha threw the coin in the air. The old man looked at the coin with fear. Well, decided his fate. Dark-haired man took the coin. Sasuke was also worried, breathing in and out a couple of times. He opened his palm. "Cross. I'm sorry, Emperor." "Well, that seems fair to me." Naruto kicked the nearest pebble. "When you're done, come back home. We'll plan our attack next time." Village Dad, after he destroyed the enemies of the Empire who kidnapped Aunt Anabi. "What did she say when she regained her memory?" "She thanked me, son." Naruto rubbed his chin, understanding that it was not good to lie to his son, but no could tell him that Hinata he simply couldn't kill his sister. He unsealed her, and Sasuke returned his memory, and then the boy lightly shook his head. "It took a long time to come to." "Yes, son, true." She was angry for not having participated in the destruction of Cloud because they tried to kidnap her sister. Naruto continued to lie shamelessly, realizing that only the Akatsuki team and Sasuke knew the true story. In addition to the Uzumaki marriage 9 years ago, the news that Hinata had saved her little sister had spread quickly among the Akatsuki. Thanks to Iden, Naruto and Hinata were deciding Anabi's fate. Now the future spouses were sitting in the Rubio's room where the girl now also lived. "What are we going to do with your sister?" Naruto tapped the table with his fingers, following a simple rhythm. Sasuke had already brainwashed her. "She won't do anything." The girl took a sip of her tea. Right now she didn't remember anything. The only thing she remembers is that she has to follow his orders without complaining. "Excuse me, leader. You have a visitor." Kisame opened the door in silence because of Asag's look. He was surprised. "The visitor will surprise you. Well, honey, we will resume our conversation later." Naruto headed for the exit when leaving the residence. Uzumaki fell into a stupor. "Miss Mizukage. What are you doing here and without a guard?" "I have come to make a pact." Naruto laughed out loud. This was something he had not expected. "A pact, seriously? If you mind if we go in?" "Well, let's go in." The blonde was still laughing. Naruto led the Mizukage to his office. The woman without wait for invitation. He sat in the chair in front of the desk. The future lord of the world sat in his seat. "And what does Mizukage-sama have to offer me? Just admit that you want to save your village." "I want." The woman swallowed saliva. "It's only been a week and already everyone knows that Konoha has been destroyed. You are also the ruler after all, and you care about your residents." Naruto gestured for the woman to continue. "Why not come to an agreement? Even if Fog does not have Byakuya, I can transmit information about where the United Army troops will be. Cloud and Stone, they have already made an alliance. They invite Sand and Mist to join them. I am asking to change the lives of my people for interesting information." Uzumaki froze for a second. Nagato's voice resonated in his head. He checks his memory. "Would you mind if I scanned your brain? After all, I have no reason to trust you." "Of course." Although I didn't understand how they were going to scan his brain, but now I had peace of mind because his village would be safe. Naruto put his hand on the maze head. The two Uzumaki immediately saw the memories of Kiri's head scheming. "I didn't think any of the hidden villages wanted to be part of the empire. My goal has always been to lift my village from its knees." The voice of me has regained its claw and determination. "I prefer to play on the winning side. We have always had our differences with Cloud. I doubt that our alliance would have lasted long, and with a single state, there will be no grievances." "Interesting." Naruto heard Nagato's voice again in his head. "I will accept his invitation, Mizukage-sama, but he will be under observation." "I understand. Goodbye." The woman got up from the table and headed towards the exit. "Nagato, are you sure it was a good idea?" The blonde was for having to speak out loud, but get closer to Nagato. Uzumaki was lazy. "Each of her people and she herself will receive Sasori's poison. With the help of Tsunade, he has perfected it. Now they will not only follow all orders, but will have a constant desire to serve the empire. Even so, Sasori and Tsunade are geniuses. And poisons and serums." Nagato took a sip of his water. "Konan brought me an interesting scroll from the Uzumaki clan. I have not studied it yet, but my partner told me about its contents. The Uzumaki were true geniuses of Fuinjutsu. Did you know that there is a seal that when activated erases completely the memory of the person you teach it to me?" "Of course, my young Padawan, of course. I wish I had found this seal before the extermination of Konoha. The empire would have had many servants, but you can try it with the people of Suna. What do you think?" "Looks like that idea. Once again you bail me out, old friend." Naruto smiled. "And now I'm going to bail you out again." Kakuzu suggested a great idea about what to do with a Nabi Iden babbles. Naruto rubbed his temples. "I'm listening to the auction. We'll sell it. Talk to Hinata because this is the second time I've convinced myself that you're." Naruto stammered and then abruptly turned purple with anger. "No. You're a damn Migan. I might as well punch you like I did it on purpose to begin with." He was asleep the next moment. The blonde either I laughed at the redeed. "What I do with my girlfriend is my business. I'm not going to argue. That's why next time put on an eye patch." "Now let's go back to our sheep, or rather the sheep. If Hinata agrees to sell her little sister, we will an auction after the 3 remaining hidden villages are destroyed." "And how are things in the world?" Naruto asked. Looking at his relative, the members of the clan were in a small dark room furnished in a minimalist style. 3 chairs, one of which was now empty, a small round table and a single light bulb above the room. It is a good situation. The Mizukage keeps his word, except that Sand had already joined Cloud and Stone. Nagato took a sip of water after spinning the glass in his hand for a while. For a few seconds he left it on the table. "I will have to fight against 3 villages at the same time, but thanks to our spy, we know where the troops will be. We should try this seal." Uzumaki placed the scroll on the table. "What is this?" The blonde looked at some strange scribbles that they formed a complex and strange pattern, a seal that, when activated, will erase the memory. It was evident that Nagato did not understand his protege's displeasure. "You are sure that it is a seal? More like an evacuation plan from a psychiatric hospital. What were you expecting, a couple of circles or spirals, Nagato?" He chuckled. "Even so, we're talking about memory wipes, not sealing scrolls." Naruto looked at the seal in disbelief. "By the time you draw it, the target will have forgotten all about the sclerosis." "I thought the same thing when I tried to draw it, but the redeed." Tapped his finger on the table. "Thank goodness Konan had found the instructions, or we would have continued trying to draw it properly." Naruto leaned back in his chair and rubbed his forehead. "We will print a Nabi and Sasuke will implant new memories." "How does this seal work?" You put this seal on the victim, fold the seals of boar, monkey, sheep, dragon, rooster, rat, rabbit, dog, horse, dragon, tiger and snake. That's it, seal activated the victim's memory. Erase this seal, disappears or will be erased. Naruto had become a little paranoid because of the people of Konoha, just a little, but it was enough that he didn't want to miss even the smallest detail. I ask this because I don't want anyone to see this seal on our people and then find out what it is. It's a bring that the former leader of Akatsuki began to snap his fingers, remembering the name Anabi. Yes, it's true, I keep forgetting Anabi and Sasuke, and let's check all the characteristics of this seal, otherwise it will be very problematic to make additions to our empire right away. I return, the blonde stretched. An unpleasant crunch of vertebrae was heard. Uzumaki decided to first the scroll where the future familiar was kept. The scroll was kept in Hinata's room, and if she was also there, she could ask her to find the last of the Uchiha clan. Naruto was brought out of his thoughts by a strange sound reminiscent of a baboon during mating season. Determined to find out what it was, Naruto walked towards the source of the sound and almost lost his jaw when it started to head towards the center of the planet. And I move away and I move away and I move away between the tinkling colors of 3 white horses, 2 red elephants, a dragon, a Pikachu and a deer. Naruto looked stunned at Ida, who was using his scythe as a microphone. While the Jashin's own follower was wearing the same amulet upon seeing Sasori laughing at the top of his lungs. Although that was out of place, Naruto immediately decided to find out what was happening. What's wrong? I'm sorry, leader. The puppeteer instantly composed himself. He was just trying out a new one. Hallucinogenic poison in him. What kind of marijuana poison, and why Aizen moving like Freddie Mercury? Now looking at Jashin's follower Uzumaki was left speechless again. More specifically, why is he doing them bow like Michael Jackson right now, and why he forgot his clothes? Let me put this in order. I haven't named this poison yet, so I can't tell you what's why he dances like Mercury. I don't know. Although I do know that Aiden loves the group queen, and why does the Mbok know? I have no idea. Well, he forgot his clothes because at first he thought there were huge cockroaches running around, so he took off all his clothes, then he thought he was a baboon in mating season, and then he started singing. That kind of explanation made Naruto want go and give him a good smack on the head against Susanoo's. But as in the name of Kami, with these clowns for some reason considered the most dangerous criminals of our time, they are going to take over the world. If this kindergarten is mainly dangerous for themselves, not in battle, they were simply not defeated, but in everyday life, the young emperor had not yet encountered any big fools. Now I understand why I saw the asylum evacuation plan on that seal. It was a sign that the real asylum was about to begin. The situation worsened with the wild laughter of Nagato, who had seen everything through the Rinnegan. Sasori makes sure he doesn't kill anyone and that he doesn't leave the building. We don't need more members of the Emperor's elite showing up like this in front of people. Yes sir. Ah yes, have you seen Sasuke? He was on his way to practice with Kisame. I think they are in the underground training camp. Thank you. Creating a clone, Naruto sent him to get the scroll and began to descend towards the underground training camp. Uzumaki loved this place from the outside. It was a small room, a little bigger than the Emperor's room, but once inside one found oneself in a room the size of Konoha. What seal caused this to happen? The blonde did not know, but he knew. He promised himself that he would find out one day, for example, from the surviving members of the Uzumaki clan. The training ground itself was divided into several parts. A dense forest where the future shinobi of the empire practiced stealth. A clear field where the shobi practiced sparring. Half a kilometer in diameter lake where they learned to control chakra, and a rocky area where they simply learned the power of their technique. But the most amazing thing was that even if it destroyed everything that was here, as soon as you left here, everything would be restored as if no one had ever been here. As soon as Uzumaki opened the door and entered the room, he saw a 5 meters diameter water balloon flying directly towards him. Naruto simply stretched his arm forward and machinery exploded in aerosol. I'm sorry leader, maybe he gave me a little bow. It was an accident. It's okay, Sasuke is here. The dark-haired man immediately appeared in front of the blonde. Uzumaki immediately realized that the dark-haired man had dodged the water balloon that flew towards him, and a couple of seconds later the young emperor himself entered the room. Sasuke, I need your help. Taking Uchiha by the neck, Uzumaki went directly to the meeting room, where the clone with Anabi chained was already waiting for them. And Nagato, bastards, let me go. I'm the heir to the Yuga clan if my father finds out, but the girl wasn't allowed to finish. Your father is dead, so shut your mouth. You're nothing, and your name is nothing. Naruto would love to turn this girl in a pile of ashes right now, but he can't. He promised his future wife that Anabi would be fine. Nagato, it's time to test Konin's discovery. Okay, Nagato has gotten up from his seat. Let's see how this seal works. Taking the scroll, Uzumaki placed the seal on the girl's hand. As soon as Nagato put all the seals together, the seal glowed blue and simply disappeared. Now it was my turn. Sasuke approached the brunette, activating his Rinnegan. He began to check Anabi's memory, validly cleans nothing in his head, only his tongue remembers. The Uchiha smiled. Would you be able to create new memories? Asked the blonde. Well, it was clear that he did not want to train Yuga. Again, as simple as that. First we will create happy memories with his sister, play together, train together, that type of things. The evil clan that he beat her and treated her like nothing, like her sister was expelled from the clan, how the people of Konoha despised her, how her father broke her head in training, and how we saved her miraculously. I will give her the memory of how Tsunade treated her. Already it's done. The girl collapsed immediately, only the clone's chains kept her from falling. I'll tell Hinata, and I'll ask her to watch over her sister Uzumaki. I didn't think it would be so easy. If everything went well, we would have the opportunity to create an army of obedient zombies and fanatically loyal, and unlike Danzo creations, each one of them will be a person, not a brainless puppet. Don't worry, it will work. In fact, stop worrying. Sasuke patted his friend on the shoulder. I think it will work out well. Oh, and Nabi made an effort to open her eyes. How are you feeling? I've been unconscious for 24 hours, and Nat smiled slightly. However, to her great surprise, the girl looked at the future empress with incomprehension and fear. Oh, who are you? That question ended up disconcerting Hinata. Don't you remember? Anabi moved her head from one side to the other. Go to bed for now, and don't go anywhere, I'll be back soon. The brunette left the bedroom, activating the Yugen. She quickly found Naruto and Sasuke, who were talking in a twisted manner about something in the library. Going down 2 floors, the girl went to the other end of the building. Dern-san explained to me the principle of the seal. The 2 Uzumaki and Uchiha looked at Hinata with incomprehension. What seal? The old man clearly did not understand what they wanted the one who erases memories to do, and Natada. He turned to dark Sasuke. She doesn't remember anything. Are you sure you injected her with new memories? Of course, the Uchiha injected them. He grimaced. He didn't like being accused of a job poorly done. Ah, that seal. Uzumaki, father, leaned back on his back chair while looking around the library. It was a very unpleasant job. It was a test, and a very unfortunate one. By the way, this seal completely burns your memory. You can use the jinjutsu to see new memories 100 times, but once you stop doing that, the seal will destroy them instantly. I don't know where you found the prototype of this seal, but it was a mistake to try it. Gyro looked once more around the library. How strange, he thought that all mention of him had been destroyed, the old man said to himself. Instead of his companions, what will happen to those who have already been subjected to the seal? Naruto asked, sensing that his future wife was about to cause a scene. I will have to explain and tell him everything again every day. Not at all. For example, if you show up to her and reminds you of the seal, it won't burn that memory, but it's too tedious. You should have asked me instead of acting on your own. Naruto, with the help of the ring, Megan saw how Nagato jumped. Still, the reed could read lips, so no one conversation was a secret for him. Brilliant. Now Hinata has to retrain her sister. That is a lot of pain, but the worst thing about this seal is that after a few months the victim will remember everything, and it will be impossible to apply it again. The 3 stood visibly tense at these words. You were stupid to act on your own. You should have asked me. Yin-Nat tried to hide between the shelves because she was afraid that now they would unleash all the dogs on her, but there is a finished version of the seal. The old man smiled at his memories. Give me a piece of paper and a pen. I'll draw it now. Naruto quickly handed the aforementioned items to his relative. This is looking more like a seal. Naruto looked at the spiral that was the pupil of an eye inscribed in a circle. That's right, the prototype was more like an evacuation plan for a mental institution. Quotes, are you in cahoots with that old man or something? Nagato's voice sounded. Anyway, use this seal as you wish, place it on the victim, seal of concentration, and change the memories. Nothing complicated. You can also use Jinjutsu to change memories. The most important thing is that it neutralizes the prototype, so no time counting when you have finished changing memories. Fold the seal of concentration and touch your forehead with your right hand. Thank you, Naruto thanked, taking the sheet. The former number 7 of the team immediately headed towards Hinata's room, where his sister now lay. As soon as Hinata entered, he activated the Byakugan and touched her forehead. Of his sister, Naruto did just what his Janus relative had told him to do. Nothing happened for a couple of moments, but then a beautiful blue mist began to come out of the girl's eyes. After a few seconds, the mist took the shape of an oval inside which words were written in golden smoke, and the final version is quite different from the prototype. Sasuke Silvo, what kind of genius would it take to create a seal like that? Walking towards Anabi, Sasuke raised his eyelids and activated the Sharingan. Naruto and Hinata watched with curiosity as new words, phrases appeared in the oval. The phrase "I read you like an open book" comes to mind. Now that expression is very accurate. Nagato's voice resonated in the blonde's head. Naruto didn't argue either. Sasuke tried to make more detailed memories this time and even added the blonde as Hinata's protector, and sometimes he enabulated those memories. After an hour, the dark-haired man finally finished accepting the job. The Uchiha smiled, satisfied everything was done to the best of his ability. There is no doubt about that. Naruto folded the seal of concentration and placed his right hand on the girl's forehead. The words of the golden mist instantly disappeared and the blue-green mist lost its endorsed form and was now absorbed again by the brunette's brain the next day. And our final theme, Yuga Anabi, the younger sister of our empress, the starting bid is 100,000. Kakuzu spoke in front of the crowd. It seemed that the entire empire had gathered in front of the main building and Terami was almost in front from the crowd. I still can't believe you decided to sell, Naruto said in a whisper, and that was after Sasuke brainwashed him for over an hour. Well, I never liked him anyway, so at least he's doing something good. 300,000, said Terumi. May I guess there was a lot we didn't know about the Mizukage, the girl whispered. The fog is gone, so why does she need Anabi? Look at her face, it's like Jiraiya's face when he's in the sauna looking at girls. How do you know what her face looks like? Sasuke's voice interrupted the discussion. I need a decent girlfriend. The blonde man's mouth dropped open, and the only question that crossed his mind was quotes. How did he get so much money? Kakuzu's eyes lit up. 1,000,000 times a hammer blow, 1,000,000 to a second blow. No one would give more. The sister of the empress, the last Yuga, because our empress has been in Uzumaki for a long time. What, no one? Kakuzu frowned momentarily. Expected to earn more money. 1,000,000, 1.5 million, said Orochimaru. His eyes would be necessary for the experience. 2 million, Itachi shouted. Silly brother, did you really think I would miss a show like this? Sasuke clearly didn't like that his older brother was going to take his loot. 3 million. Sasuke began to wait. Honestly, no one would raise the price. I give up, Orochimaru sighed darkly. I'll have to go back to Anko. 4 million. Itachi showed his tongue to his brother, and with all his appearance he showed that no one could be colder and richer than Itachi could be. 4 million times. The eyes Kakuzu's were shining with happiness, and he was already imagining how he would swim in money. 4 million. Do 4 million TR sold to Uchiha. Itachi, the winner of the auction, walked proudly towards his prize, and he gave Kakuzu the scroll with the money. And Sasuke, take this as my birthday gift for you. Picking up Anabi, the dark-haired man threw it at Sasuke. Sasuke jumped like a scald. Looking around, he realized that he was in his room, which was a complete copy of his room in the Uchiha clan estate. Ugh, it was just a dream. The dark-haired man lay down on the pillow. What a dream. It had taken them a long time to prepare for the war. Naruto put aside the letter addressed to the Mizukage that contained all the information about the alliance. The Uzumaki himself was sitting in his room, where Hinata had recently moved and was now braiding her sister's pigtails. Is there something interesting in there? Asked the former Yuga, paying attention considering that the enemy's plans are written down. There is a lot in there. The blonde stretched and leaned back on his newly purchased leather chair. They want to come directly to us from the side of the clouds, and it is in the land of lightning where the meeting will be held. The Kage will sit in the headquarters, which will be in the residence of the Raikage, and 60,000 shinobi. They will go to war against us. 60,000. Anabi moved her frightened gaze from one side to the other between Naruto and Natada, but the future husbands did not seem to be scared by such a large number of enemies. Furthermore, the Mizukage ordered her people not to touch us. And then we would not touch them. We will touch them, Uzumaki continued. Looking ahead, don't worry. Hinata turned to the brunette. Akatsuki and the CSU clones will take care of everything quickly. You don't forget anyone, and Nat narrowed his eyes a little. No one. You stay behind. Command someone has to take care of the empire while I'm gone. Getting up from the chair, Uzumaki kissed the brunette on the cheek. Nagato has already gathered everyone. They are only waiting for me. We will discuss the strategy. The blonde headed to the largest meeting room, where all the Tsuki were now sitting. The meeting room was no different than the room where Naruto and Nagato had discussed the plans face to face. Bare walls, a few light bulbs on the ceiling and a long table where they could sit comfortably. People, dear Ijado, you are the only one we are waiting for, said Jiraiya, lighting a pipe. Just a minute and a half. Naruto took a seat at the head of the table. Well, let's discuss the plan of attack, my dear sword. According to that document Nagato began, they will meet in a week. They will gather a couple of dozen kilometers from Kumo. They only have a pathetic alliance, and we with two of the strongest leaders in history. Sasori did not express emotion as usual, and can a puppet express emotion? Nagato is the owner of the stronger Dijutsu, and even as an invalid, he could send our entire organization to hell. And Naruto, our emperor, who has as much chakra as the 8-ball men, and control of the elements without seals. In a few words, Aiden rudely interrupted his comrade. Those bastards, don't they have no chance of escaping? There is only one. But Naruto crossed his fingers and rested his chin on them. We have to brainwash them. It is not to finish them. Is that even possible? Kiss him just like Aiden was not happy with it. There is only one seal. But there are 60,000, said the blonde. 60,000. How are we going to put a seal on everyone? Asuka looked around. Many did not believe it was possible either. I have already thought about it. Nagato spoke again. Conan, please show them the hand of the only one Akatsuki woman shredded into pieces of paper. Each piece of paper had a seal that altered memory. Conan also took out a scroll containing 20 pairs of gloves with the seals. Twist-san helped me. All you have to do is touch a person, and the seal will be on it. All the seals flew back The Konin restoring his hand. Then how do we proceed, asked Sasuke, who had remained silent until then. We attack them from above, he replied. The young emperor, we know where they will be. Zetsu will be underground, and we will attack from above. Deidara, how long until your birds reach the land of lightning? One day, yes. But what about me with my gloves? I can't make bombs. I say we let Deidara cover us. Kakuzo. He doesn't look at his gloves, his bombs will be useful. I agree. Jiraiya exhaled a puff of smoke. What do you say, Naruto? The second thing. Deidara, prepare a transport for us and attack from above. But don't go too far and blow everyone up. Don't worry, everything will be fine. Yes, this seal works on us. Karen asked a reasonable question. No. Naruto put the gloves on both hands and folded them. He needs skin contact so it's safe to bend the seals and touch the clothes too. We'll have to prepare Konin. My clones will help you make them. This way you can incapacitate many people at once. Okay, Sasori, prepare more paralyzing poison. I'll do it, and try not to kill too many people. Everyone immediately turned their eyes to Ida. Yes, I understand. The discussion about the plan continued for several more hours, and in the end, everyone he was almost sprawled out in his rooms. Why so late? Yada looked directly into Rubio's eyes, and with all his gaze he was telling him quotes, what can you say in your favor? Well, I'm sorry, honey, we're getting ready for the war. Kissing La Marina on the cheek, Uzumaki undressed and went to bed. A week later, not far from the country of lightning, thanks to the birds of Dieter, Akatsuki, Eevee and Naruto himself had quickly arrived in the other country. They were instead traveling underground. How long will it take for your sensors to detect them? Sasuke asked. Looking at his partner, besides the two of them, the main bomber was also in the bird. They have already done it. Naruto still didn't change his face. We're about to have a reception soon. Good sensor, but he can sense that the Alliance Shobi are ready for battle. Deidara. Uzumaki turned to the second blonde. How long until we are in position? About 5 minutes. Well, Deidara, try not to kill them all with your bombs. I think you've been waiting for this all night, that we've been traveling not really millimeters. Well, it's clear that Aiden's expectations have long since vanished. No leader, we're going to fill the Shobi of the mist. Of course we are. Naruto smiled. Maybe the Mizukage has kept his word, but where is the guarantee that his people will not harm us? We will try to kill as few as possible. At the end of the day, they are our future servants. Naruto looked at his hands. Now they were wearing gloves that had a complete memory alteration seal. However, the others, except for Deidara, also had those gloves. Uzumaki arrived. He looked down and saw an army of shinobi from several villages, but from this height, they were no bigger than insects. Naruto just smiled satisfied and jumped off the bird. Play considering too slow to descend. Emperor, where can't you wait for us? Aiden clearly did not appreciate such an impulse from the new leader. Naruto's body was wrapped in sand. A crust of earth appeared on top of the sand. A small crater was formed by the landing of Uzumaki, and a cloud of dust rose into the air. Not wanting to waste time, Naruto turned part of the earth into sand and began to suck the shinobi of the Alliance towards it. Jumping out of the crater, Uzum looked around at all the opponents that they looked with fear at the future emperor of the world. Okay guys, we play a game. You have two options. You surrender, and we keep you alive, or you are stubborn, and we kill you. The answer was not long in coming. The shinobi and the samurai pounced on the blonde. The shobi threw kunai and shuriken and used techniques. The samurai went straight ahead. Incorrect answer. Without retaining, a shockwave with a radius of 5 meters repelled the samurai, the techniques, and the deadly flying iron. The white clones of Zetsu jumped from the ground like devils of a snuff box, and at the same time the rest of Akatsuki arrived. You are not following the plan. Nagato attracted several shinobi towards him and stomped on them. I just accelerated him. Uzumaki immediately launched himself forward, defending himself from the attacks, with sand touching his opponents whenever he could immediately double the concentration seal. The Alliance had two advantages in this battle: number, and that they did not need to hold back since they were not going to brainwash anyone. However, Katsuki, Naruto and Sasuke did not stay either. They were holding back so as not to kill everyone, but they were repelling all the attacks, especially because Naruto was creating a tsunami of sand and containing his opponents. The emperor was very frustrated by his opponent's preparation. He had never faced anyone of the level of Mate Guy 2. The combat had only burned his cape once. He was one of the helpless of Konoha who was absent from the village at the time of the attack. This hero, driven by the will of fire, wrapped himself in explosive seals, and he jumped at the emperor's feet, sending everything within a dozen meters around flying. Naruto didn't even have to put in much effort. Most of the work was done by the waves of the legendary blood seed that turned all opponents up to the honing level into salty pillars. All the genin and most of the chunin immediately lay down with wet pants after another hit from K, killing him. Several shinobi threw kunai with explosive seals, while the samurai attacked from the sides. Naruto clearly didn't appreciate it. How about this? A furious torrent of flames erupted from the blonde's body, melting all the deadly iron flying towards him. With a sharp movement of his hand, Uzumaki knocked the samurai down with a wave of sand. Suiton short wave. A chorus of 10 voices rang from the background. Naruto reacted instantly, turning sharply. He absorbed his opponent's ninjutsu. It seemed like the game was Starting to liven up, an additional pair of hands emerged from Uzumaki's shoulders, except they looked like the hands of the Sasori no puppets, human hands vein tenon instantly. A dozen Shabbos were attracted to the blonde, while the mechanical hands held the shinobi. The emperor himself applied them to his future servants. Finished with them, Uzumaki pounced on the new victims, who were the Jotun stone Shobi volcanic ball. More than 50 lava balls measuring 2 meters in diameter flew towards the blonde without reducing their speed. Naruto continued running towards his victims. In a few seconds the lava techniques had already engulfed the blonde. The stone shobi were already celebrating their victory when a completely unharmed blonde appeared in front of them. The shinobi lowered their guard, and that cost them their slavery. Uncle, the lava causes a slight itch. I should have trained more with it. The blonde was taken out of his thoughts through a chorus of voices. On one side, the cloud shinobi attacked, and on the other the Suna shinobi. The Ran and Rantan techniques flew to the left, the Futon techniques flew to the right. Oh, I don't have any lightning, I'll have to absorb it. Spreading his arms to the sides, Uzumaki used one of the strongest techniques of the Rinnegan. The techniques were instantly absorbed by the blonde, and now surprise interacting with Iden is not done without a trace. The sand began to swirl around Uzumaki's hands. The ground beneath his feet instantly turned to dust. The sand, following the master's mental order, immediately enveloped the attackers and began to tense. In a moment, only their heads remained on the surface. Something is touching me. As soon as Shinobi shouted hysterically, to me too, to me too. Naruto smiled, satisfied. He knew that they were the white Zetsu that remained underground, that were now sucking the chakra of their victims. Uzumaki looked around. Only the Zetsu that had come out of the ground were dying in the battlefield. The others were calmly dealing with their enemies, and only Deidara was flying over the area, watching which of his companions needed help. Hurricane of leaves. Uzumaki reacted instantly and blocked the kick of the unknown shobi. The shobi unknown instantly jumped back and got into combat stance. You are the son of mate guy. Naruto stared at the exact replica of the strongest, honing in Konoha no, I am RCK Lee, the green beast of Konoha Gay. Sensei was my teacher. How did he manage that strange guy to speak so calmly and at the same time roar? Uzumaki did not understand it, but he did not care at that moment. The young emperor was attacked by several shinobi, but Uzumaki only stomped his foot and spikes emerged from the ground. They broke through all the attackers. Mate guy was my strongest opponent. I think he could even defeat half of Akatsuki. I hope he trained you decently and that we have a good fight. That was the end of their conversation. He immediately stood up from his seat and he began to throw rapid blows with his fists and feet. Naruto, thanks to Rinnegan, saw all the attacks and managed to block them. Uzumaki sent a wave of sand at his opponent but managed to get him out of the line of attack in time. Where are you running? Let's go. Fight with all your might. I smiled. Naruto inhaling more air. Uzumaki exhaled a 10-met long dragon composed of magma that did not want to turn into embers. He threw several kunai with explosives at the lava dragon and it jumped away as expected. It exploded with the difference that the drops of lava hit all the nearby shinobi. Some of them had lava falling on their faces, burning their heads instantly. Others were even less lucky. The drops of lava hit them in the mouth, burning them from the inside out. Come here. Naruto put his hand on the ground. After a moment, vines and stone spikes began to sprout from the ground. He went into a deafening defense. All he could do now was dodge the attacks, finding only one way out. He threw a dozen smoke bombs. To the enemy 6-door door of miracles open. The green beast of Konoha decided to kill the blonde with a single blow, thinking that the enemy could not see him, and that was his main mistake. He hit him with all his strength in the place where the blonde's head but the dark-haired man crashed into the sand. His master was braver. Naruto sent a terrifying K-wave that dispersed the smoke from the air currents and paralyzed all the shobi within a 100 meters radius. There was a wall of sand around them. Uzumaki and Lee's hand was stuck in him. Moreno tried to remove his hand and flee into the distance, but he couldn't move. The legs of the main gay mate fan were tied by vines, and the sand itself began to envelop Moreno. Don't be afraid, no. I will kill you if in the future you become like your master. You will do me an incredible favor. Naruto placed a seal on the last shinobi of Konoha. Sasuke did not stay behind his friend, submerging entire areas in Tsukiyomi. Occasionally he had fun making bosses annoy enemies while summoning Susanoo Rayon Thunderstrike Fudo Vacuum Blades. Sasuke looked at these pathetic efforts with boredom. Amaterasu, a wall of black fire, appeared in front of the Moreno and calmly burned all the attacks. Summoning a huge white snake, appeared from between a cloud of smoke. As soon as he opened his mouth, thousands of small green snakes emerged from it. Now the shinobi of the alliance had to dodge the snakes with paralyzing venom. Moreno ran past the shinobi like a meteor. Sasuke knocked out his opponents with a single blow. He hit the hilt of his sword and sealed them. It's not a seal. It's a beauty. It doesn't matter who put this seal. Just one activation is enough for all the seals to react at the same time. Sasuke calmly moved his sword away from all the seals. Weapons flying towards him, he put the seals on the enemies. The Uchiha arrived just in time, as Uzumaki activated the seals a second later. The Uchiha only had to watch as the shobi in front of him fell to the ground and a greenish mist floated out of them, but the scythe had found a way out. Sasuke was surrounded on all sides by shobi and Samurai. The dark-haired man simply smiled. Susanoo. All the techniques and weapons met with an obstacle in the form of the most powerful Manjo technique of the Sharingan. Grabbing the opponent more nearby, Sasuke threw it into the crowd, knocking out 3 dozen at a time. Sasuke Susan then tightened the string of his bow. The shinobi of the alliance looked in horror at the arrow a couple of meters long. The Uchiha missed on purpose and the arrow hit against the ground. The shock wave of the technique traveled a couple of dozen meters, shocking everyone who was in the impact radius. Sasori and his natural product once again stood out when it came to Akatsuki's intimidation of the victims. Of the legendary poisoner, they had made everything a bastard. Iden threw his scythe against a crowd of opponents. Only a Jason priest could kill everything that moved, and what did not move he moved and killed him, for which he received a slap on the head from Kakuzu. Kakuzu, you bastard, stop hitting me, stop being so arbitrary, you chewing brat. 2 leaders are looking at you, and you act like a little girl in a dress shop. Jason's priest couldn't stand that kind of humiliation. Cloud Shinobi should have stabbed Iden in that moment. Iden grabbed the shobi by the face and threw him against his partner. Thanks to Naruto's chakra, all the Akatsuki only had an incredible supply of chakra that allowed them to match the Biju, but also a lot of physical strength. The Cloud Shinobi flew wonderfully long and horizontal, knocking down all the shinobi of the alliance that was in his way. Kakuzu calmly skied the flying shobi. But you've hit 1, you've hit 10 shobi, you've hit me, bastard. I'm going to brainwash you. Iden was furious now. He charged at his partner like a battering ram, throwing all the shinobi and samurai he had at hand against the oldest member of the organization. Stop, be afraid, the follower of Dasen grabbed the closest shobi of Sua while gouging out his eye with his finger and threw him hard at his partner. Once again Kakuzu calmly dodged, although he managed to touch several shobi next to the chief accountant of the empire. Some black creatures ran around protecting their master. Idiots, what are you doing here if you don't see them? Kisame was furious. Of course Asag knew that Nagato, Itachi, Sasori and Konan were the only suitable ones in the organization, but he had no idea what clowns the others were. However, no one listened to the Espulchin. Kakuzu continued calmly placing seals on the enemy shobi. The experience of the Nukenin of the waterfall allowed him to calmly deal even with Jonin. With Iden, the situation was different. The attacks of the enemy shinobi and samurai occasionally reached their objective, infuriating the follower of Jason more and more. Finally, Iden fell in a blood fury. He tore his enemies with his bare hands, completely forgetting about his scythe. Cursing, Iden tore the jaws of everyone who crossed his path and split them in half. Die, you bastard. Shinobi Kumo approached Iden from behind and he cut off his head. Ironically, this shinobi lost his head at the hands of Kisame, who was still watching his comrades calm down. Or Sig took the priest's head in his hands. Not at all. That's what I call losing your head at all senses. Kisame-kun, put my head back on my body, please. The Nukenin of the mist fell plumb. I didn't expect to see the psychopath in the head so calm and with bright eyes. Well, walking towards the body, maybe he reattached my head to my neck. For luckily, Kakuzu had noticed his companion's disappearance in time and was now covering his comrades. And don't forget that we have to seal them, not kill them. 1 Naruto would be enough to kill them. That's fine, I'll try to get myself together thanks to the blonde's chakra. The neck and head fused in seconds. It's incredible. The head returns to its place and the wounds heal instantly. Old bastard, I'm coming to rescue you, idiots. Kisame exhaled, straightening his sword. Asag ran towards the enemies. Suiton, a large wave of water. The wave of water he made the enemies fly while almost drowning them. Suiton dancing shark prison technique. The swordsman himself began to merge. But Sada fins appeared on his arms and back and his face stretched, making Kisame now look even more like a Asag shark. Calmly swam towards his victims and trampled them and then swam towards new victims. As the water dome moved with his master, no one except the allies felt safe. Toten stone press. That Tsuchikage's son-in-law decided to neutralize the threat. Kisame was trapped in a stone press and only thanks to the incredible physical strength he had received from Emperor Asag that he had not yet turned into a fish cutlet. The shinobi were already celebrating the victory of finishing off one of the attackers when it exploded. Kitsuchi's technique. Old Dadara threw several bombs whose explosions also killed some of the shobi. Some lucky ones only lost limbs and the especially lucky ones only lost consciousness. Kitsuchi avoided the explosions with an earth shield, but he forgot that now there was not one class S enemy against him, but 2. Maybe he instantly recovered his technique that was the best to catch the jinchuriki. Kitsuchi was trapped in a dome of water, but the main challenger of the 4th Tsuchikage was not going to giving up so easily. Toten stone spikes. However, the technique never hit the strongest of the 7 mist swordsmen. Kisame did not swim up to his opponent, keeping his distance from him. Don't forget me either, right? A few acid fish hit the dome. No, they were larger than a couple of centimeters, but the explosion they caused was enough to stun one of the alliance commanders. It was at that moment when Kisame lunged at his opponent, just a touch, a seal and another Shinobi was lying unconscious, waiting for you to alter his memory. Sasori was frankly bored. Iden's experiments with Iden did not disappear, just like that all of Sasori's puppets or rather his weapons had been smeared with poison. A single scratch was enough to kill him. Cause extreme hallucinations. Monster. The samurai cut off his friend's head. Now the samurai saw neither friends nor enemies. Before his eyes rose huge spiders less than 5 meters, with the face of a monkey. The poor man didn't even look, he realized where he was. The sky was blood red with black clouds, the ground was flesh colored, and fountains of blood constantly gushed out from it, which from time to time also decorated the samurai with viscera, and from time to time enormous slimy worms emerged from the ground. Black color, eager to get rid of all that, the samurai dismembered all the monsters he saw without realizing that he was killing his own comrades. How funny, Akasuna was the only one who did not move from his place and did not. He had to do it. The puppets were poisoning his enemies and throwing him directly into the hands of the puppeteer, but the one who really felt like a king was Nagato with the power of gravity. Uzumaki was simply throwing enemies in all directions. The alliance was nothing more than toys for Nagato. It's so nice not to be tied to a wheelchair. Nagato's hands transformed into the semblance of a plasma cannon whose shot stunned anyone caught in the radius of the explosion. Chibaku Tensei. 3 small black spheres appeared in Uzumaki's hands a second later. The spheres rose into the air and began to attract everything towards them. More than 100 shobi died from this technique. They were the first to be attracted by the spheres and then crushed by the huge pieces. From Earth only a few lucky ones escaped with broken bones. I have already weakened this technique as much as possible, and so many potential slaves have died. I will have to do everything by hand. However, the remaining shinobi, they no longer fought with as much zeal as at the beginning. All they felt now was fear of their enemy. In just a couple of hours the people of the Empire had defeated the united army of shinobi. Without even killing most of them, the Empire had defeated the Alliance. The Fourth World War lasted only 3 hours, and we have a lot of work to do. Iden looked around the former alliance. All the surviving shobi and samurai were sleeping soundly now with blue-green mists in the shape of ovals, with gold letters on their interior floating above their heads. And approximately how many did we kill? Sujetsu took a sip of water. Maybe the second Mizukage's relative hadn't been especially involved in the war like Juice and Karen, but he had made his small contribution well. Sasori sighed, looking around the field of battle. We have killed about 5,000. Deidara prepares the bird. Naruto folded a seal in the shape of a cross. In a second several thousand blondes appeared. Sasuke, Karen, come with me. I will respond with joy. He and the Uzumaki jumping on the bird. The blonde turned to the others. We are going to finish off Kage's coward. Meanwhile, brainwash them later. We will have to brainwash all the civilians. Then you better take Nagato and me with you. Konan has left. Advance. Nagato can find the civilians and I conceal them all. Deidara looked at the blonde. Naruto just nodded. Half an hour later Nagato and Konan landed right in front of the main door. You can feel them hiding like rats in their houses. The Redeed looked at his companions, who were now a few meters above the founders of Akatsuki. Naruto. There are many chakra sources in the Ray Cage building, and all of them are at least Jonin level 58 to be exact, said Kareem, and 3 levels Cage. Well, Deidara, go to the Raj building. Yes, don't blow anything up, Uzumaki added. Yes. And if they are waiting for us. Sasuke was already clearly bored with having to restrain himself, so that changes the matter. Let's leave the Mizukage alone alive. Naruto smiled. We already have many puppies. Loyalists. The clay bird took only a couple of minutes to reach the main cloud building, but they were already waiting. The Raikage jumped out of the window, like a soul that carries the ready to blow the heads off of the intruders, but the bossless one never arrived at his target without retaining a wave of strongly compressed air was thrown back there. At that moment other shobi ran out of the main entrance and holding Mei flying through the window that Raikage had broken. Uzumaki smiled and jumped to the ground. Like this, you were waiting for us because you didn't all appear on the battlefield, you bastard, what have you done to my men? Arake immediately stood next to the Rubio, trying to rip off his head after mate guy for Naruto. It was as if the Raikage had not moved. Uzumaki took out his katana and sent fire chakra through it when Raikage was already a meter away from the blonde. Naruto made a thrust. Uzumaki cut off Raikage's arm while burning him with flames of several thousand degrees. But that did not stop the ruler of Kumo. Seemed like he hadn't realized, and with his free hand he tried to hit Naruto in the face, but the blonde managed to block the attack. Who gets information like that? Naruto smiled. You have no more people now, they are all mine. The Raikage could not take it anymore. She attacked at a dizzying speed, but Uzumaki calmly dodged all the attacks. Mifune decided to help his comrade, but he was not the only one. Sasuke blocked the blow. You should not forget about me. Either the Uchiha let a ray of chakra go through his sword and destroyed the favorite katana of leader samurai. Well, you shouldn't forget either, in fact, that we are bone. Mifune never had the chance to finish due to a series of explosions. Deidara was on the moon. He had finally had the chance to blow things But the bomber only had a few seconds of fun. Deidara barely had time to dodge the Tsuchikage's strongest technique. Oh man, long time no see. A boom. You haven't changed anything, you hide behind the strongest and attack from afar. Inoki wanted to piss off the blonde, but Deidara just said, snort old man, now I'm much stronger. Yes, today you are going to die, look at you, everyone has already died. Inoki created an Earth clone that began to try to catch the terrorist. Tsuchikage himself looked at Raikage's battlefield, only one burned head was left, and now the young emperor was burning calmly to the honing that were no more dangerous for Naruto than the mosquitoes. Sasuke for his part had already touched him Fune and activated the seal surrounding the Moreno. There was a dark purple Susan that he used to calmly kill the cloud. Honing the Mizukage pretended to attack Uzumaki, but it was only a deception, and my men alive and well. She blatantly lied. Naruto, well, the blonde had personally killed several shobi of the mist. I have fulfilled my part of the deal by touching the woman. Uzumaki activated the seal, adding another to the list of servants of the empire, arrogant brats, Inoki shouted, commanding the attention of Naruto and Sasuke. I will destroy you with a single blow. Hinton, molecular fission. Naruto and Sasuke saw the components of this technique thanks to the Dojutsu. Uchiha deactivated Susanoo and stood next to his friend. The Tsuchikage technique was already a couple of meters away from the three targets that were next to each other. Naruto just smiled satisfied and stretched his arm forward. The Tsuchikage's strongest technique. He couldn't do anything against the power of the Rinnegan to absorb ninjutsu, and that is a quite interesting technique. Naruto tried to combine the three elements. Thanks to Rinnegan it was no problem, and a second later there was a translucent and shiny cube between the hands of the surprised blonde. Old Uzumaki smiled around. Sasuke reappeared. Susanoo the blonde used his own technique against Inoki, and the brunette released a dark purple arrow lit by the flames of Amaterasu. Deidara attacked from behind. Having already dealt with the clone, there was an explosion. All that was left of the strongest shinobi of the stone was dust. It seemed to be the end. Sasuke cracked his neck. How are they going to get to the whirlpool? They won't be able to. We will build a huge wall. These towns, yes, parts of countries will be in the empire, and whirlpool will be the capital of the empire. The main city, answered Uzumaki. Come on, we still have Nagato and Konan to help us change everyone's memories. A month later, Naruto was sleeping peacefully in his room, and Nada was also sleeping next to him, leaning on his arm and blonde's leg, and everything would be nothing if the future husbands were not woken up by a suicidal leader. We have wonderful news. Deidara almost kicked the door open. Naruto jumped like a scald from the sudden awakening. Yinnat was less lucky. When Uzumaki jumped, he managed to knock the girl out of the bed, causing a bump. The bomber immediately realized that he wasn't going to hit Deidara's head. You're crazy. Naruto left the girl on the bed again, creating a piece of ice. In his hand he placed it on the brunette's forehead. Run little idiot, run little idiot. At that moment, Naruto was quickly putting on some loose black pants and a t-shirt of the same color. Actually, you are younger than me, younger not in age, but in intelligence. Run like Forrest Gump. Deidara didn't have to say it twice. In a second he was on his way. Naruto ran to catch up with the troublemaker. Stop, you bastard, I will kill you. In confirmation of his words, Uzumaki exhaled a column of flames. Deidara turned the corner and was saved from to be fried. Leader, you told me to run away. Yes, besides I want to live alone. You have loved life since you woke me up at 6 in the morning. The bomber barely had time to dodge the ice spikes. I admit I was stupid. Yes, it is that one arrived very important letter. That's why I thought of letting you know right away. Those words calmed the young emperor a little. Naruto stopped immediately. Deidara, when he saw that they were no longer chasing him, he also stopped running. Come here, he pointed out. What is the letter? With trembling legs Deidara approached the Uzumaki and he handed him the envelope. Naruto took a quick look at it. After thinking for a few seconds he read the letter again, only this time slowly assimilating each word. This letter arrived today. Yes, 5 minutes before millimeters. How did I wake you up? Yes. Deidara waited for him to decide his fate. Even so, the bomber had been seriously stupid to break down Uzumaki's door first thing in the morning. Okay, amnesty, live for now. But this Uzumaki pointed a finger at the blonde, because the news is really important. Prepare the bird and wait for me and I will do the main entrance. Yes. No matter how hard Deidara tried, he couldn't hide his smile. Where are you going, hubby? Hinata asked in her sleep for the last jinchuriki. Naruto put on his favorite black cloak and hung the katana on his good back. Good luck, dear, luck will be needed, but not for me, but for my victim. Kissing the brunette on the lips, the blonde headed for the exit. I will be back soon in a few hours, not far from the land of Iron. Leader, should have gone alone, although Eight Tails is not a group of nerds, right? You are using my powers. Deidara. Naruto released part of his chakra in the air. Trust me, Hachibi is not a threat to me, right? Now I will make quick work of him. I am sure you will, leader. My mistake. Yes. Both ancient Nukanen were lost in their musings. We have arrived. Yes. Deidara's voice brought him out of his musings. Naruto looked around the battlefield. Bare trees covered in snow. The place looked beautiful from above, except that the Uzumaki had never been interested in landscapes. When seeing his target, Naruto simply jumped down, glowing white in the process. As soon as the blonde landed, a wave of flames spread out over a couple dozen meters, instantly melting the entire area. Snow and destroying several trees in the process. Man, what's up? You could have hurt someone, man. Look that you have burned some beautiful trees. Green Pace is going to put a flasher on your ass and make you blink. I hope you're done with your chatter. Are you by? Naruto's mind conjured up the image of a bull with 8 tentacles instead of a tail. He didn't respond. Gaara covered his mouth with his hand. As I watched the scene. Screw the kitten, I shouldn't have said that. The bomber immediately flew as far away as possible. And you look immortal for saying that to the emperor of the world's face. A furious torrent of chakra immediately gushed out of Naruto. B was crushed against the floor due to such terrible pressure, however the pressure disappeared as suddenly as it had started. You are the last jinchuriki. I hope you are stronger than the Rahe brother. Ah, so the Kage is your brother. Naruto Serio. I killed him in a couple of seconds. It was incredibly pathetic. It reminded me of a rabid circus gorilla. B. He pulled out one of his swords, preparing for the fight, looking at the katana that was now hanging from the blonde's back. Utin vacuum blades. Naruto just moved his hand and a dozen blades translucent flew towards the last jinchuriki, dodging Wind's blade. The rapper quickly attacked the guy with his sword aimed at his neck, but Uzumaki instantly grabbed his katana and blocked the blow with a predatory smile. The young man emperor let the elements of fire and wind flow through the katana with a sharp blow. Naruto not only melted the blades, but also left light burns and superficial wounds on his opponent. Nah, you are weak, Naruto exhaled as he covered his natal eye, looking to his opponent only with his Rinnegan pity. I expected my last victim to be much stronger. I saw he did not respond anything. He only through several kunai impregnated with lightning chakra. Uzumaki I saw appear around. I saw a blood-red cover with 3 tails without reteni. The shockwave of 20 met in diameter not only calmly repelled the kunai, but also threw the last jinchuriki into the air, breaking several bones in the process. You're not so bad for being so young, said the killer bee in his own way. Diving himself realized that I was in a difficult position. You are not bad, you are a miserable peasant, but you have a lot of courage. However, I did not pay any attention to this statement. I said that you are not bad, but you and I are like the sky and the snake, said B without letting go. The smile, although in his mind he realized that the blonde had not even begun to fight with a quarter of his strength now. Look, I'm going to show you one of my coronations. Vi's skin began to peel off. The next moment, a wave of chakra spread from the brother of the Raikage that could have scared the Jonin, but certainly not Akatsuki, and their leader, now a red humanoid creature with 6 tails, was in front of the blonde. The creature ran towards the blonde, raising its hand to hit a bull skull forming in his fist. Naruto calmly dodged the attack as he began to absorb his opponent's chakra. Just a couple of seconds, and B he had already lost his vacuum press coverage. A wave of strongly compressed air hit the last free man right in the head, throwing it into the air. But Naruto was not going to finish hitting the infant. Using the power of the Rinnegan, the Uzumaki began to throw Ab from one side to the other, as if it were a rag doll. The blonde hit the jinchuriki against the ground, against trees, and against rocks. Are you ready to give up? I promise you that your death will be quick and painless. Very good, thug, you have had enough. Small balls of chakra began to bloom on the man's arm that quickly began to cover his entire body. A moment later there was a release of chakra before the blonde was Chibi in all its splendor. Wow, that's Brad. It's your time to die. Take a Bijudama from us, said the Biju. You are a terrible rhyme writer. However, V wasn't listening to Chibi. He opened his mouth wide. Blue and red bubbles began to gather in Biju's mouth, forming a huge ball. The black one died. Biju's strongest technique, which was now as big as the last Biju. Molecular excision. The two techniques collided. There was an explosion. Half the empire must have gone. That was. All chains sprouted from the blonde's body and instantly tied the last Biju. It's nothing personal, Naruto thought for a moment. No, it's nothing personal, it's personal. I hate the tailed scum. Naruto touched Gi, the last Biju's chakra began to flow powerfully in the blonde's body. A few seconds later everything had ended. On the ground the last jinchuriki lay, but Naruto was, of course he wasn't laughing. Uzumaki grabbed his right eye, which was now stinging unbearably. I feel like a needle had been stuck in me, red hot in the eye. Leader, you're fine. Deidara helped Uzumaki up, supporting Naruto. The bomber helped him up. The bird, thank you. The young emperor turned to look at the blonde. Hey leader, you have 2 Rinnegans when he removed the other eye. Nagato, what are you talking about? Deidara silently took out a small piece of glass and handed it to Naruto. Uzumaki was stunned. Both of his eyes were now purple, instead of a pupil, a small dot with circles coming out, concentrics that look like waves on the water. I'll be honest, I didn't expect it. The blonde returned the mirror to its rightful owner. Very well, let's go home, we'll deal with this later. Yes sir. Epilogue. That was it. Naruto leaned back in his chair, finishing his story. Minato, however, was not satisfied. That's not true. You haven't told everything. What haven't I told? The blonde looked surprised at his son. You said you had 2 Rinngans, one of which you took from Nagato, because now both eyes are blue. I returned Nagato's eye and took mine. Sasuke doesn't always have his Rinnegan activated either. I can also activate my Rinnegan whenever I want. Okay. Minato crossed his arms over his chest. Yujiro, when you met him 8 years ago, he answered calmly. Uzumaki, father, and in what circumstances and why exactly he became one of your assistants. Naruto was about to respond but was interrupted. Iden also once told me about World War V. And what about that? Naruto rubbed his chin. You're right, I skipped all that. Looking at his watch, Uzumaki realized that Hinata would kill him if he told another story now, but that's another story. How about I tell it to you next time? But the youngest Uzumaki wasn't happy about it. You don't want mom to get mad at us, right? Of all anyway, it's already past your bedtime. Okay, the youngest Uzumaki had no choice but to go to his room. As soon as the footsteps faded, Naruto looked towards the farthest corner of the room. Later, because it warmed your ears, you also wanted a bedtime story. Uzumaki smiled. Why was there so much fuss? If at least someone had given me a glass of hot milk, said a slightly hoarse voice. A wave ran through the air. After a few seconds the interlocutor became visible as he was in the shadows. It was impossible to see him. The ancient man, invisible, handed him a glass of milk. You have a lot of courage. Sojiro. Uzumaki took the glass from his hand with blue claws. After a couple of seconds he returned the already hot milk to its rightful owner. It bothers me a lot that there hasn't been a word about me in the story. He took a sip, but I will have an important role in the next story. I wouldn't say that Naruto used the power of the Rinnegan ring to attract the juice jug and the glass to him. You don't appear much there either, but despite everything he took another sip. I'm still playing an important paper, that's for sure. It wouldn't have been the Fifth World War without you. Yes, very well, I'm going to bed. Good night. The lover of hot milk disappeared as if he had never been here. Yes, good night, Sojiro, said Naruto into the void. And this is end of this video. See you all in my next video.